Okay, we're live, and I had to rearrange the way I was sitting. Standing for like an hour was starting to cause my shoulder to really. I mean, clearly, I don't have a health insurance, but either I'm actually really lucky that it's not that bad for me to have to go to the doctor. I have flexibility. I can move. I'm fine. I just need to recover. In fact, I'll become even stronger.
You, just you, building your app on base 44.
Like I said, the dilemma is only in the screws of those heads of the people making this argument and speaking so confidently, boosting so confidently, because they're talking to an audience who doesn't know anything about the Quran and Hadith.
Then why don't you come talk to us then? Why don't you, since we're just talking to our audience who's just gonna just take what we say, why don't you come talk to us then? Why don't you step up to the plate and come talk to us about the Islamic dilemma and come prove that there really is an Islamic dilemma? You come do it. Come talk to us, Lantern. Come do it in front of our audience so that our audience can see that there is no real Islamic dilemma. There are no real arguments, that you have the abundance of answers to this. Come do it.
We're waiting. So what I was thinking about what we could do today is because Muslim Lantern is terrified to debate you, why don't we just do what we could possibly do with what he has?
Yeah.
You debate with a video with him.
Oh, yeah.
And that way we can sort of see what the debate between you and Muslim Lantern would be, because he wants to debate randos that have no following. He won't debate Fearless Truth because he doesn't have enough following. He won't debate you because you already have your own following. So maybe we'll just see if we can do a debate moment between you and him today, and hope maybe something will happen here. So I found an interesting video of him. This is him talking to some Christian. Good time for you to interact with Muslim Lantern, because he won't interact with you directly in a formal debate or anything like that. Let's see what he can do here.
And just one last question for you. So you probably online in the Christian online community, the big thing is the what you call the Muslim dilemma. Don't quote me, it's Son of 5:7, where it says those of the gospel judged by what's been revealed to you. So from a Christian point of view, is saying that when that was written in the 7th century, he's saying that at that point you've still got the gospel in full intact, and it's not been edited or anything changing it, because it's still good in the 7th century. But obviously we do have a full gospel from the 4th century, which is 300 years difference. I've heard a lot of people try to respond to this, and I'm not.
So that's a great point he's bringing up there. I mean, again, not doesn't know much about how to do this, but I mean, like when they say the Bible's been corrupted, it doesn't work, because we have manuscripts that predate Islam, Codex Vaticanus, Codex Sinaiticus, Codex Alexandrinus, or however you say that one, even earlier fragments. So it's like, but the Quran over and over again confirms what is with us. I'm here to confirm what is with you, what is with you, what is between your hands. You can find Muhammad in your Torah and Gospel. What is with you over and over again. Surah 241, 447. Okay, Codex Sinaiticus shows what the Christians had by the 7th century. Long before that was our Bible. So that's what the Quran is confirming. You can't claim it was corrupted after the time of Muhammad. It doesn't work.
Really heard anything where I thought, yeah, you've answered that at all.
There's no such thing as Muslim dilemma in reality. Now, this verse of the Quran is a refutation to that. This is what you do, just read the next verse. It's chapter 4 of the Quran. You just read chapter 5.
You meant chapter 5.
46, 47, 48. Then we reveal to you, O Prophet Muhammad, the Quran. So Allah now is talking about historical progression. Open any Western exegesis. They tell you, Allah first talks about, we reveal the Torah. So Allah first talks about the Torah, revealed to Moses, and all the people to judge with the Torah, meaning at the time of Moses. Then Allah said, we send Jesus, and we give them the people to judge, meaning at the time of Jesus with Injil. Then the next verse says,
all right, so let's go back here a little bit. So he says that Surah 546 is we sent following the footsteps of Jesus, son of Mary, confirming that which came before him in the Torah. We gave him the gospel, which was guidance and light, confirming that which preceded it of the Torah as guidance and instruction for righteousness. So far, so good.
So far, so good. Yeah, I mean, he's just reading. I like that.
Good. We like to read.
I like to read.
Jesus with Injil. Then the next verse says, and we reveal to you, O Prophet Muhammad, the Quran, the revelation progression.
Now, why did he skip verse 47?
That's a good question. I thought he was just gonna go ahead and read verse 47. Like, let the people of the gospel judge by what Allah has revealed in it, right? And whoever doesn't, they're the wrongdoers, right?
It's weird he didn't want to actually mention the important verse that shows it's for the Christians of the day. It wasn't just for the Christians of the time of Jesus.
Right.
It's kind of weird. He just wanted to skip over that one, hoping I guess no one would notice on that.
One prophet after the other. Then Allah says to judge between them, i.e. who? The people of the book. Judge between them with the Quran, and do not listen to their desires.
Right.
And judge between them with the Quran. This dilemma, like I said, is only in the screws in their heads when they're making this argument. Because when you read the next verse, they just self-refute themselves and shoot themselves in the foot.
All right, so that's what he said on that. What is your response to that? If this was his opening statement on a debate on the Islamic dilemma, how would you deal with that powerful dawah argument?
Yeah, so he went to a verse that literally confirmed the Islamic dilemma, because it literally says that the Quran came down in truth confirming confirming the scriptures that came before it. And it's a guardian, a protector, a witness to them. So judge between them, the people, as he's right, judge between the people using the Quran, basically what is lawful for them and what is unlawful for them from the past. But none of that gets rid of that confirms the dilemma. It proves the dilemma. So I'm a little confused on that. He went to a verse that actually is one of the verses we use to help with the Islamic dilemma. How the Quran confirms our scriptures. Yeah, so it sounds like he's confused on when it says judge between them, and he even said the people of the book, not the books themselves. The Quran's not used to judge the books; it's just the people. So again, I'm lost on this one.
Yeah, and of course, one of the reasons we go to this is confirming that which preceded before it. Now they always go to this word criterion, which they translate. It's actually the word muhaymin, which means a protector or a guardian over it. The Arabic word for criterion would be furqan.
You can show it. You can actually put scroll up to Arabic. Scroll up to Arabic a little bit. Yep. Highlight on your
Confirming what was. And I was like, oh, look at that. Wow.
Boom, boom.
They know it's in the Arabic. That's what it means. But when they go to the English down here, it's criterion, guys. It's okay.
You see how they lie? The word for criterion, as IP was saying, is furqan, which it also says about the Torah. The Torah is al-furqan that Allah has given to Moses and Aaron. So
yeah. And what this verse is basically saying is that the Quran is a protector over the prior scriptures. How is it? It protects those scriptures by preventing Jews and Christians from not using them. So it's pointing you, us Jews and Christians, back to our scriptures. You can't go elsewhere. You have to use your scriptures. That's what you are to use. That's how the Quran protects them from being twisted with the tongues or not being used properly. That's what the Quran is saying. It is not saying that it needs to correct the prior scriptures.
Exactly.
It does not work. So let's see what else he's got to say here.
Okay, thank you. Again, that was one of the best responses I've seen. However,
One of the best responses he's seen, by the way.
Tough.
Well, I mean, he doesn't know. He's ignorant on this kind of stuff. It's very honest of him to admit.
is twofold. One, at any point in the Quran, does it warn you that the gospel has been manipulated at all? As at the time in the 7th century, there was Christian kings all over who was believing in the Trinity. We've still got carbon dated documents confirming what we believe in the Trinity from before that time. Again, I'm asking because I don't know, is there anywhere that warns that it has been edited?
Okay, now first, you said the Trinity. Do you realize the Trinity is not in the Bible? In other words, the concept of the Trinity. So when you try to talk about the corruption of the Bible and then say some people believe in the Trinity, that is irrelevant because the Bible doesn't talk about the Trinity.
Doesn't talk about the Trinity.
Oh, I guess baptized in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit isn't talking about the Trinity. Huh?
No, I guess not. No, not at all. No.
It sounds when he talks about that Jesus is going to send the Spirit of truth from the Father because he proceeds from the Father. That's Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. That's not dealing with the Trinity. Huh?
Nope, I guess not. No, I mean, like, yeah, it's oh man, there's so many different places. I'm just trying to think where could we go to just show what's going on here. So I'll just go to John 14. This is the farewell discourse. So believe in God. So
Oh yeah, John 14.
believe also me. In my Father's house are many rooms. Does anyone dispute that the Father is God?
I don't. No, okay. Well, you see?
So it says, if it were not so, what I told you that I go to prepare a place for you. If I go and prepare a place for you, I will again will take you myself, that where I am, you may be also, and you know the way to where I'm going. Thomas said to him, Lord, we do not know where you are going. How can we know? Jesus said to him, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me. If you would know me, you would have known my Father also. And of course, he goes on to say down here, says, if you have seen me, you have seen the Father. So, so Jesus is placing himself on par. You've seen the Father.
Not just that, what Jesus says in verse 6, those are attributes that Allah ascribes to himself. In chapter 22, verse 6 of the Quran, Allah claims to be the truth and the resurrecting of life. And so notice what Jesus says, I'm the truth, I'm the way, I'm the life. Now, even according to the Quran standards, Jesus is claiming to be God.
Yep, and notice now that's two. Notice he now brings up another one. He comes down and starts talking about sending the Holy Spirit. And I will ask the Father, and he will give you another helper to be with you forever, even the Spirit of truth, whom the world cannot receive, because it neither sees him nor knows it. You know him, for he dwells with you and will be in you. Now that doesn't sound like a future prophet.
It doesn't sound like a human at all.
No, it sounds kind of like a deity.
Yeah.
Sounds like a divinity.
Yeah.
Sounds like God.
Now go to verse 23, watch this.
Yep. Jesus answered him, if anyone loves me, he will keep my word, and my Father will love him, and we will come to him and make our home with him.
Boom.
Now look at all this together. Jesus said above that if you've seen me, you've seen the Father. They're basically the same. It's like seeing God. Okay? But he says he's going to send the Holy Spirit. But it's the same as if Jesus is coming to you. I will not leave you orphans, I will come to you. And the Father and him will come and make our home in him. So this is the Trinity right here. Okay? You have three distinctions here. Okay? Father, Son, and Spirit. They're distinct. Jesus is obviously talking about them as distinct, but they all act as one. It's like they're all of the same essence. What one does, the other does as well. Where is the doctrine of the Trinity? I always go to John 14-16. It's right there being taught.
Yeah, that's pretty dope.
Pretty awesome. Yeah. Once again, we have been lied to by the devil guys.
Once again. You see?
Always have.
Yeah, pretty much used to it now.
So the Trinity they believe in was a proof of corruption, actually, because they believe in a doctrine that's not in their own book. So
wait. This told John, this verse, like throughout this was added in later. For there are three that bear record in heaven, the Father, the Word, and the Holy Spirit, and these three are one. That doesn't necessarily get you the Trinity. That could be modalism. So that could be partialism. That could even be Arianism. It doesn't tell you about the ontology. You go to John 14-16, you get away from that. It's got to be Trinitarianism because you're getting that theology taught to you. One quick little verse is going to do that.
Yeah.
Welcome to the GED Academy. My name is Leonard, and I'm going to be your personal teacher. My job is...
So now when it comes to the Quran, does the Quran say? The Quran says in multiple places. Not only that, the Prophet explicitly tells us in hadith. Abdullah ibn Abbas explicitly tells us in hadith. We don't rely on the Quran, right? Some people try to game this.
What's he saying, man?
Narrator Ibn Abbas said, how can you ask the people of the scriptures about their books while you have Allah's book, which is the most recent of the books revealed by Allah, and you read it in your understood for? Now, the brother just asked him, does the Quran say anything clearly about the Injil being about the gospel being about? Where does he go? To Ibn Abbas?
Yep.
To Ibn Abbas, who, if we're going to be real, I guess, contradicts himself in another Bukhari hadith.
Yep.
Now, let's do this really quick, okay? Let's show the Ibn Abbas quote. We're going to show the Ibn Abbas quote. This is why he won't talk to us, ladies and gentlemen. Who distort the book with their tongues means they alter them. Watch what they their quotes. Al-Bukhari reported. So, yeah, hadith of Bukhari, quoting from Ibn Abbas, right? Saying that the scriptures they distorted the scriptures, don't ask them anything, right? Watch what he says. Another Bukhari report that Ibn Abbas said that the ayah means they alter and add, although none among Allah's creation can remove the words of Allah from his books. What? So I guess Ibn Abbas is contradicting himself then, right?
I guess so.
Or how about this, IP? How about we be charitable to Ibn Abbas?
Right.
Let's harmonize. Let's put two and two together.
Like
Because he continues and says, they alter and distort their apparent meanings.
Oh, okay.
So maybe when Ibn Abbas in the other hadith says, why do you ask them about anything about the book when you have the Quran undistorted while they've distorted their scriptures and wrote a book with their own hands? What Ibn Abbas means by distort means that they alter and distort their apparent meanings, not the actual text of the scripture, because he just said none can remove any words from Allah's books. So that works together. So it's either that's what Ibn Abbas is saying, or he's contradicting himself, which I guess if y'all want to do that, y'all want to do that to the Inca Ummah, go ahead and do that. But I'm gonna try to save Ibn Abbas here, right? So this is what we have when we actually look at their sources. Now, let's go ahead and put back up on the screen. Yeah. So okay. So you guys see, he has Ibn Abbas said, how can you ask the people of the scriptures about their books while you have Allah's book? So Ibn Abbas is discouraging them from asking the people of the book, right? He's saying, no, don't do it. You got the Quran. You don't need to ask them anything.
Right.
That's what Ibn Abbas says. Now, what does Allah say though? What does Allah say about asking the people of the book, right?
So if you are in doubt about that which we revealed to you, then ask those who have been reading the scripture before
Wait,
you.
do what?
Ask those who have been reading the scripture before you.
Wait, Ibn Abbas said, don't ask them.
No.
Don't ask the people of the book about their scriptures. Don't ask them nothing. But Allah says, if you doubt what the Quran is saying, go and ask them. That's tough, Ibn Abbas.
Yeah.
That's tough. Hey, which team you want? Ibn Abbas or Allah, man? Which team you want, Mike? Come on, man. You better pick the right team.
Gotta go with Allah.
Gotta go with Allah. Team Allah, baby.
Mhm.
Team Allah.
That's what we're dealing with, folks. That's what we're dealing with.
This is why these cowards won't debate us, ladies and gents.
Yep, this is why. They know that we can throw this stuff at them. And by the way, in other places, John Daly pointed out what Ibn Abbas is talking about is they stored with their tongues. And there are other hadith they try to bring up from Ibn Abbas that are not translated, where Ibn Abbas is saying like they distorted their books. But if you look at the Arabic, Jai pointed out, John DOC, they point out it actually means they substituted the book of Allah.
Mhm.
So there's another hadith they try from Ibn Abbas. It does not work.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, we've got sources of revelation, the Quran and Hadith. We believe in both of them. We take them as sources of revelation. But the Quran is explicit. You open the Quran, you read chapter 2 of the Quran, verse 75. Allah says, do you wish to believe in them? And a group of them were changing the scripture. They were
No, it doesn't. It does not say that. You liar. It does not say in chapter 2, verse 75 that they were changing the scripture.
Did you say 285?
275.
Oh, I thought
275.
275.
Yeah, where it says that a party of them distort after hear the word of Allah and then distort it after knowing it. So they hear the word and then distort it. How? How do they distort it? And it's talking about the Jews, ladies and gents.
Yeah. Do you covet that they would believe for you while a party of them used to hear the words of Allah and then distort it, i.e. the Torah, which they had in that part, after they had understood it while they were knowing?
So remember what the brother's question was. His question was, is there a verse in the Quran that clearly states that the gospel has been corrupted? And Muslim Lantern said, yes, the Quran is explicit. It's very clear that the gospel has been corrupted. Number one, he goes to a verse that has nothing to do with the gospel, ladies and gentlemen. Nothing to do with it, but has to do with Jews, and not even all of them, some of them. Watch what it says. It says, a party of them used to hear the words of Allah and then distort it. Not all of them. And then how would they distort it? Are they distorting verbally? Are they distorting textually? It doesn't tell you. It just says they're distorting it after hearing the word. It seems like to me that they're lying on what they just heard.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is not. And guys, remember, 10 verses later, you have 1085 or 285. Excuse me. 285 is very important because Allah then tells the Jews their book.
Nah, he wouldn't do that.
So you believe in part of the scripture, disbelieve in part? Stop it. Yeah. So why would he say they corrupted the scriptures and then just have amnesia and then 10 verses later say, yeah, you should be believing all of those corrupted scriptures that you have? It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
This is Muslim Lantern.
Muslim Lantern, dim lantern.
and a group of them were changing the scripture. They were deviating the words of Allah after they heard it. You go to 79, it says,
You didn't put the verse on the screen there.
Nope, he's a liar.
You want to put the reference up there.
right, the words of
And
Allah.
look, he puts the reference up there. So you go back to 275, no reference. 279, this is the one they always run to. This is the one they run to.
Words of Allah with their own hands and say it's from God. So they can sell it for a mere price.
All right, so that's their favorite one. This is the one, as we point out, is the only one you can kind of go to where it's remotely referring to people writing something down. But is this referring to the Torah?
Nope. It's referring to fake books that some of them are writing themselves and substituting for the Torah. They're raising these books above the actual Torah. So it has nothing to do with the Torah, but them trying to mimic the revelation of God, writing fake things, claiming that it's from God in Revelation, like the Talmud, for example. So yeah, it has nothing to do with the actual scriptures.
You know why we know that, though?
Why do we know that?
Because if we just go to it. It gives you the context about reading in context. So again, what do those who write the scripture with their own hands and say this is from Allah in order to exchange it for a small price? Then it says right after this, and they never will the fire touch us except for a few numbered days. This is paraphrasing something found in the Talmud. It's in Rosh Hashanah 17a 3.
This is the next verse. Now I learned something new here, y'all. This is crazy.
This is Rosh Hashanah 17a section 3.
Wow.
Yeah, it's talking about that the Jews are talking about how that if they're rebellious, they will be sent to the fire, but they'll eventually be annihilated. So they'll only be in there for like 12 months. And the Quran is responding by going, no, that's not true. No, you'll be in there forever. You won't just be temporarily suffering.
Wow.
It's gonna be, so what is 279 talking about? It's talking about the Talmud.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah, so anyone bring 279, like read 280. What's 280 referring to? Rosh Hashanah 17a section 3.
But sell it for a mere price. Like basically, like, he gives so many evidences and narrations and hadith. The dilemma is only in the screw
Give us so many, but you're just not going to just so many.
it's abundant of verses.
of those heads of the people.
No,
argument,
but
and speaking so confidently, boosting so confidently because they're talking to their audience who doesn't know anything about the Quran.
Then why don't you come
But
to
surely
us?
that's pointing to dominant religion.
Then why don't you come talk to us then? Why don't you, since we're just talking to our audience who's just going to just take what we say, why don't you come talk to us then? Why don't you step up to the plate and come talk to us about the Islamic dilemma and come prove that there really is no Islamic dilemma? You come do it. Come talk to us, Lantern. Come do it in front of our audience so that our audience can see that there is no real Islamic dilemma. There are no real arguments, that you have the abundance of answers to this. Come do it.
We're waiting. Just let us know. When can we set up a formal debate? Neutral platform. We will do it anytime. Logic or myself. If Logic knows more about Islam than I do. So if you're scared to debate him, you debate me. Because I know a little less. So maybe that'd be better.
And hadith.
But surely that point is the dominant religion in the world is Christianity, and who's all believing in the Trinity. Yeah, surely that'd be the first warning from God. Like, no, look, you've got this wrong.
Dominant religion according to who had the Chinese Empire, you had the Persian Empire, you had different empires. Regardless of that,
But the people of the Chinese Empire were interacting with Muhammad al Medina. They were over there in the Chinese Empire. That's what Allah was really talking to.
I don't wait, I don't understand. I'm a little slow. So Luke is saying that this is like the dominant belief within Christianity is the Trinity and all that kind of stuff. And why wouldn't he just say that that's false or something, right? And he has what people?
And then
what's his point exactly?
Muslim, like, there's people in China that didn't believe in the Trinity. Allah's not you.
Come on.
What?
Dominant religion in the world is Christianity, and who's all believing in the Trinity. Yeah, surely that'd be the first warning from God. Like, no, look, you've got this wrong.
dominant religion
Good point.
according to who had the Chinese Empire, you had the Persian Empire, you had different empires. Regardless of that,
Doesn't even address the point. There's other people that believe differently. So
Nice.
whether it was the dominant or wasn't the dominant, you said surely God should have given us a warning. God has given us a warning. Allah says in the Quran, "Oh Christians, do not go into extreme in your religion. Do not say 3."
yeah, let's go back to that.
Go. He said something about the dominant religion. Who says it's the dominant religion, right?
Mhm.
You know where I'm going.
Where? Give me a reference.
Dominant religion, man. Go to chapter 61, verse 14. Man. Come on, man. Are we serious? What is the dominant religion? Who says? Allah said it.
Mhm.
Who says that Christianity is the dominant religion? Allah did. Who did? Allah did.
Here it is. Oh, you who have believed, be supporters of Allah. As when Jesus, the son of Mary, said to the disciples, who are my supporters for Allah? The disciples said, we are the supporters of Allah. And a faction of the children of Israel believed, and a faction disbelieved. We supported those who believed against their enemy, and they became
Dominant. Who said it? Allah said it, bro. What do you mean? What do you mean who said it? This is why these cowards won't, let me call him out specifically. This coward will never, ever speak to us. He won't do it because we'll catch him on everything he says, and we'll be using his Quran to do it. We'll be using his Quran to cut his tongue out. All this stuff that he says. What do you mean who says? Allah says that the religion, the message that the disciples of Jesus were spreading is the dominant religion, is the dominant message. It's in your book. But you count on people not to know that, huh?
We just read it. We just read. We just read. What if I told you for just $1 down, or better yet, no?
Today, we're going to be hanging out in a place I used to call home, a shop I've worked at for almost a decade. And we're going to build a machine from scratch using old techniques and old ideas that most young tattooers have no clue about anymore. Then we're going to get a tattoo with that machine. This is Sam Phillips. We're at American Tattoo right outside of San Diego, California. How long have you been?
About 15 years.
Damn. How shitty were your first ones?
Some of them I still use, like actually tattoo with on a regular basis.
Really?
Yeah, I use more than any other ones that I use. Just kind of luck of the draw, stuff I really liked back then.
Yeah, it's still stuff you like now.
Yeah.
You were always into it, huh?
I was starting tattooing. Micah was working at a shop down the street. Micah was kind of the local machine master. Yeah. So we all would go see Micah and we'd bring frames and stuff like that up to him, and then he would give us advice on, oh, I'd drill a hole in it right here and try this.
Come up here, please, now. Come here.
Christopher Walken.
He wasn't in that at all.
Look, you must tell me.
You have to be quiet.
When am I getting some? Okay.
Look, you know, don't actually touch me. You got germs. Just grab onto this thing.
Okay.
Ooh, French maid. You didn't expect me home from the whipped cream store so soon, where's your lady friend? Hey, don't open to someone in here. I'm wrapping presents. What did she say? What was I doing? Was she hot?
I'm not a little bit of discussing.
Because you don't know, do you?
Oh, I know. And that's sexy.
I'll buy that, as long as everybody else finally knows I got it going on. So I gotta go in your room now. I'm gonna be in there a long time, and I'm not to be disturbed.
Hey, watch this here.
Wait, don't open here. I'm wrapping presents.
I know what you're doing in there. Now I'm telling Frylock.
He knows. He has the gift. But he's about to lie to you.
Oh, please. We all know what you do in there, Shake. You do it about 5 to 6 times a day.
And what exactly is it that you think I do?
I think you read Butt Frenzy.
No, I don't. But how do you know? You have the gift. I'm surrounded by shiners. Come on.
Where we going?
To exploit him. Okay, I need the numbers for the Jersey Midnight Fantasy Pick 7. So latch on.
No, don't hit me.
I'll wail on you all I like. How's it taste, mother?
Okay, that was more the future of the back scratcher and not really you, so
Really?
let's just take this and break it into a bunch of pieces.
Are you sure?
And let me put your hand.
I don't know.
I'll be as gentle as a lamb.
Fine, but I'm against
It works out with weights.
Wow!
1, 2,
My fingers, damn it!
1,
Ow, God.
3, 4.
Come on, this hurts!
K5.
K5?
Yes, K5. 6. Hey, how you doing?
Who are you talking to? Come on, I just need one more.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, the last one, sir.
Right. All right. That's what I was going to put before I talk to you. Just so we're clear here on the distribution of funds.
Well, gee, that's interesting. The exact numbers in your Learn to Count Numbers book.
You're right. That is very interesting.
Yeah.
What are you saying? That he's not right? Well, how do you explain the trash stinking?
Well, I guess I can't.
Or need I remind you of the milk incident?
I'll tell you this much right now.
Bunch of Claude adoption across the org at DoorDash. There's an engineer who did a massive code migration that would have historically taken like 4 engineers over a quarter to do. One person did it in 3 weeks.
He yanked out right now.
You were the one who picked the different numbers.
Because you said that he would, with the, you're the brains that's coming out.
Behold, it is I. I bestow upon you my dirty diaper. But there is another. Who among you shall embark upon such a quest? To, peel it off the ceiling. It's stuck up there.
Shut up. You're not Yoda.
Yes, I foresaw that you would say that. But give forth to me your fire, Red One, and secrets told shall be.
Oh, you think you can see the future, huh? Let's dance.
Don't leave the house! Do not leave the house!
You heard the man. Hey, where do you think you're going?
I'm leaving the house because ain't nothing gonna happen to me.
Well, so are we. And guess what? He knew.
Yep, I'm pretty amazing.
That dog blew up again.
Hey, Karlak, what's up?
Hey, I thought we decided not to call me that.
I wouldn't normally, to your face. But I'm feeling lucky. How much you got in your wallet?
No,
And what would you say if I
no.
told you I could triple
And
it?
I would say that I've heard this before.
What, the oil stain?
Yeah, the oil stain.
Tell me that does not totally look like Jesus. And people would have paid to see it if it's with the South, Carl.
Yeah, well, the sign and the poles cost money, Shake. And I still got about 1,000 of these in my living room. We're hoping they ascend into heaven, because no one's buying them.
But how about in planes?
They don't fit planes neither.
They should. We designed them.
Oh, man. You are getting me so angry.
Look, let's forget that, okay? I've got something. There's science behind this. And legend. And hey, get over.
Hey,
Oh, well, show them the damn future. Hurry up.
prepare to see what cannot be seen. Wait. Hang on. Shoot.
What's the problem? Do we have a
Hey, let
problem?
me see your other hand.
No,
Okay.
What's happening?
What the hell?
What's it doing?
it's pissing me off.
No, it's about to. Just chill out.
Well,
He's
kick
just
it in.
Warning about. Uh-oh. Yeah, I guess I wasn't supposed to be watching. So what am I supposed to do? Let's watch this instead.
Where collarbones crack.
Don't look like mountains to me. In fact, hold on a minute. It's going to take a whole hour and probably a little bit more to do this. I want to hear what your questions are, but I can't do it from here. So we're going to shut down the meeting, and then I'm going to come back out here in the front. And if any of you have questions you want to throw at me, please do. But before I do want to introduce some books that my good friend George Seg, who's in the back. When you go to the foyer, please look at this book. This is the book that really confronts the Quran. It's put by Abdullah Abd al-Fadi. The one that I'm going to be talking about is this book. That's going to be on later on in the talk today. This is the number that has really shut down the manuscripts of the Quran. I'll be talking about some of the Muslim objections, but this is by Claire Tito. This has been around for 100 years, and I don't know why I'm supposed to flog this, because this is me going through the British Museum, looking at the Bible as the alternative to the Quran. But this is a video, a DVD that helps you with that. So let's get right into the historical critique of Islam. A quick overview, emphasis on quick. So let's head on. What am I going to do? I'm going to look at 4 areas. I'm going to look at the problem with the sources. Then I'm going to hit Mecca from there to Muhammad, and then from there to the Quran. We're going to end with the Quran because it's by far the most damaging material. Much of what I'm going to be introducing tonight, most of you have never seen before. And if you have, well, great, God bless you, because then you probably understand a little bit. But most of you, this will be new. What are the claims that the Muslims make concerning the standard Islamic narrative, S-I-N? Isn't that great, Sin? We're going to shut down Sin tonight. The standard Islamic narrative are their traditions. This is what every Muslim needs to know. Though every Muslim, whether they are radical or nominal or liberal, how they walk, talk, eat, drink, sleep is dependent on those traditions, on the standard Islamic narrative. Now, they all believe, every Muslim believe that Muhammad was the last and greatest prophet, born in Mecca in 570, died in Medina in 632, modeled Islam as a paradigm for the whole world, and received the Quran as his final revelation. Therefore, the Quran is his revelation, sent down between 610 and 632. It is the greatest, the only perfectly preserved revelation according to Islam, the final revelation, and it corrects everything that has gone before. Therefore, Islam, naturally, they would say, is their final religion based on Muhammad's life and saying, that's the Sunnah, and on the Quran's teachings. Conclusion? Well, obviously, they're dependent on three things: the book, the man, the place. And that's what we're going to confront tonight: the book, the man, the place. The book, the Quran, the man, Muhammad, and the place, Mecca. Since all three are foundational to Islam, without one of them, the others two fall. We should investigate all three. We're going to do that tonight. But in the 7th century, and in the central part of Arabia, the Hijaz, where Mecca and Medina are placed, to do that, we need to start with the sources. Where are we going to go? Where did all these stories come from? Everything we know about Muhammad, everything we know about Mecca, everything we know about the book itself has to come from a source. Now, let's go and look at that source, because this will underline why there's a problem with everything else tonight. Now, to be that, I want you to look at this map. Here's a map of the Middle East, of Arabia. According to the standard Islamic narrative, Muhammad's empire encompassed that brown area. So look at the brown area. That's what existed in Islam up until 632 when he died. Then what they tell us is the Rashidun period came into existence. That's Abu Bakr, Umar, Uthman, and Ali, the next four caliphs. They encompass that orange area. So there's the expansion moving out. And then you have the Umayyad dynasty, which is the first middle big caliphate. According to them, that's the purple area. I don't care too much about the purple area tonight. I want to look at the brown and the orange area. Okay? That's go from Tripoli in the west all the way to Afghanistan in the east, from Turkey in the north down to Yemen in the south. Bear with me, let's go to it. Now here's what they say. This is their narrative. This is not my narrative. They say that Muhammad was born in 570. The Quran was revealed beginning in 610. He then moves up, goes up from Mecca all the way up to Jerusalem, goes up to the 7 heavens, meets Allah, comes down, meets Moses, and finds out that he's to pray 50 times. Moses says, get it down. So he bounces back and forth between the 7th and the 5th heaven and gets 50 down to 30, down to 20, down to 10, down to 5 prayer. So that happens in 621. He then moves out of Mecca, moves up to Medina in 622. He comes and takes over Mecca and Mecca in 630. Oh my goodness! So that's the life of Muhammad according to their traditions. Once he dies, Abu Bakr takes over for 2 years. He dies peacefully. And then comes Umar, who takes over for 10 years. He does not die peacefully. He is killed. And then, of course, Uthman takes over, and he lasts for about 12 years before he is killed. But while he is there as the caliph, the Quran is finalized. So the Quran, the book we're going to look at tonight, was created. This book that I have in my hands right here is from Uthman. That's what every Muslim will tell you. And then when he is killed, Ali takes over, and he only lasts about 5 years before he by Muawiyah. So conclusion, Islam was fully formed in the Hijaz by 661. That's what they say. Do you all believe that? We'll say yes for now, okay? In about an hour, you can say no. But for now, let's just say yes. Go with me. Now, here's the question. Everything I just told you, how in the world and where do you get it from? Well, you would hope that it comes from people who were actually living at that time, right? And from people who are actually living there, right? Eyewitnesses, like we have with Jesus. Matthew, he was an eyewitness. John, he was an eyewitness. You would hope the same thing would work with Islam. Well, let's go and see what we find. In order to know who Muhammad was, everything that we have, everything that I just showed you, we need to go back to the sources for all these stories. Now, Muhammad dies in 632. The first source we get are what we know is his biography, known as the Sirah. So who wrote the biography? Somebody who knew Muhammad, right? No. The first one they claim who writes it down was Ibn Ishaq, who died in 765. That's 130 years after Muhammad. Is there a problem there, folks? Okay, you're coming with me. Let's continue. But we don't have Ibn Ishaq. We have to go to this guy here, Ibn Hisham. He is the one that actually writes down what Ibn Ishaq says, throws out most of it, and only retains what he likes. He dies in 833. After him comes Al-Waqidi, who dies in 835. That's what we know about Muhammad. Nothing from Ibn Ishaq. So let's just get rid of Ibn Ishaq. Whoop, there he goes. But that's not the only thing we have. That's not the only. We have an enormous amount of material on Muhammad, on what he says. This is known as the Hadith. And the sayings, these are the sayings of what Muhammad said. They were first written down by Al-Bukhari. Now look at his date, 870. You thought Ibn Ishaq was bad enough. This is 240 years after the fact. And after him, there's others like Sahih Muslim, Ibn Dawud, you have Tirmidhi, you have Majah, you have Abdar, and you have Ibn Nasai. So those are the 6, what they thought authoritative Hadith compilations that were put down. But look, they're all in the 9th and 10th century, right? And then you have two more genre of what we know as a standard Islamic narrative, the tafsir and the taqi. The tafsir would be the commentaries which explain the Quran, and then of course the tafsir which would be the histories of all mankind up until Muhammad. First written down by Al-Tabari. Look at his date. He died in 923. Now I'm putting in their death dates purposely because everything was written normally within 20 years of their death dates. That's when they'd be written. Can you manipulate it all right up until they die?
I don't have
Notice,
any
everything I showed you
books.
doesn't even begin to be written down for 200 years. You get the Sirah, then you get the Hadith, another 240 years, and it's not to the 10th century that you even get the Tafsir and the Taqi. Abdul Malik's name I'm putting up there because he's the first one to introduce us to anybody called Muhammad. Look, when he introduced that, he introduced it in 692. Muhammad died in 632. You got 60 years before he's even introduced it to the world stage. Does that bother any of you? But the Muhammad we're going to talk about, the Muhammad of Islam, that Muhammad was introduced by these people, the Abbasids. They do so, they come to power in 749. The Muhammad that we look at is all their invention. And they had 84 years to finally get down his biography, and about 100 years to get down his sayings, and of course, the other two genres. So, Muhammad was revealed 84 years after the Abbasids created him, 141 years after he was first introduced, yet 200 years after he supposedly lived. These are all too late. Now, on top of that, let's take a look at the people that introduced him. Look where they lived. Everything we've been told, they say happens in Mecca, Medina. That's the Hijaz. That's the central part of Arabia. Those 2 green circles. Yet all of the writers of those traditions work in Baghdad, which is 1,200 miles too far to the north. You have Ibn Hisham, who was born in Basra. He grew up in Cairo, but he did his work in Baghdad. Cairo is over 990 miles from Mecca. Basra is 1,200 miles from Mecca. You have Al-Bukhari, who writes the Hadith. He is from Bukhara, which is Uzbekistan. That's 2,600 miles away. Al-Tabari, who wrote the Tafsir and the Taqi. He comes from Tabaristan, northern Iran. That's 1,700 miles away. None of the traditional writers lived or worked in Mecca or Medina. They were all too far to the north of Mecca and came from the west and east of Baghdad. All of these northern areas is where the Abbasids originated from. Are you starting to get the picture? There's a problem here. Everything we know about Mecca comes from 200 to 300 years later and hundreds of miles further north. Too late and too far away. Okay, so you say, well, the same happens in Christianity. We've got the same problem, do we? Let's do the same application. Let's look at our tafsir. Let's look at our hadith. In fact, let's put the same genre that we've just looked at for knowing who the book, the man, and place is, and let's apply it to Jesus Christ, because Jesus Christ also has a Sirah. Right, that's the biography of Jesus written by Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. Am I correct? He also has a hadith. Those are the sayings by Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John when it's written in red letters. Every time Jesus speaks, that's red letters. So we also have the hadith of Jesus. We also have the tafsir. Those would be the commentaries written by Paul. Again, the commentaries of what Jesus was saying and doing. Paul then applied. Ephesus and up to Corinth and to Philippi. So that would be the commentaries. And then we also have the Tafik, which would be the histories. That's the book of Acts, written by Luke. So you have the exact same four genre in Christianity that they have in Islam. Now let's apply the dates for all of them. And I'm going to take the most liberal dates I can find. I'm going to step on all your toes. Please don't get mad at me. I'm doing it for a reason. So let's look at, first of all, the Tafik of Jesus. The history of the early church written by Luke between 52 and 68 AD. That's within 20 to 30 years. You already have the Tafik of Jesus written down. When you look at the Tafsir of Paul's letters, he was killed in 65 AD. He was writing within 50 years of Christ's death. So within 50 to 34 years, you already have Paul's commentaries, the Tafsir written down. As far as the Sirah and the Hadith, the first writer to write them down would be Mark, 70 AD. That's within 37 years. You have Matthew and Luke coming right along, 80 years after. And then finally we end with John, who is the last to write the Sirah and the Hadith of Jesus. That's within 57 years. What that means is that within 29 to 57 years, all of Christ's Hadith, Sirah, Tafsir, and Tafik have been put together. All of the New Testament writers lived in the same place Jesus lived, and they either knew him personally, like John and Matthew did, or they got the material from others who saw what he did and heard what he said, like Mark and Luke. You do a comparative between these two. When we compare these two different genres of literature, Christianity knows everything about the book, the man, and the place within 15 to 60 years. Islam has to wait 200 to 300 years. Which do you think is more authoritative? Look at the comparison, folks. Thank God we don't have that problem. As a comparison, if we were to depend on the sources for Jesus compared to what Muslims are dependent on for Muhammad, Jesus would not begin to appear until the 3rd century. How would we defend him? Yet no one's asking the same question of Islam until we are now going to do it tonight. So I'm going to make it one step further. Remember I just got done telling you that Ibn Hisham wrote the Sirah of Jesus and he died in 833, and that's 200 years after the fact? You heard me say that, right? I lied. We have nothing from Ibn Hisham. Nothing has been written that was written by this man in the 9th century. So where did this book, this is the book you all have to read. If any of you do any study on Muhammad, you have to read The Life of Muhammad written by Alfred Guillaume. This is the standard work that everybody has to go to. Where do you think it comes from? It doesn't come from Ibn Hisham. It comes from this gentleman right here, Heinrich Ferdinand Wüstenfeld, a German scholar, an Arabist, living in the 1800s, who for 2 years between 1858 and 1860 went to 4 different German cities, this is in Europe, to different schools and certainly different libraries, and he just started putting together everything he could find on this man named Muhammad. Put it together in that 2-year period, published it in 1860. That biography that all of you have to read, because that was taken by Alfred Guillaume, they translated it first into French and then into English. Everything we know about Muhammad comes from that German scholar, and it's only 160 years old. The man who Muslims are to know who their prophet is or what he did is an elderly German linguist who wrote Muhammad's story 160 years ago, thus over 1,000 years too late. Can you imagine how they're going to defend it? How, if there's any Muslims here, how will you defend your prophet now? Looking how late everything is concerning what he did there in supposedly the 7th century. You can see the dilemma for scholars today. Their conclusions are Islam as we know it did not exist in the 7th century, but evolved over a period of 200 to 300 years. The Quran probably was not revealed to one man in 22 years like Muslims tell us, but likely evolved over a period of 50 to 100 years. The conclusion, the history of Islam, at least in the time of the Caliph of the Malik, 685 to 705 and before, is a later fabrication. A later fabrication. Now, if that were the case, the problem is, well, what are we going to do? How is it? You can see what their concern is. They said, well, where do we need to go? Well, I would suggest let's go back to the 7th century. Since we can't trust the 9th and 10th century, or Muhammad was doing, or what the Quran was in the 9th and 10th century, let's go back to the century Muhammad lived, let's go back to the century if Mecca existed, and let's go back to the century that book was written. So let's start with Mecca. Why do I want to start with Mecca? You'll see why. Mecca is enormously important. Remember, Islam is dependent on 3 legs. You take out one of the legs, the other 2 collapse. So if you start with the book, the man, and the place for the 3 legs, if you start to confront Mecca, it starts to teeter. Once you shut down Mecca, everything else collapses. Because if there is no Mecca, then it doesn't matter who Muhammad is or where you find him, he's not in Mecca. Right? And if he's not in Mecca, then what Muhammad are we talking about? And it doesn't matter what Quran we're looking at, it's not from Mecca. If it's not from Mecca, bingo, then you've got a different Quran. So let's shut down Mecca first. Let's begin with Mecca and let's see what we can find. Now, this is what they claim. According to the traditions, according to standard Islamic narrative, Mecca is where Adam and Eve are thrown down to. In chapter 7, verse 24 in the Quran, they're thrown out of the Garden of Eden down to Mecca. So obviously, this is the oldest city in history, right? You have to have people to have a city. And there's no one before Adam and Eve. So it's obviously the oldest city in history. It's where Abraham lived according to chapter 21 of the Quran, verse 51 to 71. That's 1900 BC. Therefore, it had to have existed then. Sorry, let's go back. It's also the center of trade, north, south, east, and west. So it should be one of the best known. Now, it's also, according to the Quran, the center of history. But here's the problem. Open up the Quran and see if you can find the word Mecca in it. You'll only find it one time, in chapter 48, verse 24. So it's not a book, it's not a place that's referred to very often, except for once. It's the place of the prophet. So let's look and see what it says about the place of the prophet in the Quran. Well, that's the mother of all settlements, according to chapter 6. It's where Adam and Eve were cast to, according to chapter 7. It's where Abraham lived, according to chapter 21. It's where Muhammad was born. It was also where Mecca became the center of the Qibla, the direction of prayer, according to chapter 2. Now, the above implied people have lived there from the very beginning. Yet the only reference we can find is chapter 48, 24. If it's such an important place, why is there only one reference? If you look at the traditions, which are written much later, they're written in the 9th and 10th century, Mecca now does exist. That's not a problem. But take a look at where it places it. Notice what the traditions say. This place of the prophet, which is Mecca, is in a valley and has a parallel valley. It has a stream. It has ruins of a pillar of sulfide outside it. It has fields and trees and grass and fruit and clay and loam and olive trees. Folks, that looks like it's pretty verdant. Am I correct? Lots of vegetation, lots of water. Look at Mecca. There's no streams. There's nothing in Mecca, and there never has been. Historically, it's never had water. So obviously, whatever the traditions are referring to, it's not the Mecca we know today. When you look at unpack the Quran, you look at it, you'll notice that an awful lot of it refers to geographical locations, 6 geographical references, but only 9 places are named. And over again, it refers to these people from Ad. 23 times these people from Ad. That's the biblical Uz. 24 times the people from Tabud. That would be the Nabateans. That's 7 times the people from Midian. They're the Midianites. But take a look at the map and see where they're all placed. They're up in Jordan. Mecca is at the very bottom of the map. You see it down there? There's 600 miles. If this prophet were having daily contact with these people from Ad Thamud in Midian, he'd have to have a helicopter or a jet to get up and back in 1,200 miles in just one day. They didn't have helicopters back then. Can you see a problem, folks? Obviously, whoever this prophet is who's having this relationship with all these people either had to live up there, or this is nothing more than fiction. When we look at the prophets, prophet after prophet, Adam and Eve, Seth, Ishmael, Noah, Hud, Saleh, Queen of Sheba, Daniel, they were already in Mecca. Over almost 300 prophets are buried in Mecca. Now, when they're buried in a kneeling position so that they continue to be preserved in that kneeling position. If that were the case, then they still should be there today. Am I correct? So look at the enormous amount of building that's going on around Mecca. That building you see there, that tower, is the 4th highest building in the world. When you look at it, you'll notice all the buildings around it. You have to have huge foundations in order to build something that high. As they're building these foundations, they should have come across one prophet. They haven't found one, suggesting that none of these prophets were buried there. If the above were true, this would mean that almost all of them have to be rewritten, as all of our prophets are 600 to 1,000 miles further south. So when is the first reference you can find to Mecca? It comes from the Apocalypse of Suitabilitas Continuata Byzantia Arabica, 741 AD. Muhammad died in 634. 632, if he even lived. That's over 100 years later that we get the first reference of it. What about the maps? Is Mecca on any map? Ptolemy is the best source to go to because he wrote the geography of Arabia, and there are those who've taken his geography and put maps together, like Lionel Holle in 1400s. Notice when you look at the map, Mecca is not there. Here's another one put together by Laurent Fries in 1541. Notice Mecca is not there as well. Here's another one putting what Ptolemy said, put together in 1571, put together by Sebastian Munster. Same problem. Mecca just doesn't exist on any of these maps. Here's a 7th century map that's been redacted back to the 7th century. Do you see Mecca on it? I don't. Here's another one redacted back to the 7th century. Can you find Mecca on any of these maps? Not one. So certainly Ptolemy didn't know about this place. When you look at the Qiblahs, these are all the direction of prayers. Now remember, in chapter 2 of the Quran, all the Qiblahs were directed to Mecca according to the Quran itself. Dan Gibson, who's done the best work on this, and he's gone through over 100 mosques, and he's gone through all the Qiblahs, and notice what he has found. From the 7th century up until the 8th century, up until 706, every Qibla is facing Petra. Not one Qibla is facing Mecca. We're in the 8th century, we still can't find any mosque facing Mecca. It's not till 715 that the first mosque faced Mecca. What does that tell you? For 100 years, they never knew where Mecca was. And in fact, look where all these Qiblas are. They're right there in Medina, in China, in India, in Syria, in Egypt, in Israel, in Jordan, all over the world, and yet none of them seem to know where Mecca was. For over 100 years, they didn't know where Mecca was. Were they that inept? Or did Mecca even exist? Now we come to the trade route theory, and this is where Montgomery Watt has helped out the Muslims. He tried to help them out to show that you can find Mecca if you just look at the trade route. The trade went through Mecca. Now the trade used to go this way, right up through the Persian Gulf, to Basra, across Iraq, across Syria, over into Lebanon. But then you had the Sassanians who started warring against the Byzantines, and for 200 years, from the 5th, 6th, and 7th century, they shut down the Persian Gulf because of these wars. So the trade had to be rerouted. So what Montgomery Watt says is they went from India. Remember, all the trade's coming from China and India. They can't go north because of the Hindu Kush and Himalayas. So they come across the Arabian Sea, they come to Aden there in the south, and they go zip 1,250 miles up to Gaza in the north. Now notice Mecca's halfway. And so he said Mecca controlled that trade, and that's how Mecca became important. How many of you believe that? No one's going to raise their hands? You know why? Because I'm going to shut it down. But I'm not going to shut it down. Dr. Patricia Corona shut this down. This woman, Danish, read and wrote 15 archaic languages. How many of you could read and write 15 archaic languages? Probably the greatest scholar of her day. She just died a number of years ago. She was my authority. She was the one that helped me when I started my doctorate there in the United Kingdom. And she looked at this map and she saw two problems. To see if you see the same two problems. This is the first one. She said, hold on a minute. If you're taking all the goods off in Aden and you're going up along what we call the Western Plateau where the oases are, you have to go up to Taif. And then from Taif, you have to go down to Mecca, 3,000 feet. And then from Mecca, you've got to go back up to Yathrib. And then from Yathrib on up to Tabuk, Khaybar, and on up to Gaza in the north. You see a detour there. Did you see the detour? Let me emphasize exactly why she's saying this. Let's look at this topographical map, and let's just look at these cities that are on the trade route. There's Aden, there's Sana'a, there's Najran, there's Taif, there's Yathrib, Tabuk, and then on up to Gaza. You notice they're all on the Western Plateau. Are you seeing that? Can you see from this topographical map? So where's Mecca? Bingo, right there. 3,000 feet down from Taif. Let me give you another map. Here's another one, a topographical line map. There's Aden, there's Sana'a, Taif. Now you can see Yathrib, there's Tabuk, Petra, and Gaza. So where's Mecca? Bingo. Now can you see? It's way off the Western Plateau. It had no water. Why would you go from Taif down 3,000 feet to a city or a place that had no water and no food for your camels, and then come back up 3,000 feet to get up to Yathrib? So that was the first problem. But here's the second problem. She said, why in the world would they even get out to get their material off in Aden and go 1,250 miles by land when they have a waterway on them? Why wouldn't you just stay on ship? Even today, look how all our goods are sent all over the world. They're sent by ship, are they not? It's the cheapest way to send anything. And you've got the Red Sea there on the left. So why didn't they go on the Red Sea? Now she's clever because she reads and writes 15 languages. She went back to all the trading documents from the 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, all the way up to the 7th century, something no Muslim has ever done. And she wrote a book called Meccan Trade and the Rise of Islam in 1987 and got death threats because of what she found. This is what she found. She said when you go and watch the trade, it comes across the Arabian Sea over to Aden. Yeah, it did stop in Aden. They would get provisions there, but it did stop there. They wouldn't take off any goods there. They would go up into the Red Sea. They would go to Agilis, and she found Agilis over and over again. And then from Agilis went up the Red Sea on up to Petra, and then from Petra to Gaza, and then from Gaza right across the Mediterranean world. That's what she found. But she didn't go far enough. That was in 1987. We have found something else. See, what she didn't realize is what part of the Red Sea and what side of the Red Sea did they go up. To do that, you need to look at topographical maps from space, and you need to see where the channels are. Do you see the dark blue line there, right in the middle of the Red Sea? They're going to put a red line on it so you can see it even better. That's where the big ships go today. But back in the 7th century, they didn't have big ships. So where'd they go? They went where the orange lines are, the golden lines. Those are the channels that the boats use. Notice they're not on the Arabian side, they're on the African side. Am I correct? So, unlike the East Arabian shore, which was arid and dry with no fresh water and thus few people, the West African shore had plenty of fresh water and had larger populations. What's more, the West Coast had easily accessible ports. We know their names. Here they are. The ports along them are Asab, Agilis, continue on Suakin, Berenice, and Safaga. Look at the dates. They all predate Islam. Notice they're all 1 day's boat ride apart. So they would go in every night to shelter. These have been around since the 3rd century BC. On the Red Sea side, on the Arabian side of the Red Sea, the only port that we know of is called Yanbu, which supported Yathrib. So what about Jeddah, which supports Mecca? Muslims have always asked me, well, then did Jeddah exist also? Dr. John Halting, who was a world authority on Jeddah, wrote his book on it. And if you look at his book, he says Jeddah did not exist until the 8th century AD. It was created because Mecca was created. Mecca had no water, therefore it needed provisions. That's why they created Jeddah. Therefore, since there was none, let's get rid of Jeddah and Mecca. Boom, they go off the screen. Jeddah without Mecca, what happens to Islam? A big red X. Well then, what about the civilizations? Maybe they knew about this place. Let's ask, and Dr. Patricia Corona went around, she asked this question. If Mecca was the oldest city in the history of mankind, someone somewhere should have heard of it. So she went and she looked at all the empires to see what they said. Now remember, she reads and writes 15 languages. So she read everything in its original tongue. The Assyrians, she found nothing about Mecca. The Babylonians, they knew nothing about Mecca. The Roman Empire knew nothing about Mecca. Neither did the Persians. What about those closer to it? Much more like the Nabateans, they knew nothing about Mecca. And the Sabaeans knew nothing. And neither did the Himyarites, or the Azdis, or the Kindaz, or the Kedarites. None of these people, including the Nubians right across the Red Sea, none of them had heard of Mecca. Not one word. All the way up until the 8th century. What does that say about Mecca to you folks? If it is the center of history, if it's the oldest city in history, if it's where Abraham lived, if all the trade now north, south, east, west is going through it, why had no one heard of it? Well, what about the other cities that were in that area? Let's ask and see if they were, because there are a lot of cities in that area, or towns, not really cities, they're hamlets. And let's see if history knows about them. Let's look at Najran, which is about 400 miles south of it. It's a small little town. But Strabo talks about it, Pliny the Elder talks about it, Ptolemy talks about it, Aratus, all of it. It's well known. What about Sana'a and Taif and Yathrib and Khaybar that are known? The Greeks talk about it from the 6th century BC. They refer to these places. Mamre, Pliny has a whole book written on the history of it. Petra Jakowski has written an entire book on the history of Petra. Where Muhammad Markan has written another history on it. Why are all these insignificant towns referred to, but none of them, not one of them, referred to Mecca? I'll tell you why. To know why, take a look at a map and you'll see why. Look at those 4 maps. Those are 4 topographical pictures of Arabia. What do you notice about Mecca and Medina? Well, the central part where Medina and Mecca are is the desert, right? Where there's a desert, there's no water. Where there's no water, there's no food. Where there's no food, there's no people. Where there's no people, there's no towns. Where there's no towns, there's no cities. Where there's no cities, there's no civilization. Where there is no civilization, there is no history. It's as simple as that. How long did it take me to say that? 10 seconds. And you can do the same. You have to have water, folks. If there's no water, there's no history. That's why it was called Petrea Deserta by the Romans. It's always been a desert. That's why none of the prophets could have come there. Nobody has ever heard of it. Just like Mars without water, there's no point even going there. But we have to go there. Let's go to the Hajj, because the Hajj is where you need to find out. If the Hajj has been there from the very center of history, am I correct? When you go to the Hajj, and those of you who can't go because you're not Muslims, but you go and you circumambulate that square building called the Kaaba 7 times. Why? Counterclockwise. Good question. I'm going to tell you. To do that, you need to go to Petra. Petra also has a Kaaba that you circumambulate 7 times, going counterclockwise. Why does it have a Kaaba? Well, you need to go to this city. You recognize it? Jerusalem. You've got to go back to Jerusalem. That also have a Kaaba. Remember, Kaaba means square in Arabic. That also means square in Hebrew. And the Kaaba in Hebrew. And the Jews would circumambulate it 7 times going counterclockwise because of Jericho. God told them to do it 7 times going counterclockwise. They still did it as a pilgrimage to Jerusalem. Therefore, the Kaaba that was in Mecca comes from Jerusalem. It gets better than that. After they circumambulate 7 times, they then run back and forth between Safa and Marwa, the 2 mountains that are there. Take a look. Do those look like mountains to you? They're only about 20 feet high. You can climb on them as kids. Those are not mountains. Those are rocks. They're called Marwa and Safa. And the Muslims run back and forth 7 times. Why? Because Hagar is in the desert. She's thrown out of Mecca by Abraham, who's living in Mecca. She runs out of water. She needs to find water for Ishmael. She runs back and forth 7 times between 2 mountains. Folks, those don't look like mountains to me. In fact, hold on a minute. They're only 100 feet away from the Kaaba, which is the center of Mecca. If she's out in the desert, she can't find water. Then what is she only going 100 feet away? Why don't she just knock on any door and get some water for the neighbors? Can you see there's a problem here, folks? This is not the original Marwa and the original Safa. This is nothing more than a facsimile. This is nothing more than when you go to Las Vegas, you'll see an Eiffel Tower there, right? That's not the original Eiffel Tower. You'll see a pyramid there. That's not the original pyramid. They're nothing more than facsimiles. That's what you're looking at. So where's the original Marwa and Safa? It's not, no, some people think it's in Petra. You need to go to Jerusalem. Go to Mount Moriah. Where are the Temple Mountains? What is the name for Moriah in Arabic? Marwa. You go down to the Kidron Valley, go back up to Mount Scopus. That's what the pilgrims all did. And what is the name of Mount Scopus in Arabic? Safa. So the original Marwa, the original Safa are in Jerusalem. God bless the Muslims. All they did was plagiarize. Everything is plagiarized in Islam. When you look at the Hajj, you can see that the Kaaba is plagiarized. You can see that the Safa and Marwa are plagiarized. You can see that the Hill of Arafat, I don't have time to get into it, that's plagiarized. You can see the Jamarat, where they throw 49 stones. Why 49? Because it's a multiplication of 7, which is the holy number in Judaism. They just plagiarize from the Christians. You look at the Zamzam well, that is the same thing, the same word that is the well there in Siloam, the pool of Siloam in Jerusalem. And then we get to the black stone. Thank God this is not plagiarized. What in the world is the black stone doing there? On the eastern corner of the Kaaba. Every Muslim, as they're circumambulate, they kiss the stone so that they can get their sins forgiven. Who can forgive sins but God? This is idolatry, folks. And it's at the very seat of Islam. The very center of Islam is based on idolatry. If Muslims say God is one, then what's that stone doing there? That does not come from Jerusalem. You understand that? I'm not going to go into it because I see I'm running out of time. I need to keep going. Look and go up on Fander Films. We've got all of it up there. We're now unpacking all of this material so you can see it. So can you see? No one could find Mecca place in the Quran. Crone pretty much debunked the trade route theory. Gibson debunked the Qiblas. Crone also debunked. She not only debunked that, but she also debunked the maps. And then we debunked the base of the trade route going through the Red Sea. And then, of course, the 5 stages of the Hajj. Though Mecca has existed since Adam and Eve in Surah chapter 7, verse 24, there is no evidence of it anywhere until 741. Everything we now find in Mecca, we could find previously in Petra and now even earlier in Jerusalem. You ready for Muhammad? What do we know about Muhammad? Well, last and greatest prophet according to Islam, model Islam for the world. The Quran has a final revelation. Everything we know about him, we can find the Sirah of Ibn Hisham, but as I now said, it looks like that comes from a German scholar named Wustenfeld. And the Hadith of Bukhari, we don't have anything from Al-Bukhari until the 11th century. And 8 of his 9 volumes don't appear to the 16th century. The same problem we're having with the Quran, we'll get to that in just a bit. Now, is it referred to in the 7th century in the time period he supposedly lives? If he did exist, someone should have known about him, right? Or said something about it. So what we need to do, let's start with the coins. Because the coins, if there's any caliph coming to power, the first thing a caliph will do or a king will do, will mint coins with his name on it, his image on it, and also what denomination he belongs to, what religion he belongs to, and the date of the coin, right? That's all they all do in those ancient days because they didn't have newspapers, they didn't have TV, they didn't have radio. They knew that everybody would touch coins. So let's see where the mints are. According to Islam, everything that the caliphs did was in Medina, which is in the south there in Hijaz. But when you look at the mints, notice where all the mints are. The mints are all up there in Syria, Jordan, and Israel today. Those are the western mints. What about the ones in the east? They're all in what is today Iran and Iraq. There are no mints whatsoever where they're supposed to be. All the coins were minted too far north. Did I not say that earlier? Too far north? What's interesting is when you look at the coins themselves, the conclusion is none of these mints were in the Hijaz. Instead, they were too far north, possibly because the Hijaz was a desert with no water. And where there's no water, you know the rest of the story. Let's then look at the coins, because the coins were being minted by people who were living at that time. And they were leaders. Notice that when you look at the mints, look at the coins from the 7th century, 620, 630, 640, 650, up until 661, you notice that almost all the coins are Christian. Look at the crosses on them. That's what you do. You put the cross in if you're a Christian. We can't find any coins whatsoever in the early 7th century that has anything to do with Islam, anything to do with Muhammad, anything to do with the Quran, or anything to do with Mecca. Not at all. So when we get to Muawiyah, who's the first caliph according to Islam from the Umayyad dynasty, Muawiyah, the first caliph, look at his coins. He's supposed to be a good Muslim, right? But take a look. What does he have above his head? A cross. Take a look at the 2 that are on the right there. Look at the 2 bottom ones there. There's Muawiyah. He has a cross above his head. He's holding a cross in his hand. On the back side of the coin is the word Muhammad, which is Muhammad. That's the first reference to Muhammad anywhere. And that's 663. Possibly, is he Muhammad? No. What does Muhammad mean in Arabic? The praised one. So who's the praised one? Well, if he's holding a cross and he's got a cross, who do you think the praised one is? What's his name? Thank you. Let's prove that. So let's go to an inscription that Muawiyah put there. This is an inscription by Muawiyah. There's his name, and he refers to himself as the servant of God, commander of the believers. And what does he have right there in the top left? A cross. So who is he a servant of God for? And what believers? Christians. He was a Christian, folks. All the coins say so. They don't lie. This is the 7th century. He rules up until 680, and then you have Abd al-Malik come to power in 685. Abd al-Malik is the one that we need to look at because he introduces new coins that introduce the Shahada. La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah. There's only one God but God. Muhammad is nothing more than a servant of God. Remember, Muhammad is a title. It means the praised one, right? So what does he do? Because of he puts that up there, Justinian II goes to war with him. He's a Byzantine emperor. Abd al-Malik wins the battle, and he puts up this coin with himself as victorious on your coins. Not if you're a Muslim. So obviously he's not a Muslim. Obviously this Muhammad that's there has nothing to do with him. It has everything to do with Jesus. Why? Just look at the Dome of the Rock that he built. Look at the inscriptions on the Dome of the Rock that he built in 691. When you look at the inscriptions, you will see they're all attacking the divinity of Jesus, his Christology, the Trinity, and his sonship. All of these inscriptions say not 3, for God is one and he has no son. Or truly, God does not beget nor is he begotten. One is in chapter 4, verse 171 of the Quran, the other is in chapter 112. These are all attacking Jesus Christ. And then you get for truly, there is only one God but God. And the praised one, so who's the praised one? It's all about Jesus, right? So the praised one is nothing more than the messenger of God. Attacking Byzantine Christianity. Why? Because they're his greatest threat as the other superpower of his day. He then introduces now, and all of it is attacking Jesus Christ. Folks, this is the beginning of what later became Islam. All started by this man, and it was all to confront Jesus Christ. That's all against our Lord. The coins don't lie. You want to go to the inscriptions? The inscriptions that find the exact same thing. They're found in the north, they're found in the south. None of them are found in the middle. Why do you think they're not found in the middle? There's no water. There you go. Boy, you learn fast. Ilga-Linstad is the one who dated he was the one that looked at the rock inscriptions, and he looked at the 100-year period between 640 and 740, and he noticed that all these inscriptions, which are written in Arabic, they do have formula, but it's nothing to do with Islam. It's pious formula, which has much more to do with Christianity. It's not till 690 to 710 that the Prophet Muhammad is introduced into these inscriptions. Muslim rites such as pilgrimages and prayers and fasts are introduced about 720, and Muhammad as a man and the people called Muslim and the religion called Islam are not introduced until 730. That's over 100 years after Muhammad, if Muhammad even existed. It was only in the 730s onwards that there's evidence of popular devotion to a man named Muhammad as a prophet and messenger, which makes the Islamic traditions incredibly awkward. There is a 100-year silence prior to this that indicates that Islam did not exist as a distinct religion until long after the time of Muhammad, which cast doubt on whether he had any part in starting Islam. I'm going to go through these real quickly. I just want to show you, what about the references to Muhammad in the 7th century? There are major references. There are 4 of them. Only the 4 references. Take a look at every one of these references to Muhammad in outside sources. Take a look. He is known as the Tayyayy ibn Muhammad. Muhammad the Tayyayy. Who were the Tayyayy? They were Lakhmids. They lived in Iraq. So obviously the praised one is from Iraq. Look where Iraq is on a map. It's over 600,000 miles further north. What about in 636, the Arabs of Mahmud, which is in Yarmouk? Where is Yarmouk? It's north of Israel. So obviously this is way too far north. Muhammad never went to Israel. I don't remember him ever being to Iraq. 660, Sabaeus talks about the Ishmaelite called Mahmud, who was aligned with 12,000 Israelites. First of all, that's not historical. There were no 12,000 Israelites who were going to war against the Byzantines. That never existed. So obviously this is fraudulent. But nonetheless, look and see where this is. This is way up in Damascus. So that Muhammad, I don't recall Muhammad ever being that far. And then you have John Bar in 690 talking about a teacher and leader of the Arabs who obviously was named Muhammad. Who is this referring to? Look and see who the Arabs were. They were all Christians, but they were not Trinitarian Christians at this time. It's really John of Damascus who really identifies and sees for the first time Muhammad we're starting to come across. And he does refer to it. Talks about Muhammad, who comes with his ludicrous doctrines, comes with 4 books. The book called the Cow, which is now Surah 2, the book called Women, which is Surah 4, the book called the Table, which is Surah 5, and the book called the Camel, which is Surah Nothing. There is no camel surah in the Quran. So obviously, whatever John Damascus is, it's not the Quran we know today. And the Quran is much bigger than just 3 surahs. There's 114 of them in the Quran. So obviously, this means that there was no Quran that early. Every reference to Muhammad in the 7th century places in Gaza, Jerusalem, Damascus, or Hira, which are all situated too far north and probably refer to another Muhammad, the praised one. Now we get to the Quran, and this is where it really gets delicious. This is the best material, folks. Sit back. If you want to go to the toilet, you can do, but you'll miss everything. So let's go ahead. What do the Muslims claim about the Quran? Number 1, it's uncreated. It's right there in the Quran itself in chapter 85, verse 22. Therefore, it has never been had any chance that any human could have any control over. It was sent down to Muhammad between 610 and 632. That's what they claim. It was completed by Uthman in 652. That's why this book in my hand right here is from Uthman, they say. And then number 4, the Quran is unchanged in the last 1400 years. Not one word, not one letter has changed. Have you heard Muslims say this? Every Muslim says those 4 things. Just memorize those 4 words. Uncreated, sent down, completed, unchanged. That's all you need to know. I'll come back to it. I'm going to shut down those 4, but I'm going to show you something even better about those 4. Hold on. So what do Christians claim about the Bible? Is the Bible uncreated? No, of course it's created. We know who wrote it. We even know the authors. We put their names on most of the books. The Bible was not sent down. It was inspired by God, but not sent down through an angel. The Bible was complete, so yes, we would say that it was the case. The thing is, we don't have any of the original manuscripts, so we don't know what the complete has been changed. Yeah, parts of it has. We know where they've been changed. We know even we're very transparent. We put in right where the verses that have been added or there have been scribal errors. We take those. So we know that we're very clear about that. We're only talking about 40 verses out of over 6,000 verses. So tonight, I'm not going to shut down uncreated or sent down because I'm not there. I'm going to shut down completed and unchanged, those 2. That's what I want to look at. So what I want to look for is one Quran manuscript from the 7th century that's complete, 114 surahs, that is unchanged. And this is what I've asked Muslims all over the world. I debated over 100 debates that I've done with Muslims, and this is what I always have. Show me one manuscript of your Quran from the 7th century that's unchanged, just like the Quran I have in my hand here. Where do we go to find out about the Quran? We have to go to Sahih Bukhari. Remember I told him that he died in 870, so he's the one that tells us how the Quran was put together. Now this is what he says. He says, Muhammad died in 632, it had not been written down. It finally got written down in its final form at the time of Uthman in 652, the 3rd caliph. He then sent 5 copies to 5 different cities, Mecca, Medina, Basra, Kufa, and Damascus. And those then became the canonized Quran for the whole world in 652. The problem is, almost immediately, another Quran supplants the one in Damascus, written by Ubay ibn Ka'b. It had 116 surahs. That's 2 more than in the Quran today. Another was written in Baghdad, written by Ibn Masud. It had 110 surahs. That's 4 less than what is in the Quran today. Another was written by Ibn Musa, 114 surahs. It had so many differences. According to Arthur Jeffer, who's done the work on this, if you just look at those manuscripts and you compare with the Quran today, there are about 15,000 differences. You've got a problem. So how could there have been one Quran? There were at least 5 Qurans from the 7th century from Mecca, Medina, Basra, Kufa, and Damascus. We cannot find one of them. Now, one of those Qurans exists today. Folks, we're only talking about 1,400 years ago. As Christians, we have the Sinaiticus, the Gallics and Brandis, we have the Vaticanus. These are from the 3rd and 4th century. That's 200 to 300 years before the Quran. Why can we reproduce our entire Bible? We have 365 manuscripts of the New Testament before the 7th century. Why can't they come up with one Quran from the 7th century? That's my question. They're the ones that claim it, not me. Where are these 5 manuscripts? Look at those cities. They've always been controlled by Islam for the last 1,400 years. So how could they have lost it? Rather inept, wouldn't you say? So, before we get into the manuscripts, I'm going to look at Get Up. These are the readings. This has probably done the most devastating material that's just come out in the last few years. These are the original manuscripts. Now, I say original means these are the earliest manuscripts. You notice when you read them, you can all read Arabic. You notice you can't. Why can't you read that? Because in order to be a reader Arabic, you need to have dots and vowels, right? There are no dots and vowels on that. You need that. Why? Because those manuscripts, the Samarkand and the Sana, or those ones had 16 letters. Well, you can't read it today unless you have vowels to help you out, or dots. Today, there are 28 letters. So obviously, another 12 letters were added. Why? Because of the dots. Now, there are 6 letters that don't require dots, like the Aleph, the Kaf, the Lam, the Mim, the Nun, and the Waw. The other 22 all require dots. What am I talking about? Well, take a look at one smiley face. One smiley face is usually the root of most letters in Arabic. If you put 1 dot, you have a na. 2 dots above, you have a ta. 3 dots above, you have a tha. 1 dot below, you have a ba. 2 dots below, you have a ya. 5 dots were added in the 8th century, not in the 7th century. Now I can read it. But that didn't exist in the 7th century. None of those manuscripts you just saw. Hold on, what about dialectical differences? You need to have 3 vowels to have dialectical differences. So you need to have a dama, which is the u sound. You need to have a kasra, which is the e sound. And you need to have a fatha, which is the sound. Those were only added in the late 8th century and early 9th century. So you've got a problem here. Because suddenly you have Abdul Malik who comes to power and he wants to create a Quran because he's now introducing a prophet. A prophet has to have a book. So what do? You have to borrow right, left, and center. But the problem is you're borrowing in Arabic and you don't have any Arabic that has dots and vowels. So you decide to write your Quran with your dots in it and you call Hafs. You decide to write you're supposed to be a male, but listen to your male today, and you call it Warsh. And you decide to write your Quran and you put your dots and vowels wherever you want to. You live in Kufa, you live in Cairo, you live in Damascus, and you put your own dots wherever you want to, and you put your dots where you want to. Suddenly we have 4 different Qurans, right? In 4 different cities. Well, that starts to proliferate. Until the 10th century, there were 700 different Qurans. Did you hear me? 700 different Qurans. According to this man who did his doctoral thesis, he's now head of the Islamic department at Harvard University. Shadi Nasser. He guessed the estimates because they're not there today. Now, you've got a problem. After all these Qurans, none of them are agreeing. You've got a difficulty. So Ibn Mujahid, man in the 10th century, was given the responsibility to choose 7. But before you do that, notice, if dots are in different places with different vowels, just with 3 different one of those little smiley faces, you get 19 different words. There's the difficulty. So here's what he did. He was given the responsibility to choose 7. And these are the first 7 from Medina, Ibn Kathir from Mecca, Abu Amr from Basra, Ibn Amir from Damascus, Asif from Kufa, Hamza from Kufa, and Al-Iskasai from Kufa. Notice that 3 of them are from Kufa, 1 from Damascus, the other one is from Basra, and the other 2 from Arabia. Look at the dates. What do you notice about the dates of every one of those? Look at the death dates. Every one of them either died between 736 and 805. That means 8th and 9th century. Did any of these men know Muhammad? Did they even live in the same century as Muhammad? So how could they have come from Muhammad? These are the 7 that every Muslim will swear came from Muhammad. But no one's bothered to look at their dates. I am the one that put the dates up there. You've got to put the dates together, folks. And this is where you're going to shut down every Muslim. They have no idea of these dates. Those are the first 7. But this is Hafs. This is the official book for the whole world today. Memorized by 93% of all Muslims. Hafs an Asim. You see Asim's name up there, number 5? He is a disciple of Asim. So in 1194, 2 disciples were chosen from every one of the 7 to make 14, right? And that was chosen by Al-Shatibi in 1194. Now you have 7 plus 14. How many do you have? 21. Am I correct? I hope my math's right. That still isn't good enough. In the 15th century, in 429, another man named Al-Jalali chose another 9 to affiliate with another 21. So now you have 30 different Qurans. No 2 are alike. But you've been told there's only one Quran, right? And the one that was chosen by Saudi Arabia was the Hafs that you see there. Guess how many differences there are between Hafs and the other 29? 93,000. 93,000. This is the first time you're hearing this, right? I hope you people are watching, you Muslims are watching, you're listening to this. This is going to shut down your Quran for you. Who's the one that found this? Hatun Tash, my colleague. In London, she and I were on the ladder for 3 years there at Speaker's Corner every Sunday. She was the one that found these by accident because she went to Morocco, she went to Yemen, she went to Jordan, and she went to a bookstore and said, show me a Quran. And they said, well, which Quran are you talking about? I said, what do you mean, which Quran? They said, well, we have Qalun here, we have Hafs over here, we have Warsh over here, we have Yesai over here, we have Ibn Kathir. She said, well, give them all to me. So she brought them back to London, showed me that, and I looked at them and I said, oh man, I started laughing. I thought these were all destroyed in 1924. They're in Cairo and thrown into the Nile. Evidently not. There they are. She has found now 26 of them. She brought 26 of them down to Speaker's Corner. We held them up in 2016. We filmed it, went all over the internet. This shut down the Quran in 2016. See the man that's there on the right? The tall man with the beard? His name is Muhammad Hijab. One of the most popular men on the internet. He has a following about anywhere from 500,000 to 1 million followers. He was there filming us. When he was doing that, he realized there was a problem. He quickly went outside the crowd and he yelled at all the people, come to me. Do not look at what they're showing you. Do not listen to what they're saying. I will explain everything to you. Obviously, he explained it pretty well. Why? Because 4 years later, he was shown these material. I'm not going to go into all of these. You can go into every one of them, but you can see the Hafs on the left, the Warsh on the right. In every case, it's completely different words. Changing the vowels by changing the dots. You not only get different words, you get different meanings. You don't even get different meanings. You get different doctrines, you get different theologies, and you get different practices. It shuts down the Quran from being preserved. Obviously, these are all done by man. There's a problem there. And so he came to this man who's a leading authority there on the right, Yasser Qadhi, there in Houston, and he said, I have a problem. I'm going to put my hand out here, and this is a blank piece of paper. Which Quran are you going to write on it? Which is the one that's eternal? Which is the one that was revealed to Muhammad? Tell me, which one of it? Remember, he was the one that told all the Muslims he was going to explain it to them. Yasser Qadhi says, we do not talk about this in public. This is the most difficult problem for Muslim scholars for the last 1,000 years. He said, we have a respect for the Quran. There are certain questions we don't ask. So Muhammad said, was that the problem you had when you were at Yale University getting your doctorate on this in 1995? Is that when you had a crisis of faith? He said, no, not crisis of faith, crisis of knowledge. Notice the difference. He said, in the West, the scholars have come leaps and bounds in the last 100 years. And they're looking at you, pointing Muhammad Hijab in the East. They're looking at you like an emperor with no clothes. Why? Because your standard narrative has holes in it. What narrative? Standard is narrative. S-I-N. Has holes in it. Well, we know sin has holes in it. But can you see what happened? This was only a 28 long... This was really a question that was happening. It was an interview for 28 minutes. He didn't know we were all watching this. He said, I never have talked about this for 25 years. I will never do a lecture on this. So Muhammad Hijab put his hand out a second time. He said, you've got to tell me which is the one that's eternal. Because the Quran says in chapter 85, 22, 1 and 22, that this book is 15, and chapter 18, verse 27, that no man can change one word or even one letter. It says in the Quran, chapter 15, verse 9, that Allah protects his word. Which is the one? Yasser Qadhi, after 28 minutes, finally had to give in. And he finally had to admit, they're all the Quran. All 30 of them. You take a little bit of Qalun, you take a little bit of Warsh, you take a little bit of Hafs, and you just mix them out, and that's the Quran we have today. I started clapping, I was watching this live. I said, Yasser Qadhi, you have no idea. You just now admitted it. There are 93,000 differences. I'm going to show you these 2 right here. These are 2 of them right here. There's the Hafs, here's the Warsh. You can buy these on the internet. This is memorized by 93% of the world's population. This is memorized by 3% of the world's population. This is from Egypt. This one is from Kufa in Iraq. There are 5,000 different words between these 2 books. I'm holding them right here. This shuts down the Quran. Within 2 weeks, if you look at their sites, there were hundreds of Muslims that said, we're leaving Islam because of what you have said. And our blood is going to be on your shoulders. They had to shut down those comments. Within 2 months, they had to take that video off of both their sites, but I got it. David Wood has it. Hatun Tash has it. And every June 8th of every year, we bring up that interview once over and show the whole world. You cannot say that this comes from God. You cannot even say it comes from Muhammad. You can't even say it comes from Muslim. This has been changed and manipulated from the last 1,400 years. Now let's get to the manuscripts. Because the manuscripts we do have. Now, we have 8,500 Greek manuscripts, 10,000 Latin Vulgates, another 9,011 different languages. That's roughly 24,000 to 25,000 manuscripts of the New Testament alone. Am I correct to say yes? How many manuscripts do they have that are early? 6. You want to see them? There they are. The top copy from Turkey, the Samarkand from Uzbekistan, the Ma'il in London, the Petropolitanus, I'm sorry, went the wrong way, from France, the Al-Huzayni there in Cairo, and the Salah manuscript, the most exciting, there in Yemen. I'm not going to unpack every one of them. These are the ones we're debating. I did a debate on these 6 manuscripts in 2014 with the world's leading scholar, Dr. Shabir Ali. He could not answer one question because he never looked at these manuscripts. I have 3 of them, facsimiles of 3 of them in my office. We're looking at them. Folks, you know what we have found? No 2 of these manuscripts are from this 3. They're from the 8th, 9th, and 10th century. No 2 are alike. And they don't agree with the Quran we have today. The best one, the top copy, which is about 99%, has 2,270 manuscript variants. When you look at the Salam manuscript, it has tiers of letters, and there are 63 verses in the lower layer. It has 70 variants just within those 63 verses. Can you see there's a problem here? I'm not going to get into these ones here. This is the carbon datings. But when you look at the carbon datings of the earliest manuscript, the Salam manuscript, the datings of the carbon datings of this manuscript, they are date from 390 to 550. They all predate the Quran. They predate Islam, and they predate Muhammad, proving that carbon dating don't use. So they came up with this book here called the Birmingham Folios, the Birmingham Manuscript. Remember this in 2015 was all over the internet? When you look at the Birmingham Manuscript, it's only 2 pieces of paper, front and back. It's only 33 verses, and guess what? It's all about the 7 sleepers of Ephesus in chapter 18. That has nothing to do with Islam. It's about the Holy Evangelium of James. That has nothing to do with Islam. And it's about the story of Moses. That all predates Islam. All of these are in Arabic, and they are nothing to do with Islam. So what's going on? Hold on. I want you to introduce this guy here. Dan Brubaker, he was in our conference this last weekend. You should have come. This man has just shut the Quran down because of this book right here. You need to buy this book. Basically, what he has done is he's taken the Muslims at their word, and he says, if there's no changes in the last 1,400 years, let's see if I can find changes. And he's the only one that's looked at all the manuscripts, and he has found insertions. There you can see some there. He has found erasures. There you can see erasures there. He has found erasures overwritten. You can see them there in the red. He has found overwriting without erasures. He has found selective coverings. There are so many coverings in the middle one there. There are 8 different coverings. Every case when you see insertions, when you have overwriting, when you have any one of these references, these differences, what happens in every case, it brings it down to a standardization of the Hufs text. Means that this is censorship that's been going on for not 1,400 years. It's been going on since the 1300s. For 700 years, they've been changing these manuscripts to make them so they all are alike. Selective coverings, overwritten, and tapings. We went down to Speaker's Corner. I go down to the Menara in London. There's Hutchintosh, the 5'2" lady that destroyed the Quran on my left there. And we decided to introduce this book there at Speaker's Corner. While we were there, one of the leading scholars on the right there, Mansour Ahmad from Bangladesh, got up there and tried to shut us down. And he was making the claim that you can trace the Quran back all the way to the 7th century. So I turned to him and I said, okay, you can tell me what manuscript you're talking about. It's not the Topkapi or the Samarkand, it's not the Metropolitans. You can't use the Husayni, and don't use the Ma'il manuscripts, and certainly don't use the Sana manuscript, because all of these are 8th, 9th, and 10th century, which is the manuscript that goes back to the 7th century. He finally had to admit that there was 96% of the Quran that they could find within the 1st century. That means between 622 and 721 or 790. Notice the 63 that he's talking about. These are the fragments that he's found. Notice we looked at every one of these fragments. None of them. Those ones I'm putting up there, no one has come to any conclusion on those 20. The next 9 are all after 719, so they shouldn't have used those 9. And the next 34, no one's done any work in. Which means he has basically, what the Muslims have done, they just created manuscripts or fragments. Most of these are just 1 or 2 verses. They've tried to come up with 63, they come up with 96% of the Quran, and none of them can be used from the 1st century of Islam. Ooh, I love it. It makes my job so easy. Thus, none of them are really valid, since all of them are either later or technically dated or have no supporting evidence. So, where did the Quran that we have in our hand, where did it come from? This book right here. It was chosen in 1924 by one scholar named Muhammad al-Husayni al-Haddad. Why? Because they were having such problem amongst the high school kids there in the city of Cairo. They were having 30 different answers for all the questions. They went to Muhammad al-Husayni al-Haddad and said, choose one, and he chose this one. What did they do with the other 29? Threw them into the Nile, like I said earlier, thinking that would get rid of them. They didn't count on Hutchintosh, 5'2" lady, to decide to find them in 2013. Nonetheless, that was so successful, choosing one Quran, that by 1936, it was then chosen as the Quran country of Egypt. By 1985, the Saudi Arabian government saw how successful that model was, so they chose it for the whole world in 1985. How many people are older or living in 1985? Just raise your hands. That means every one of you who's raising your hand is now older than the Quran. Oh boy, that must make you feel old. But now we're coming to the best. This is the last thing, and this is lovely. See, you'd like to know where the Quran really comes from, right? I'd like to know where the Quran really comes from. Because if you're having to put together a book because a man has been chosen, writes the book, you don't have anything at hand. Where you're going to borrow, are you not? So this is exactly what happened in the 8th, in the 9th, and the 10th century. But what did they borrow? Let me introduce this man here, Dr. Gunther Lulling, who was a German scholar. He did his doctorate in 1970, and he's looked at the Quran. He knows that there's some beautiful poetry in the Quran. He said, I've seen that before. So he took those 5 dots off, and he took the 3 vowels off, and replaced them with Syriac and Nabatean dots, or Nabatean Syriac, or Syriac documents. Put the Syriac dots back in and put the vowels back in. And guess what he found? That these beautiful poetry were Christian hymns, written by Christians about Jesus Christ. This was found in 1970. As a result of that, he was such an embarrassment for the academia there in Germany that though he received in his doctoral the Examen Opus, which is the highest grade you get in Germany, which means that you should be given a professorship in any university of your choice, he was thrown out of academia and he went into obscurity for 30 years. Lived on welfare with his wife. I met him in 1998. I said, can I see your doctorate? I took it back to England and I got it from Germany and put it into English. Now remember, when he writes, one sentence is 400 words long. That's how the academics do it in Germany. We had to bring it down so people could manage it. We got it written in English. They would not publish it there in Germany, so he had to get it published in India. But because of that, there you can see it right there, the challenge to Islam for Reformation. Don't read that. You should read the small print. He then was resurrected because it was all over the English-speaking world, and he died a happy man in 2014. Now, Dr. Christoph Luxemburg decided to go one step further. He's also a German, but that's not his real name, because he will be killed for what he has found. He decided to do what Gunther Lulling did, but he decided to look at the dark passages. 25% of the Quran no one understands. Not even the scholars understand it. A quarter of the Quran, even the scholars don't understand. Did you know that? Can you understand the whole Bible? Certainly you can. When Jack Kidd gets up here, does he open the Bible? Please say yes. Does he read it? Please say yes. Does he unpack it for you? And does he apply it to your lives? Why? Because you can understand every word of it. And you can understand it in English, right? Thank God for our Bible. But see, you can't do that with the Quran. You can't do that with the Quran. You can't understand these 25. So what are you going to do? Well, he decided to do what Gunther Lulling did, and he took and went to every one of those passages, and he went through 7 layers. I won't go and unpack each one of them. He went through 7 layers, taking off the vowels, taking off the dots, looking at the lexicon, looking and seeing if he could find any Arabic words. You couldn't find it. So he went to put the dots back and put the vowels in. He went to the lexicons and Syriac, and guess what he could find? He could reproduce all the 25%. All the dark passages he was able to reproduce. But what did he find? Once he took the Arab Quran and put it to its Aramaic roots, all the dark passages were Christian lectionaries, Christian homilies, and Christian hymns. Every lectionary homily hymn was about Jesus Christ. It had nothing to do with what they found, but who they found. Folks, there are 4 textual evolutions. I'm not going to go to them today, but can you see what we're doing? I want to ask the same question of the Quran and come to the same conclusion. Remember I said at the very beginning, the Muslims have 4 things they demand of the Quran. It must be eternal, it must be sent down, complete, and unchanged. I think we shut that down tonight, have we not? And we will not say the same thing about our Word of God, the Bible. But hold on a minute. Is the Bible the only Word of God we have? Don't we have someone who's also called the Word of God, the Logos? Jesus Christ? Let's apply those 4 to him. Is Jesus Christ eternal? Number 1. Was Jesus Christ sent down? Number 2. Is Jesus complete? Number 3. Is Jesus unchanged? Absolutely. Everything the Muslims need, we've got. That's the 4 criteria Muslims are looking for in their Quran as their primary revelation. We already have in Jesus Christ, our primary revelation. Folks, we need to bring them home to a much greater and a better revelation. And what's his name? What's his name? Oh, I love it. What a name. Let's pray. Our Heavenly Father, as we've gone and we've unpacked these 3 areas, we've looked at the book, the man, and the place, we've also looked at the sources. Lord, when we look at these and we realize just how hopeless and practical Islam is. When we look and see that this is not a man who lived in the 7th century. Oh, there were many people called Muhammad, the praised one. Possibly even you were called that when you were here. But Lord, when we look and see who he is and what has become of him and what they would put, it's not a man I want to follow. When we look at the Quran, we see that there was no Quran in the 7th century. There was not even a city called Mecca. Lord, everything they're dependent on those 3 things, we now just using 7th century, we have shut down. Lord, they still want to know you. They still want to believe in God. They still want to be brought home. And Lord, we're the only ones that can do that. Lord, I want to bring them back to a better God, a bigger God, a better book, a better Jesus, a bigger Jesus. I want to bring them back to you because we're the only have the antidote. Though we can shut it down, that's not any reason. I don't want to shut down their man-God book. I want to bring them back to our man-God book. Lord, that's something we've got to do. The atheists can't do this. The humanists can't do this because all they give them is nihilism in response. I love these Muslims. They're my favorite people. I worked with them for 40 years. I wouldn't be wasting my time if I didn't love them. I want them to know you. And the only way I do that is to bring them back to you. What a God you are, a God who enters time and space. What a God you are, a God who gave us his revelation. What a God you are, because you came and died for us and rose again. And that's the God they need to know. Lord, help every one of us who's here and those who are watching. Let's bring them home. Let's bring them home. In Christ's name we pray. Amen.
Whoa. What's that? Base 44. Guys, Nina just built an app.
I know most of my videos are
now Persia becomes Islam, and they have a trans. Anyway, this is my book. I published it 20 years ago, and it's a bestseller again on Islam. Now, this is a map. The red is the Roman Empire, and the white is Christianity. And it spreads all the way through the Middle East and over to northern India and Persia, and even to China with the Tang Dynasty, up into Europe, Britain, and then it's going to jump over with Patrick into Ireland, coming in the 400s, and there we go. And then North Africa is all Christian, and look down there. And then when we get up to around the year 622, something happens green. Whoa, conquering, all of that. Well, that is Islam. So we see these headlines of Christians being killed and genocides, and we see churches burning in Europe, and apologists say that if you're concerned about this, you're guilty of bigotry, spreading a Sharia hoax or conspiracy. They assume that they assure us that terrorism does not represent true Islam, but the terrorists are often yelling Allahu Akbar, and they claim they do represent true Islam. Well, who can tell us what true Islam is? One person, Muhammad. He's the best Muslim that ever lived. His life is called the Sunnah, the way or the example, and it went through 3 stages, and you cannot understand what is going on today unless you understand these 3 stages. He was a religious leader, then a political leader, then a military leader. And so this is the world before Muhammad. You have the Byzantine Christian Roman Empire, and see it goes all the way through the Middle East, and then you have the Persian Empire that is today, and it is Zoroastrian, and they beat each other up for centuries, and they leave a power vacuum, and into that comes Islam. So Muhammad's father and guardian dies when he's 8. He's orphaned, taken in by an uncle, Abu Talib, and he's a merchant who takes Muhammad on camel rides, and he hears about different religions. And so one religion was Manichaeism. See the word Mani, M-A-N-I. And this Mani person said that there's little bits of truth in every religion. And so Muhammad would have heard about this. And then there's the Persian Zoroastrian religion that believed paradise was filled full of virgins that would fulfill all the guy's desires. Muhammad heard this, and it got incorporated into his belief system. They also believed in jinns or genies, like 1,001 Arabian Nights. And then the pagans in Arabia had a... And the most popular was Hubal, the moon god. And their calendar began with the first sight of the crescent moon over the... Even the book of Judges, it talks about Zebun Zalmun, and they took away the crescent moon, half moon ornaments around their neck. Most of the female deity and a male deity associated with the sun or the moon. And so they had a rock they thought had fallen from the moon. It's a glass impact rock where a meteor hit the hot desert sand. And well, these pigs kissed this rock, walk around it, and Muhammad kissed this rock, and it got incorporated. And could not read. The word Quran means recitation. It's an oral thing. The Jews and Christians were called people of the book. So Muhammad never read the Old Testament, but he heard their orals from Talmud and Mishnah, and some of those stories got incorporated into his belief system. He originally had his followers bowing for Jerusalem for the first 17 months. And then Encyclopedia Britannica says the gospel was known to Muhammad chiefly through apocryphal and heretical sources. So what's apocryphal? Well, the infancy gospel of Thomas, written several centuries after Jesus by someone who knew nothing of Jewish life. It's filled full of so many errors that no scholar takes serious. Little Harry Potter type stories that Jesus made play birds and clap and they flew away, raised a playmate from the dead, spoke from the cradle. There's no place in ancient history that these stories appear other than this infancy gospel that nobody takes serious. Well, Muhammad heard these stories and they got incorporated into Islam. They take them now as fact. And Muhammad thought the Trinity was the Father, Mary, and Jesus. Nobody ever explained to him the Holy Spirit. And then you have a movement started by St. Anthony of the Desert of monasticism, where holy men would live in caves as hermits. And Muhammad heard about this, and I'll tell you a little bit more. One hermit was St. Benedict. He established the rule of Benedict, which was praying at set times of the day. So Muhammad heard about this, praying at set times of the day. So he's 25 years old in 595 AD, and he marries a wealthy widow, Khadijah. She's 40 years old. And so now he doesn't have to work, and he goes out to a cave and prays. And a spirit appears to him and commands him to read. He said, I cannot read. Spirit appears to him a second time, said, read. He said, I cannot read. Happens a third time. And then it squeezed him and he began to recite. And that's how the Quran came to Muhammad. He got these verses. He would repeat them until he got it memorized. And you think, well, how can somebody that's illiterate memorize all these verses? Well, in Arabic, they had a little rhyme to them, a little beat, very similar to rap music. So maybe there's a student that can't read, but they memorize rap songs. Thomas Carlyle wrote Arabs, see more method in it than we, much of it is rhythmic, a kind of wild chanting. And so he goes back to his wife Khadijah, and he tells her that he thinks he's demon possessed. In Ibn Ishaq's Sirat Rasul Allah, first biography of Muhammad, I thought, what was me, poet or possessed? And so Khadijah, his wife, decides to test the spirit. And according to Ibn Ishaq's life of Muhammad, Khadijah said to the apostle, are you able to tell me about the visitant when he comes to you? So when Jibreel, the spirit, came, the apostle said to Khadijah, this is Jibreel who has just come to me. Get up, O son of my uncle, she said, and sit on my left thigh. The apostle did so, and she said, can you see him? Yes, he said. Then turned around and said, on my right thigh. He said, can you see him? And when he said he could, she asked him to sit in her lap, and she again asked if he could see him. And when he said yes, she disclosed her form and cast aside her veil while the apostle was sitting in her lap. And she said, can you see him? And he replied, no. And she said, be of good heart, oh, by Allah, he is an angel and not a Satan. the spirit appearing to him was from God or not. Now, the Bible has a test, 1 John 4. Every spirit that does not acknowledge Jesus is not from God. This is the spirit of Antichrist. And Muhammad couldn't read the New Testament. He couldn't read 2 Corinthians 11:14. Even Satan can disguise himself to look like an angel of light. Or Galatians 1:8. Though we or an angel from heaven preach any other gospel unto you than that which we have preached unto you, let him be accursed. So Muhammad could never read the New Testament anyway. So Khadijah, the wife, takes Muhammad to her cousin, Waraq ibn Nawfal, who's a follower of a heretical sect of Ebionites that said Jesus was less than God, a created being. And he said maybe this is the spirit that appeared to Moses. And then the cousin dies, and Muhammad's left with the spirit. And in 610 AD, he goes into the city of Mecca, and he feels like there's something in his religion for everyone. Anarchism, there's something for the Jews, something for the Christians, something for the pagans, something for the Zoroastrians, and nobody likes it. And so he only makes 70 converts, gets confrontational. And when his uncle protector, Abu Talib, dies, and his wife dies, that's when the people of Mecca decide to chase Muhammad out of town. And he flees to Al-Taif. They don't want him. They pelt him with rocks and stones. So in 622 AD, he goes north to a Jewish city called Medina. And there are 3 Jewish tribe clans. They call them Banu, is the word for clan, that are there. So these are Jewish clans that do not like each other. They have intertribal warfare. Banu Hanukkah, Banu Nadir, Banu Quraysh, but they let Muhammad in as the first ever Muslim immigrant. And Muhammad goes into the minority neighborhoods, and he begins to organize a following, an ummah, a community. And when his following is big enough, he gets involved in politics. And he pressures the Jews. And so now Muhammad is a political leader in addition to being a religious leader. And then his followers get confrontational. They get chased out of Mecca. And now there's lots of Muslim immigrants coming into Medina. And Muhammad allows them to rob the caravans headed to Mecca in retaliation for the Meccans chasing them out of town. And so where Jesus said, if they take your coat, give them your shirt, his attitude was victimhood. We're the victims of Mecca's intolerance. Therefore, we are justified in attacking the caravans that are going back to Mecca. So where Jesus said, if they take your coat, give them your shirt, Muhammad is, if they take your house, you retaliate, take their caravan. And so victimhood went into the DNA of Islam. And it's where the victim is at fault for the attracting hostility. And so Sigmund Freud called it psychological projection, where they accuse you of what they're guilty of. And so claiming victimhood and being offended gave them an excuse to attack the caravans headed to Mecca. Sahih al-Bukhari, Muhammad said the person who participates in holy battles in Allah's cause will be recompensed by Allah either by reward or booty if he survives, or will be admitted to paradise if he 3350 prophet, we have made lawful to you the slave girls Allah has given you as booty. So you can attack a caravan and come away with extra women. When the messenger of Allah sent out a raiding party, he would say, make your raids in the name of Allah, fight whoever denies Allah, do not steal from the booty. Why? Because Surah 841, whatever you take as spoils of war, a fifth thereof is for Allah and for the messenger. So Muhammad got a fifth of the booty from robbing caravans. And so he told his jihad fighters that they get 4 wives plus as many extra women as they take in battle, as many as your right hand possesses, slave wives, concubines, and so forth. So 624 AD, the Meccans send 1,000 soldiers to protect their caravan, and Muhammad with 300 defeats 1,000 at the Battle of Badra in 624 AD. So this amazing victory, outnumbered 3-1, convinces Muhammad to be a military leader, and he fights in 66 battles and raids, killing an estimated 3,000 people in the next 8 years before he dies. And so he goes from being a religious leader to a political leader to a military leader. So there's freedom for all religions in America. But Islam is not just a religion, because Muhammad was not just a religious leader. He was also a political leader and a military leader. So a mosque is a religious building, a political building, and a military building. Bowing to Mecca is a religious bowing and a political military pledging of allegiance to another capital. It's a whole different system. It's like if a gang comes in and like an MS-13, they decide they want to take over a neighborhood. They have their laws and their rules. So 624, there's some more raids and more battles. 625, more raids and battles, and 626. And then 627 is the Battle of the Trench. And the Meccans send 10,000 soldiers to Medina, and Muhammad digs trenches all around the city, which renders the cavalry of the Meccans useless. You can't charge your horse across a field full of potholes and trenches, they'll break their legs. So Muhammad goes to some of the Meccans at night, bribes them, they slip away. Some of the other Meccans at night threatens them, they slip away, sort of the bribe or the bullet. And then it gets freezing cold for a week, and the rest of the Meccans lose heart and retreat. And Muhammad considers this a victory that his enemies were cowards and unable to subdue him. And then he has some more battles at Khaybar and attacks and so forth. And but what happened to those 3 Jewish clans that let Muhammad in? Well, the Banu Qanuqa, Muhammad accused them of violating the treaty, declared it void, and expelled them. The other 2 clans stood back because they didn't like it. They had Trump arrangements in them. They're like, I hate that clan. They had it coming to them, right? And so now there's only 2 Jewish clans. And so then Muhammad accuses the second one of violating their treaty and voids it and expels them. And the big Jewish clan stands back. Oh, they were always competition for me. I just hate them. And now there's only 1 Jewish clan. And by the way, it went into the DNA of Islam. It's called Hudna. When we make treaties until you get strong enough to disregard them. We're seeing that we're trying to make a treaty with Iran right now, and it's really hard to get about it because of this. The last Jewish tribe, the Banu Qurayza. The Sahih al-Bukhari, when Allah's apostle returned on the day of Battle of the Trench, he put down his arms and took a bath. Then Jibreel, that spirit whose head was covered with dust, came to him saying, you have put down your arms. By Allah, I have not put down my arms yet. Allah's apostle said, where to go now? The Jibreel said this way, pointing toward the tribe, the Banu Qurayza, the last Jewish tribe. And so the Bukhari says, Sayyid said, I judge that their warriors should be killed and the children and women should be taken as captives. The prophet said, you have given a judgment similar to Allah. They surround them for 25 days. When the last Jewish tribe surrenders, he brings them into the market and removes their head. My wife's always telling me, don't get into the gross stuff. Anyway, so within 5 years of Muhammad coming as an immigrant into the Jewish city of Medina, there's not a Jew left in the city of Medina. They were chased out, killed, and enslaved. So when Mandami, 2 months ago, said Islam is a religion built on a narrative of migration, the story of the Hijra, that's the Muhammad's trip to Medina. The story of the Hijra reminds us that the Prophet Muhammad was a stranger too, who fled Mecca and was welcomed in Medina. And 5 years later, there was not a Jew left in Medina. They were chased out, killed, and enslaved. So it's a 3-step process. Like Caesar's 3 steps, Veni, Vidi, Vici, I came, I saw, I conquered. It's immigrate, increase, eliminate. Immigrate into a host country as a religious refugee. And then you have random outbreaks of violence, knifings, acid attacks, and so forth. And the previous inhabitants of the neighborhood no longer feel safe, and they move out and they take over the neighborhood. Right? Immigrate, increase, eliminate. I was doing an interview with Ryan Hilfenbein of Liberty University, and he reworded it, immigrate, populate, dominate. So they can come in and have 4 wives and put them in apartments and tell them to go down to the welfare office and say the husband's not around, and they get welfare checks. And the guy visits the wives, and the more children they have, the larger the welfare checks get. And but it's interesting how we took advantage of the political division between these 3 Jewish clans. And again, that went into the DNA. They'll always see that the different, and we'll help your party against the other party, not realizing they will use any party as long as Now, there's 2 sets of verses in the Quran. The ones he gets in Mecca are a little more moderate. They're called weak verses. And the ones he gets in Medina are more political and military. They're called strong verses. By way of comparison, in the Bible, we have 2 sets of verses. We have the Old Testament with some violence. Moses and Joshua wiping out tribes. New Testament, Jesus and the apostles never killed anybody. And so what do we say? The later example is the one we're going to try to imitate. It's Their peaceful verses came first when Muhammad was a religious leader in Mecca, and they're superseded by the later verses that are political and military. And so Muhammad dies, and the wife of Muhammad says, the messenger of Allah called Zainab, did you poison the lamb's shoulder? She said, you killed my father, my uncle, my husband, you took from my people what you took. I said to myself, if he is a prophet, he'll be informed. And so Sahih al-Bukhari, the prophet in his ailment in which he died, used to say, I still feel the pain caused by the food I ate. This time I feel that my aorta is being cut out from that poison. And so within 5 years of Muhammad's death, every pre-existing culture in Arabia is conquered. And then it has, again, a tribal gang aspect to it where you're free to join, you just can't leave, right? You can have young brides, you get part of the booty, and Muhammad just promised booty in the next life. So the goal is a one world government led by one Muslim leader called the Caliph, political, religious, military. So there's two ways of advancing Islam, the fast way and the slow way. The fast way is through the sword, jihad. The slow way is through immigration, called dawah. They actually have a word for it, D-A-W-A-H, dawah. And so Henry Ford did not like unions. And so he had an idea of bringing over Arabs, Yemeni, Syrian, and from Lebanon, because they would not join unions. And so they started coming over, and they would work hard, and they would be nice, and they wouldn't join unions. And so you see, they actually have videos on him specifically bringing Arabs from Yemen over to work in the car factories there in Detroit for $5 a day. And so they came over, they worked hard, and they were nice. People said that they work hard, they don't join unions, let more in. More come in, and they work hard, and they're nice, and more come in. And then finally, they get an imam. And so in 1921, the very first imams came to America. The Sunni Imam Hussein Karoub and the Shia Imam Sheikh Ali Bazi. And they built the first purpose-built mosque in America near the Ford factory, Island Park, Detroit. And there's pictures of it, and they expanded, and I've seen it, I've been there. And so now, 1928, the Muslim Brotherhood is formed. Now, this is after World War I. There's a whole history that I talk about in my book. But World War I, you have leaders in the Middle East wanting to be westernized. You have Ataturk in Turkey, and he's dressing in business suits. And Abdullah was king of Jordan. He's nice to the Jews and Fazl. And the Arab Muslim world is becoming more westernized, but the Muslim Brotherhood doesn't like it. And so they formed, and they have a two-step plan based on the two cities Muhammad lived in. The Muslim Brotherhood would say, first, you immigrate into a country as a religious refugee, like Muhammad came in from Mecca, and then you transition and become a political militant Muslim, and you assassinate. And so that's what happened in these different countries. The Meccan faith immigrate as a religious refugee, take advantage of the host countries' welfare and tolerance, and then you switch, gain political power, implement Sharia, and then have random violence to drive out previous inhabitants. And they would do this all these different countries, and as they assassinated Abdullah Jordan, they tried assassinating Ataturk, they assassinated Anwar Sadat in Egypt. And then here's a Fox News article, members of the first U.S. Muslim majority city council. Today we show the Polish. So they came into Detroit, the Hamtramck area, and then they increased and they drove out the previous inhabitants. And now they have calls to prayer 5 times a day in Hamtramck. And so they guilt trip Christians into being tolerant of them, yet when they come in, they don't extend the same tolerance to the infidels. And culturally, you study enough history, you see trends. Europe goes from a Judeo-Christian Europe with 1,000 years of Catholic cathedrals, Protestant Reformation, and Jewish neighborhoods to a secular Europe with the French Revolution, free sex, anything goes, LGBT, you got to tolerate this, tolerate that, tolerate everything. And then finally, into Europe comes the Sharia Muslims, and they say, well, you got to tolerate us too, and they end up overpopulated, right? And so the number one name for newborns in Europe is, guess what? Muhammad. And so there's a 1,400-year track record of seeing this expansion. And it's broken into several phases. First is an Arab, then Persian, Egyptian phase, then a Turkish, India's mud halls in northern India. Indonesia has the Nusantara. They mixed in a little Buddhist traditions, and so they became a little more moderate. And then the Dutch took over Indonesia. And whenever an imam would speak out violence against the Dutch would arrest the imam. Another one would speak out, and they would arrest that imam and arrest that. The first imam said, let's not talk violence. And it went into their culture. And so in Indonesia, they have a more tolerant version of Islam than the rest of the world. Back to Muhammad. They would not have conquered so fast had it not been for the timing of some military advancements called the stirrup. Greeks and Romans would sort of balance on a horse, but the stirrup was invented in northern India and in Mongolia, where they have a little short horse and tie a rope around it, leave 2 loops hanging for their big toes because they would ride barefoot. And that made its way to Persia, who made the stirrups out of metal with leather straps. Have you ever ridden a horse? You put your feet in? This gave you control in the saddle. At the same time, the scimitar sword is invented. It's made of Damascus steel, where the Europeans had heavy metal swords. The scimitar sword was they hammer it down on itself, stick it back in the forge in the fire, heat it up, bend it on top, and then hammer it down, bend it. And they would do that dozens and dozens, and it kept getting thinner and thinner and stronger like a razor blade. One hand, scimitar sword on the other, and at a full gallop, they literally could slice someone in half. This is the U.S. Supreme Court chamber in Washington, D.C. has a frieze carvings around the ceiling, and it has Moses areas with the Ten Commandments, and it has Muhammad. It's there, with this sword, and this is Muhammad's sword. It still exists in Istanbul, Turkey, in the Topkapi Palace. I've been there. And so that they began to conquer Yemen. Down the bottom used to be a Jewish kingdom, and then they conquered Syria. Did you know Syria was the first country that was completely Christian? Christian was first used in Syria until Caliph Umar conquers it, and then Jerusalem was Christian. And when the Muslims attacked, the bishop, the patriarch, negotiated a deal. Instead of 2 choices, convert or die, you get a third choice. You can be a dhimmi, a second-class citizen that pays taxes to your new Muslim overlords. And so that's where you come into maybe Minneapolis, and they have no problem living off the welfare of the country that they're in the process of subduing. And then they conquered into Armenia, into parts of Persia, and then Egypt. Did you know Egypt was completely Christian for 6 centuries? That's longer than America's been around. Evangelized by Mark, that wrote the Gospel, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. And then they conquered North Africa. There used to be 250 Catholic dioceses along North Africa. St. Augustine of Hippo was from Carthage. But by the way, the Christians had taught themselves not to be involved. Remember the movement of going into a cave and praying? Well, the spiritual people in North Africa said, okay, if you're really spiritual, you'll withdraw and you'll enjoy your own personal relationship and you won't defend. And so the Umayyad Muslims just conquered North Africa really quick. It's interesting, when they conquered Egypt, the Byzantine Christians of Constantinople were persecuting the Coptic Christians in Egypt. So Coptic is the Egyptian word for Egyptian. And so the Muslims, Emir ibn Allah, orders of Egypt, and says, we will help you Coptic Christians drive out the Byzantine Christians. And we're like, really? You're so nice? Yeah, come on in. Well, they come in, they take over, and then they cut out the tongues of anybody caught speaking Coptic, and they eradicated an entire language. That was the mad Caliph al-Hakim. And then this is the Umayyad Empire. It's the 5th largest empire in world history, from Spain to India. And it all happened within about 20 years. Why? Because of the scimitar sword and the stirrups, and promising the soldiers that they could get booty, and if they died, they get more. And so then they crossed into Spain. And Spain was a bunch of Visigothic along. And so the Muslims came in. Tariq was the general, and he landed at a mountain, and the word for mountain is Jabal. So they called it Jabal Tariq. Jabal, where Tariq lands with tens of thousands of Muslims on their scimitar swords. that. I never liked that one. They were competition for me. And then they pick on another one. I never liked that one. Right? They had come to. I'm glad they're gone. And in 10 years, they conquered all Spain. And then they crossed the Pyrenees Mountains and they conquered southern France. And they're outside of Paris at the Battle of Tours in 732 AD, just 100 years after the death of Muhammad in 632 AD. So Charles Martel is the general. He puts his men on top of the hill in a square, and the horses don't like charging uphill, and they don't like charging into the square. And then Charles Martel sent some of his men into the Muslim camp. And the Muslim warriors would leave the fight to reclaim their stuff. And they get distracted, and the commander, Abdul Rahman, tries to rally his men back, and he gets distracted and killed. And they can't decide who their next commander is going to be, so they pick up and go back to Spain. Battle of Tours in 732 AD, just 100 years in 632 AD. And so the first century of Islam is a military campaign. And they look to that as the example of how a pure follower of Muhammad is supposed to act, the same way we look to the first century of Christianity. All right, the early church, how did they do it? They had it right? So we want to follow that. And so then they come around the other side of the Mediterranean and they attack Constantinople, which was the largest Christian city in the world, but they returned back because the Greeks had Greek fire. It's like sawdust and oil out of these hot oil like napalm. And so it turned back. And when they conquered all that so fast, they cut off trade across the Mediterranean. One thing traded was paper from papyrus reeds in the Nile Delta. So there's a paper shortage in Europe. They write fewer books, and it's called the Dark Ages. So Islam is largely responsible for Europe entering the Dark Ages. And they destroyed the largest library in the world in Alexandria. And they asked Khalid Umar what to do with the books. And he says, every book that does not agree with the Quran, destroy, and every book that does agree with the Quran is redundant, because we have the Quran to destroy them all. It took 6 months to burn them all. 846 AD, 11,000 Muslim pirates went up the Tiber River and they sacked Rome. And they trashed the Basilica of St. Peter's, and they trashed the grave of St. Peter and St. Paul. So Pope Leo IV built a 39-foot wall around the Vatican. And it's still there. I went to school in Roman college, and I've been at that bus stop many times. And then they conquered Persia. The Caliph, Khalid ibn al-Walid is nicknamed the Drawn Sword of Allah. He's undefeated in 100 battles. And so Persia had been weakened from that 7th century war with the Byzantine Romans, right? And so the Muslims conquered Persia. Now, Persia was civilized. Where Arabs were illiterate desert raiders, the Persians, you got Cyrus, you got Daniel, you got Esther. And so now you see a moderating effect on Islam. And it's called the Islamic Golden Age. And you have the Sunni Caliph al-Rashid in Baghdad, and he's moderate. And he has Buddhists in his court and Christians in his court, even lets women talk in his court. So this is called the Islamic Golden Age. It's a moderate version. He has this big city of Baghdad. And he even receives ambassadors from Charlemagne, the grandson of Charles Martel. And he sends back presents like a clock and 1001 Arabian Nights. And they have this huge library. And he has scholars. One is Al-Farabi, and he's trying to study science, philosophy. Avicenna is trying to study medicine and math. And Averroes is studying geography and medicine. And if you were to take a snapshot, you would have thought that Islam's about to experience the Renaissance. But he gets slapped down by this guy, Ghazali, the second most important Muslim after Muhammad. And he said, stop reading Greek stuff. One that should restrain anyone who would immerse himself in these mathematical sciences. Among the foundations of the philosopher sciences, the student will be infected by the evil and corruption of the philosopher. And so study the Quran. And so where Europe has St. Thomas Aquinas, it's okay to read Greek stuff. Even a pagan gets it right every now and then. In Islam, they said no. And finally, the Mongols come. Now, Genghis Khan kills 30 million people from Korea to Hungary. The Persians in Baghdad hire Turks as mercenaries to defend against the Mongols. Well, the Mongols come in and they sack Baghdad. They destroy that big library. And basically, from this point on, Persia is diminished and the Turks become the rising Islamic power. And now, be so with me. So it takes 700 years to drive the Muslims out of Spain. It's called the Reconquista. 700 years, very courageous battles. And Charlton Heston, I met him when I ran for Congress years ago. He was the head of the NRA, and I got my picture with him. But anyway, in this movie, he's El Cid, who's his commander, and he's wounded. And he knows just one more charge and they'll win, but he knows he's going to die. So he tells him to tie him to the horse with a board of his. And they open the castle gates, and they slap the horse, and he goes off riding the men. Say, there he goes, and they ride off, and they win the battle. And afterwards, they're like, where's El Cid? And he's like, trooped over in his saddle. It's one of those romantic chick flicks. Hey, honey, let's go watch El Cid tonight. And then the Vikings become Christian, and they're called Norsemen. And so they take Normandy. William the Norman in 1066, go invade England. But Richard the Norman drives the Muslims out of Sicily and the toe of Italy. And so I've actually been to Constantinople, and the Muslims, the Vikings, the Christian Vikings, had come through Constantinople and sacked it for a while. And in the Hagia Sophia, that big church, it has a second floor with a marble railing, and you can see this square carvings. It's Viking graffiti in the marble. And it's like Olaf was here. Anyway, so what about the Crusades? So now this is the Turkish way. And so you can see this, the Turks first are the Seljuk Turks, and they're invading into Turkey. And then you got the Fatimids down in Cairo, Egypt. And so the mad caliph in Cairo is Hakim. He forbade Christians from praying publicly. Why is he important? Because it's because of him. He forbade Christians from praying publicly, made them wear heavy crosses, made Jews wear bells, forbade women from leaving their homes, banned women's shoes, killed all the dogs in Egypt, ordered everyone to sleep during the day. But in 1009, he destroys the holiest site in Christianity, the Church of the Holy Sepulchre in Jerusalem. This is the church where Jesus rose from the dead, right? Or at least where they thought he was. And so this is the cry that begins to go back to Europe. And he's also the one that cut out the tongues of the people speaking Coptic, but I don't want to get into that. Anyway, so the Seljuk Turks, all 7 churches mentioned in the book of Revelation were wiped out by the Seljuk Turks. Ephesus and Thyatira and Sardis and Laodicea. And the most popular Greek saint was Saint Nicholas. He lived during Roman times, gave to the poor. Remember that movement where you give away your money, live in a cave? So he wanted to give away his money, but he didn't want to do it and get the credit, so he would throw the money in the window of poor people at nighttime. It was a Greek tradition, but when the Muslims invaded Greece, they were going to trash his grave, so the Christians moved the grave of St. Nicholas to Italy. And the pope that receives Nicholas's remains is Pope Urban II. And he goes to the Council of Clermont in 1095, and he begs these European kings to send help to the Greek Christians. They do. It's called the First Crusade. And then there's 9 major crusades over 2 centuries. Richard the Lionheart led the 3rd crusade. Remember, he left his brother King John in charge of England. Remember the Robin Hood story, right? That's the 3rd crusade. And St. Louis, I'm from St. Louis, Missouri originally, and he led the 7th and 8th crusade against the Muslims. Crusades end, and the Muslims pick up where they left off, and they invade into Eastern Europe and Serbia and Wallachia, Moldova, and Hungary, and different countries. And meanwhile, a Genghis Khan descendant that converted to Islam is Tamerlane. He kills 17 million across Central Asia, wipes out every Christian church in Central Asia, tells his men to come back with a head in every hand when he conquered Delhi, India. And so now the Byzantine Empire, remember that first slide that showed you how big it was? The little purple is what's left. And the same thing happens. You have the last emperor is Constantine XI. He has a brother Demetrius. And Demetrius felt like he should have been chosen as the last emperor. So Demetrius goes across the Bosporus, gathers the Muslim hordes, and brings them to the walls of Constantinople to try to force his brother to recognize his claim to royalty. Again, he's got this TDS. He's like, I hate my brother, and they have my party against his, and all that. They're going to help me. And the Muslim hordes, the Turks said, well, we can wage war against Constantinople without Demetrius. Anyway, Sultan Mahmud II attacks. You even see that big cannon over there. You had European arms merchants giving military weapons to the Turks, and it conquers in 1453. Now, why is this significant? Well, because they take the largest Christian church in the world, turn it into a mosque. Marco Polo came to around the world. He went from Venice, Italy to China in 12. Brings back to Europe spaghetti noodles. Did you know they came from China? Gunpowder, thread from worms, paper currency, silk. And but when the Muslims conquered Constantinople, that's when Columbus set sail looking for a sea route to get to India and China in 1492. Columbus would have never set sail over here had it not been for a jihad over there. Columbus thought he made it to India, so he names the people he met Indians. We never would have called Native Americans Indians had it not been for Islamic jihad. And so as they're conquering into Greece, how many of you knew that? And so as they're conquering into Greece, the Greek scholars are fleeing west to Florence, Italy, with their Greek New Testaments and their Greek art and literature, and this is called the Renaissance. So Islam is responsible for the Dark Ages when they conquered Egypt, pulled back the ships of papyrus, and then when they conquered Greece, all the Greek scholars are fleeing west with their Greek literature, and this is the Renaissance. And one scholar, Erasmus, translates the Bible from Greek into Latin, and they see differences of meanings of words. Like in the Greek, when there's a word that means repentance, but when it was translated into Latin, it was translated penance. And it's a pretty significant difference because doing penance is works, where repentance is a change of heart. And so it was now that Erasmus, because of the Greek scholars fleeing west and they could translate the Greek, Erasmus is translating, and one of the people that's his friend is Martin Luther. And he starts the Reformation. We may not have had a Reformation for the Muslims invading Greece and the Greek scholars fleeing west. Anyway, like the domino effect. 1529, 100,000 Muslim Turks surround Vienna. And the Sultan Suleiman the Magnificent and the King of France makes a treaty with the Sultan against Spain. And France says, okay, I hate Spain and the Turks hate Spain. So for 3 centuries, France was always giving military weapons to the Turks. And so Spain has Charles V. He's taking the gold from the New World to fit out his navy to stop the Muslims from taking over Europe. And so Martin Luther says the Turk is the rod of the wrath of the Lord our God. The fight against the Turks must begin with repentance. We must reform our lives or we shall fight in vain. Our sins and ingratitude earn God's wrath. So he justly gives into the hands of the devil and the Turk. What's he talking about? Deuteronomy 28, blessings and cursings. If you hearken to the voice of the Lord, you'll be the head, not the tail, above and not beneath. If you don't hearken to the voice of the Lord, stranger will come in amongst you, and they'll get up high above you, and they will be the head and you'll be the tail. So how did God judge ancient Israel when they sinned? He let the stranger come in. The Amalekite, the Hittite, the Moabite, the Termite, the Skedite, the Perizzite, the Millerite, all the ites, right? And so they would come in and they would rise up and oppress the Israelites until they repented. And then when they repented, God raised up a deliverer. And it's sort of like dead and dying things attract devourers. A dead dog's going to attract buzzards. A dead bird's going to attract ants. And a spiritually dead and dying nation is going to attract devourers. Well, what do you do when you're under judgment? You repent really fast. And in Jeremiah, it says, if I pronounce judgment on a nation and they repent, I'll change it. I won't judge them. It's like magnet attracting judgment. And when you repent, it flips it and it repels the judgment and it attracts God's blessings. And all repentance is individual. Start with me. Each of us return to our first love. John Calvin, I hear the sad condition of your Germany. The Turk again prepares to wage war with a larger force who will stand up to oppose his marching throughout the land at his mere will and pleasure. John Wesley, ever since the religion of Islam appeared in the world, espousing love and as wolves and tigers to all other nations, rending and tearing all that fell into their merciless paws. Thomas Aquinas, Muhammad seduced the people by promises of carnal pleasure. Those who believed in him were brutal men, desert wanderers. Muhammad forced others to become his followers by the violence of his arms. And so this is the huge area that they controlled and had influence, and the Europeans began to push back. So have you ever heard of San Juan Capistrano? If you know who he is. Well, when 50,000 Turks are invading Belgrade, Serbia, the Pope, Callistus, sends this 70-year-old priest, San Juan Capistrano, to go and encourage the defenders. And when the Muslims are breaking through, he grabs a cross and he runs toward where the Muslims are coming in. And his soldiers see him and they say, well, let's join him. And they fight and they surprise the Turks. The Turks didn't expect this and they defeat him. And so he's called the Soldier Saint. And so they have a city in California named after San Juan. You will never think of that city again. When you drive by, hey, 1456, that's when they stopped the Turks. And then the Turks were defeated at the Battle of Malta in 1565. 40,000 Turks on ships are playing cannonballs. And the 70-year-old head of the Knights of Malta, Jean Lavalette, gathers the young men and they push back. And then the Turks are defeated at the Battle of Lepanto, October 7th, 1571. 230 of the Turkish ships, powered by 15,000 Christian slaves under the deck. And the Holy League, led by Don John of Austria, the son of Charles V of Spain. Remember Charles V of Spain? And so he has, the wind is against the Holy League. He gets all the men on deck. They pray. While they're praying, the wind changes 180 degrees. And the Holy League sail fills up, and the Muslim sails see on the right. They all get limp, and he charges together, and they capture or sink 200 of the 230 Muslim ships. And then, when you have 200,000 Muslims around Vienna on September 11th, 1683, the Polish king Jan Sobieski has his huge cavalry charge, and they defeat the Turks. And so he's considered the savior of Western Europe. Now, when the Muslims left so fast, they left their tension plate. Here's a Teddy Roosevelt quote: "From Hammer Charles Martel to the story of Jan Sobieski, Christianity owed its safety in Europe to the fact it could fight as well as the Mohammedan aggressor." So when they won the Battle of Vienna, September 11th, 1683, and the Turks fled, they left their tension plates. And Jan Sobieski's men go into the tent, and they find these bags of beans, coffee beans. And they realized this was the new Turkish Muslim drink that allowed them to fight day and night. And but they weren't sure if they should drink it because, by the way, the coffee bean came from Ethiopia in Africa, which was the one African country to stay Christian, the Christians in Ethiopia. And so since the Muslims called the Christians in Ethiopia kafirs, which means infidel, and the bean came from Ethiopia, they called it the kafir bean or the infidel bean. So have you had your cup of infidel today? But they weren't sure if they should drink it, so they took a cup of it to Pope Clement, and he tasted it and said, this is too good to leave for the Muslims, let's baptize it. And then coffee spread across Europe. Now, as the Turks were invading Vienna, they would tunnel under the walls, lay explosives, and then blow it up in the portion of the wall. The baker was up early in Vienna, and he heard the noise under the ground. And so the soldiers put out buckets of water, and they could see where the ripples were, and they dug, and they intercepted the tunnel, and they saved Vienna. So afterwards, they were going to reward the baker for warning him. He said, I don't need a reward. Just give me the sole permission to cook a pastry in the shape of the Muslim crescent, and it was called a croissant. So the next time you have coffee and croissants, you can celebrate the victory of the Battle of Vienna, September 11th, 1683. Now, some definitions: the word Islam means submission to the will of Allah. A Muslim is one who has submitted to the will of Allah, and they think there'll be world peace when the whole world submits to the will of Allah. So it is a religion of peace. It's just their definition of world peace is world Islam. So this Lincoln said, we all declare for liberty, but using the same word, we do not all mean the same thing. Right? We all want peace, but when we say the word, well, it's different than when they say. The world divided into the house of Islam, or submission, and war. It's supposed to be at war. And what about moderate Muslims? Most Muslims are moderate. moderate Muslims believe the world will submit to Allah later, maybe in the distant future, maybe at the end of the world, maybe it's even figurative. And since it's so far off, they really don't think about it, and they just want to live their lives, and they're wonderful people, and they want to have you as a neighbor and family and friend. And the fundamental Muslim is just as happy to kill a moderate Muslim as they are to kill an infidel, because they view the moderate Muslims as having departed from the way of Allah, not being the political and religious and military. And so people say, why don't they stand up more? Well, if the terrorists do a terrorist attack and the non-Muslim world comes down really hard, the moderate Muslim is happy to be under the Western umbrella and enjoy the freedoms and so forth. But if the terrorists do an attack and the non-Muslim world does not come down hard, worse, gives them weapons like $85 billion worth left in Afghanistan, or gives them money, the moderate Muslim's like, well, if you're not going to defend us and they're threatening to kill us, I guess we have to lean in this direction, right? And so that's the dilemma that we face. Psychologist Nikolai Sennels, Muslims instinctively see our lack of reaction as fear as an invitation to attack. So it's wrong to kill the innocent, but those who depart from the way of Allah are not innocent. Allah loveth not those who reject the faith, be ruthless to the infidel, make war on the infidels, fight those who believe not in Allah, kill the disbeliever wherever we find them. And so where most of them are moderate, you do have people like Adjem Choudary, Islam for UK, who said we have to be like Muhammad. Christians want to be like Jesus, and Muslims want to be like Muhammad. Pretty simple, except. And they want to live like Jesus to show the rest of the world how much God loves them. That's what Islam is. Example. And even Muhammad did not know what was going to happen to him. Though I'm the messenger of Allah, I do not know what will be done with me. And so what is permitted, it is called halal. What Muhammad did not permit is not permitted, it is called haram. So Muhammad liked cats. Cats are halal. They are permitted. Muhammad did not like dogs. Dogs are haram. They're not permitted. So Islam is a long list of halals and harams, a long list of do's and don'ts, and the local imam keeps the list. And is this permitted? Yes, that's halal. Is this permitted? No, that's haram. But why is it haram? I'm sorry, you cannot ask why. But I really want to know. If you doubt, you're an infidel and you get killed. So most Muslims do not even know what I taught you today, right? They just have the rules that they're supposed to follow. Now, Sharia law comes from the Quran, which has those two different cities, those two different verses, the more moderate ones in Mecca and then the more violent ones in Medina. It's compiled in 652 by Caliph Uthman per Islamic tradition. It's interesting because that first generation of Islam, they're all illiterate, so it's all oral. So there is room for people saying, well, maybe he really didn't exist. Maybe it's a compilation, because we don't know, because Caliph Uthman said, sent a message to Hafsa, send us the manuscripts of the Quran so we may compile the Quranic materials. Uthman ordered that all the other Quranic materials, whether written in fragmentary manuscripts or copies, be burned. So the Quran is the most undocumented book on purpose, because they destroyed the source. And then you have scholars, and Jay Smith has said this, that Semitic and Arabic languages, and research indicates that a whole lot of the Quran seems to be copied from Syriac and Aramaic Christian hymns of the 5th century, and then it's now Persia becomes Islamic, and they have translations and an evolution of Islam in the Persian people, and then the Turks control these documents for 700 years, and there's evidence that they made alterations to fit in with their theology. And anyway, that's the Quran. Now the Hadith is 9,000 stories remembered about Muhammad from the warriors. They're all hearsay. I heard somebody say that they heard somebody say that they heard somebody say Muhammad said. And then there's the Sirat, the biography of Muhammad, written a century or so after his death. And then there's the Reliance of the Traveler, which is the jurisprudence taught at Egypt's Al-Azhar University. And then there's 1,400 years of rulings called fatwas, 4 Sunni schools and 1 Shia. It's complicated. We have an 8th Amendment, no cruel or unusual punishment. Sharia says cut off the hand of thieves. We say that you punish the person that perpetrates the crime. In Islam, they punish the victim. So a woman who's been violated is punished 100 times for allowing herself to be used as a tool of Satan to tempt a man. So the women have to wear the burqa to look unattractive on purpose. Right? Polygamy, we have laws. It's one man, one woman, but it's in Sharia. It says if you were to marry them, marry other women of your choice, 2, 3, or 4. And we have equality, but in Sharia, it takes 2 women's testimony to equal 1 man's testimony, because a woman's mind is deficient. Muhammad said that. And then age of consent laws. Muhammad had a dream 2 nights in a row of him marrying a 6-year-old. And this is the hadith. Allah's messenger said to me, you were showing me twice in my dream. Anyway, Muhammad was a white Arab. And who among you is Muhammad? We replied, the white man reclining on his arm. Another hadith. I was riding behind, my knee was touching the thigh of the Prophet, and I saw the whiteness of the Prophet's thigh. Muhammad was a white Arab who owned black slaves, like Bilal, and here's a hadith. Muhammad had many male and female slaves. He once sold 1 black slave for 2, which is sort of interesting that you could have in certain communities. They say, oh, Christianity is a white man's religion, Islam's a black man's religion. It's like, Muhammad was a white man. And then they not only raided caravans, they would raid the coasts of Europe. And so they enslaved over 1 million Europeans. And there were whole Catholic orders through the Middle Ages called the Trinitarians, who would raise money and collect alms to ransom Christians out of slavery. They even stole an entire village of Baltimore, Ireland in the 1600s. And they enslaved tens of millions of Africans, and went on for centuries. Then they would sell them to those terrible slave traders who would bring them to the New World. And in Europe, they would capture a Christian town and make the Christians give a bevy of young boys every year to the Muslims to be raised as Janissary soldiers to attack the next Christian city. They'd use the children of the Christians to attack the Christians. And if the boys were pretty, they went into their pederasty. I won't get into that. But he continued with David Livingstone, the missionary to the Congo. And he would stumble across hundreds of Africans shackled together, being forced to march hundreds of miles to the coast to be sold into Muslim slavery. And it still goes on today. And Sudan and Mauritania, Eric Metaxas is a good friend. He works with Christian Solidarity International that raises money to rescue Christians slavery in Sudan. There's another Exodus 51. There are 4 million Christians in Pakistan who are slaves making mud bricks their entire lives. And for $430, you can rescue a Christian out of slavery in Pakistan. So Supreme Court Justice Robert Jackson wrote, the law of the Middle East is the antithesis of Western law. That's why people are saying, hey, we don't want Sharia in America. And now another site, Muhammad had a daughter, Fatima, married to Ali, and their followers are Shiite Ali, or Shiite. And 15% of Muslims are Shiite, mostly in Iran. Muhammad had a general, Abu Bakr, you know him because Abu Bakr fought alongside Muhammad in all his battles, and he knew the way. And so the word for the way is Sunni. And so about 85% of Muslims are Sunni. And now Hussein is the son of Ali, and he was killed by the Sunni at the Battle of Karbala in 680. This started a blood feud between the Sunni and the Shia that has gone on ever since. And when Iran became Shia Islam, they adopted this 12 where Muhammad and then Ali, and there's 12 blood descendants of Muhammad called Sharifs. And the 12th one was Muhammad al-Mahdi. And he is a little boy, and he disappears from history and in 874 AD. Well, the Shiite Muslims think he has been hiding in a cave for 1,200 years. And if they can create a world war, then he'll come out of the cave, and he will help bring back their version of Christ, which is our version of the Antichrist. And together, this hidden Mahdi and this Antichrist will kill all the Jews and kill all the Christians and set up a global government called the Caliphate. So where communists have nuclear weapons, but they're not in a hurry to use them, the Shiite 12er Muslims in Iran want to create a world war so that they can usher in their end times eschatology. And so there's 12 descendants of Muhammad. And now Muhammad, the Christianity is the largest religion in the world, about a third. Islam's the second largest religion in the world. And so let's compare. Jesus never killed anybody. Muhammad killed an estimated 3,000 people. Jesus never led armies. Muhammad led armies. Jesus never owned slaves. Muhammad owned slaves. Jesus never married. Muhammad had anywhere from 11 to 22 wives. Jesus never tortured anybody. Muhammad stretched the chief of Khaybar out on the ground and kindled fire on his chest because he wouldn't tell where the treasure was hidden. Jesus didn't lie. Muhammad permitted lying to infidels to help advance Islam. Jesus forgave insults. Father forgive him. Muhammad avenged insults. And in Christianity, Jesus said something difficult, and many disciples walked with him no more. He didn't run after him and say, oh, come back. No, he said, there's the 12. You want to go to? There's the door. Jesus never forced anybody to follow him. Muhammad said, whoever changes his Islamic religion, kill him. So it's like Hotel California. You're free to come in, you just can't leave. And so Jesus, and it's interesting. You read the Christian history, and it's like, there was nobody to take care of them. So we divided them up amongst ourselves to take care of them. It's like, oh, that's very thoughtful of you. To Christianity, there are 10 major persecutions. Christians never led an armed resistance against the Roman Empire. First, Jesus taught God was our Father. In Islamic blasphemy, to call Allah your Father. Jesus taught to love your enemies. Muhammad taught to subdue your enemies. Jesus taught to have a personal relationship with God. In Islam, they have a personal relationship with Allah. He's transcendent and unknowable. Even in the next life, we'll never meet him. Women in worship. We have the most beautiful worship led by women and men, but I mean, the angelic voice of women singing. In Islam, if a dog, a donkey, or a woman passes between you and Mecca when you're praying, Islam, and they have a sin. It's an unforgivable sin called shirk. And if you believe that Jesus is the Son of God, you have the unforgivable sin. You cannot be any more antichrist than that. And so those who say, Surah 572, Allah is the Messiah, the Son of Mary, everyone's following his belief will surely be for him, their home is the fire. Right? Another verse. Christians say the Messiah is the Son of Allah, such as their baseless assertions, only parroting the words of earlier believers, may Allah condemn them. Again, you cannot be any more antichrist than by saying if you believe in Christ, you go to hell. So if there ever was a religion of antichrist, it fits the bill. On the Al-Aqsa Mosque in Jerusalem, it says, praise Allah, who has not taken a son. Right? Buddhism and Hinduism started before Christianity, so they couldn't specifically mention Christ. Islam specifically mentions Christ and says if you believe in it, you go to hell. Jesus said, John 17:3, and this is eternal life, that they may know you, the only true God, in Jesus Christ whom you have sent. And Revelation, I saw the souls of them beheaded. What could beheads? Right? Another John 16, the time is coming, whoever kills you thinks offers God to serve. Communists kill millions of people, but they don't believe in God. What religion kills and thinking they're doing God a service? We love the Muslim person. We just don't love the Sharia teaching. Right? It is, it's not a hardware problem, it's a software problem. Right? We love the person. We just don't like the software running on their brain, right? And so a friend of mine has a ministry to Muslims. He says, this is one verse they can argue about. Isaiah 61 that Jesus quoted. The Spirit of the Lord is upon me because he has anointed me to preach the gospel to the poor. He has sent me to heal the broken hearted. There's no concept, and all it is on the to heal your broken heart. Right? Allah demands submission. I prayed with Muslims before. One time I was with Anne Grant Lott, and we were with a friend, Tafiq, and she said, can I pray you? And he said, yes. And she's praying for him. He closes his eyes, and he's going back and forth for like 5 minutes. And he finally opened his eyes, and he's like, what did I just experience? He felt the presence. He felt the love of God for the first time in his life. God loves the Muslim person, right? They just need to experience his presence. Islam is the religion of Cain. Cain wanted to worship God, but he did it through works. And we know it works because God told Adam, the ground is cursed for your sake, and you bring forth fruit by the sweat of your sweat is work. Cain's trying to work his way to heaven. If you do works, you can be proud of your works because you're doing more than your brother. And pride is the sin of Satan. They call it honor, but it's pride. And when Cain's works were rejected, his countenance fell. His pride was, he was embarrassed in front of his Ummah community, which was his mom, dad, and brother. And he decides to do the first honor killing, to kill his brother that embarrassed him in front of his community. Abel trusted in the lamb. And, the lamb is so important. Satan sinned, and God is just. And so he had to judge Satan, cast him. And so Satan goes into the garden and says, okay, God is just. If I can get Adam and Eve to sin against God one time, he'll have to judge him. He gets him to sin, that was pretty easy. And then God sends his fireball of judgment, and in steps the lamb and takes the hit. All right, so God's just, and he judges every sin, but he's loving that he provided the lamb to take the judgment of the sin. So Adam and Eve sinned and hid from God. Have you ever sinned against anybody? You sort of don't want to be around the person you sinned against. Let's say you're talking about somebody behind their back, and you're making fun of them, and you look up, and there's that very person walking toward you. Are you drawn to want to go over to that person? You're like, oh man, I'm embarrassed. I think I'm going to slip out the back. Your own conscience does not want you to be around the person you sinned against. So when Adam and Eve sinned against God, they want to get away and hide. It's like two magnets are stuck together. One of them turns, the first one wants to touch, but the second one wants to get away. So it's not so much that God sends people to hell. It's once people sin against God, it's their own conscience that makes them want to stay away from God for a day, a week, a month, a lifetime. And so Adam and Eve said, we blew it. We have to do something to make ourselves acceptable to God again. Let's put on fig leaves. That was the beginning of false religions. Man coming up with man's idea how to make man acceptable to God. Did the fig leaves make Adam and Eve acceptable? No. And then it says God made Adam and Eve coats of skins. Question, how do you make a coat of skin? Kill an animal. You think God went to the other side of the garden and killed an animal? Or do you think maybe he killed it right in front of them and they witnessed the first death ever? Right? And Adam and Eve were watching this innocent animal. Right? Creation just happened, so this would have been the first thing ever to die. And they're watching this innocent animal go through the pains of dying, and they're thinking to themselves, where did this innocent animal die? And God wanted to make it really clear the animal was dying in their place, and right in front of them, he strips the skin off the animal, and he puts it on their naked bodies. Maybe it still had a little blood on it. They were covered in the blood, like the song. So for the rest of their lives, Adam and Eve are walking around wearing the skin of the animal that they watched die in their place. And whenever God sees Adam and Eve, he sees them clothed with the skin of the animal. The lamb slain for the foundation of the world. So Adam and Eve tell Cain and Abel. Cain does an offshoot of the church of the fig leaves, and he starts the church of the fig leaves, right? That's how we're going. And then Noah gets off the ark and he sacrifices lambs because he had 7 pair of every clean animal, and the rainbow appears. And then Abraham and Isaac are going to the top of Mount Moriah, and Isaac says, Father, we have the wood for the sacrifice, we have the coals for the sacrifice, but where's the sacrifice? And Abraham says, Son, God will provide himself a lamb. And it's a double meaning. Trusting God will have the ram up in the bush, but God will provide himself as the lamb. And that's what happened. Jesus, the second person of the Trinity, the only begotten Son of God, became the lamb and took the wrath of just God upon himself in our place. And then the children of Israel came to the promised land. And every one of them had to kill a lamb and put the blood of the doorpost of the house. So the angel of judgment, the angel's coming, and the blood says, look, this house has already been judged. Here's proof. Here's the blood that the lamb took the judgment in our place. So the angel passes over. And then the Ark of the Covenant is in the tabernacle in the wilderness, and the Ark is a gold box inside of the 10 Commandments. And then there's a lid with 2 golden angels, and the presence of the Lord appears between the angels. And the high priest comes in representing the people. And he sprinkles the blood of the sacrifice on the mercy seat, the lid, between the presence of the Lord above and the law below. So God sees him. Yeah, you broke the law, but please accept this blood as having, this lamb having taken the judgment in our place. If the high priest had approached without the blood, he would have been approaching the judgment seat. The blood changed it from a judgment seat into a mercy seat. And then David sacrifices. And then Solomon has 1,000 lambs killed, and he dedicates the temple. Finally, John the Baptist, behold the Lamb of God that taketh away the sins of the world. God bless you. Thank you so much. Please bow your heads with me. Heavenly Father, we come before you. You created the universe. You created us. We love you. Just say this prayer with me. Heavenly Father, I love you, but I have sinned against you. I deserve judgment. Thank you for sending your son Jesus to take the judgment I deserve upon himself. Jesus, I confess you as my Lord. I believe you died, buried, and you rose from the dead, and I am risen with you. Fill me with the Holy Spirit. Holy Spirit, third person of the Trinity, I invite you to live in me for the rest of my life, for the rest of eternity, and use me to love people, to bring them to Jesus and to the Father. Amen.
Asking me how I do my podcast.
Can I watch what you've made?
We're finally out here. I tried to film this video on vacation, back from vacation. Haven't shaved in a while, haven't showered in a while, got a lot of sun, and it's the smoke's blowing in now. We had really nice weather. I tried to film this video on vacation, went to the first tennis court, the pickleball players, full. Went to the next school spot, school, still in. Went to the next spot that I thought was a tennis court, private tennis court. Went to the next tennis court, I thought, private tennis court. But now we are out here. We are kind of out here on the Mesmer skates. Let's try them, okay?
Once I heal, we're gonna go outside, all right? There we go.
Kind of did the one wizard skating thing where it looks like I know what I'm doing, but not very well. So the things that are standing out here, heel pain that everybody talks about, I don't get when I skate these with really small wheels, but with the one thing that's also popping up is the heel lift. Since there's no Velcro or mid strap, you can We are back out here. Yes. I feel, and outside of here, I feel fairly out here lately.
I'm pretty, I'm out here. I'm out here. I think we are out here.
Yeah, we are definitely out here.
Yeah.
I haven't been participating in aggressive inline skating for quite some time.
Have you done any grinds this year?
No grinds this year.
No grinds.
I think the last time I slid on my wheels. That doesn't count though.
No.
Yeah.
No, it's got to be plastic.
I haven't jumped on a handrail and
you haven't waved your arms.
Done this or done this. I haven't done like this.
Oh. I'm telling. It feels really good.
I will eventually.
Yeah.
I'm just waiting. Like I really want to be able to want to do it.
Jumping up, sliding,
and then jumping off.
That's what it's kind of like. Oh yeah, when it goes well.
Yeah.
Jumping and then missing the stance, and then that doesn't feel good.
Missing a Mizu, one of the worst feelings. Missing a back farv, probably up there with. Like, it really takes my spirit down. I try not to try too many back farvs. If you're an anti, I think you're okay.
Hello.
Back farvs usually
Oh
work,
my-
like flat, like at 44 now.
Here.
Trying to jump on a ledge back farm and like, and then like falling over this way, and then you have to get up and skate away and try and feel confident.
Yeah, things don't always work out.
It's true.
Sometimes, you know, sometimes you fail, and it's not a good feeling.
Something we've learned,
but
in 30 years of skating,
you got to go for it. You got to, you know, put your best effort forth.
Yeah,
and that's all you can do.
We're still here.
Right.
We're still doing it.
Yeah.
Speaking of 30 years, this video is 30 years old. It's from 1996.
Wow.
So the only
30?
history thing, 30 years.
Is that? Oh my God. That's
We were
30 years old. Okay.
We were 14.
1996.
We did not have this video in Kamloops, but for context, VG3 came out this same year. So from 1995 to 1996, the progression of tricks between VG3 and this video, there was just an explosion of new grinds and tricks.
Is this Brian Smith?
Yes.
Brian
Also,
Smith filmed and edited this video.
So Baking Cookies, which we did, this is the follow-up. Baking Cookies was 95, I think. This is 96.
Whoa.
Brian Smith was really smart. I think he made a video a year. From a business perspective, he knew what he was doing.
That's really smart. That's a good release schedule.
I'm trying to think because Baking Cookies, Mr. Moose Knuckle, Night of the String, Wasteland. Am I missing one?
It's a hot lineup.
Pretty good. We haven't done Wasteland yet.
Really hot lineup. I'm curious how many how many copies of this VHS sold.
I can show you on the back here that distribution alone. So I know it's called The Adventures of Mr. Moose Knuckle. I always think of it as Mr. Moose Knuckle, but it's The Adventures.
The Adventures of Mr.
Yeah.
Moose Knuckle. Is that a vagina?
Yeah.
Really?
On
Do you think
the
he
cover.
actually took that photo, or do you think that?
No, I think no.
Like I think he
actually
set
put
that
the
up.
Texture colors is really nice in the photo. The Adventures,
Great
another
cover.
Brian Smith. So it was distributed in Europe, France, UK, Chile, Brazil.
Oh my God.
South America, Australia. That probably like sold a lot of copies.
Damn.
This one. This is a lot of people's favorite video of all time too. I didn't watch this until it was on YouTube in kind of like the mid 2000s. And I don't know it that well. So, we'll be back. Plain and simple. It's just a lot of cool skating for a low price. That's good. A lot of skating for a low price.
That's good.
That is good.
Nowadays, you get a lot of skating for no price.
No price.
Well, back then.
You're depressed.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I know. Yeah.
This was
If I can
really
see-
exciting skating for a low price.
This video did have questionable material, but because censorship is lame, I had to take it out. I hope you enjoy it, and a special thanks to those who risked their lives for the Moose Knuckle. If you have complaints or don't like it, hi Mom. I think something
Maybe
went
his
wrong.
mom didn't like it or had complaints.
Oh, possibly. And then there's a Dave Kalash Royale photo from looks like Hoax 3.
Down a kink,
So
really nice.
Brian Smith got access to the baller photo. I don't know if this is in the video. Okay.
Damn.
Oh, do we need to read off the skaters? Featuring Brian Bell, Dave Kalash, Ernie Villarino, Corey Nelson, Rawlinson Riviera, Roadhouse, John Julio, Matt Mance, Brian Smith, Champion, B. Harden, and introducing Dave Evanshine. I think they spelled his name wrong. That's a good lineup.
That's a hot.
That is a good lineup.
Oh.
Damn. Okay. Mr. Moose Knuckle by BS Films.
Legit warning.
Yeah.
In prison. You're going to get yourself in prison if you.
Nobody went to prison.
$250,000 fine. Do you think anyone's ever got a $250,000 fine for ripping off a VHS?
No. Never
That's a
heard of
lot
anybody.
Quarter
A lot of people ripping off VHSs. Performed by a professional. Serious injury in effect. Don't do it.
Good luck.
Especially your helmet. I don't think we'll find out if anybody wears a helmet in this video. Good luck.
The pads were coming off.
Also, the DS7179 chip.
That was never a thing.
I don't think so.
It's good to threaten that it'll destroy your equipment if you try.
The BS Films. Oh, so he's doing that to make his dog. I never figured that out. You do that to your dog, and then they do it back. That Lazy Legs logo is still so dope.
Good. That made you want to wear knee pads.
Yeah.
Big stupid knee
Chains
pads.
and spiked balls.
Yeah. Really good.
Okay. Yeah, that's really good.
Oh my god.
A moose attack. This looks like it's in Canada.
Oh. Brutal.
Oh my.
Oh.
Such a good opener.
Dangerous.
This is real street skating.
Ernie
walking up to the rail, but still making it
sick.
Oh shit! So running down.
Badass. Look at these guys.
That B-Love back row. That was so sweet.
Transfer to the ledge.
We don't even know if he landed it. Oh, yes. You know that's Brian Smith. Oh, TJ 540. Brian Bell.
Roy
You know
Allen,
it's
a
Brian.
triple king. Who's this guy?
This is.
Was that Rollinson? Oh, nice.
As I get older.
Oh, backslide.
The arm waving. That was a creative shot. Oh,
they're partying.
They're partying.
Girls.
They're
What?
wow.
They're girls.
These are bad.
Having a good time.
Boys.
Probably drinking. Maybe smoking some pot. Hanging out. Oh, jeez. He's enjoying the view.
14-year-old should not see that.
These bladers are bad boys, Joey.
Oh, Jay Dick.
Listen, they skate all day and then they go drink and hang out with girls.
I can smell that room smells like knee pads and cigarettes and alcohol and weed.
Oh, Harlow.
Harlow.
Clean style.
Keeping it together.
Sean Julio. Oh.
Oh.
Oof. Careful.
But yeah, so
boys.
I'm trying to think. Oh yeah, there were multiple brands of skates. Big straight gap, always dangerous. This is really good so far.
Really good.
That kid coming up the middle there. What? You don't even know where to look. Oh, take me out of here. Weird Dayton. Oh, Dayton.
Oh, that was nice. Strong.
Everybody lining up. Oh, that switch is so dope.
Damn, tech.
People having big sessions here.
Backslide. How do you even royale like that? That was a beautiful stance.
Hit your boots probably
Sit
so
down
worn
royale.
in and soft. Whoa. I don't even know if you call it.
Oh, Brian. Some nice fight
People are
going on.
people are throwing fives, they're throwing backslides, they're doing kink rails.
Oh, Luke Kang? That was a nice unity.
That was so Omaha style. Not a fan of that font.
Not great.
There probably wasn't a lot of
Not a lot of
available
options.
options.
They went with something
That font's
like
good.
handwriting.
Filming yourself dancing or having like dancing in a skate, it's like one of the checklist things in the 90s.
He had no stress. He's like, I'm in the 90s. It's sunny. I'm about to rollerblade.
And that was a weird thing for him to be doing. Oh.
Toy Owl. That was sick, actually. 5 foot.
Whoa, he did like a little kick.
Getting creative.
Did he do a
Back
leather
in
boot there?
96?
Oh yeah, Nick Galliano was a Korean skater.
That was ugly.
That reminds me so
Dave.
much of Cat. Was that Dave? Yeah, wasn't the greatest grabber. Whoa. He had a lot of passion.
He wasn't concerned with style.
No,
he was more about getting the job done.
Yeah,
okay? He was a tradesman on the blades.
He was also
doesn't
like,
have to look good, Joy. You just have to do it. Okay, you have to check it off the list.
Dave Kolash was also like, there was a guy in every crew that was a Dave Kolash
Totally.
type guy. So he
Yeah.
was an important part
Yeah.
of the history of skating.
Probably really practical.
Yeah.
In his everyday life.
Yes.
You know, took good care of his family. Was on top of the chores that he had to do. That type of.
Wouldn't have talked back to security guards.
No.
Ever.
No.
Just really loved to skate. Always padded up.
Yep. In spin to stop. That was actually really sick. Just dead stop.
What's the average max speed in videos?
Some slow movement, but like,
that was dope. Good style.
It's sold like people do it really well. It's good slow style.
Yeah, we've talked about. Oh,
Look at wild landing.
Okay, when you look at that, imagine being really into skateboarding and trying to skate at that park. There was like 50 pests everywhere. Oh,
yeah.
Who is this? I missed
Corey.
it. Is it Corey?
Corey Nelson. 57?
Corey Nelson was really good.
Oh, a nice front side. It's a nice colored helmet.
Not done up on the bottom. Oh, is he gonna transfer again?
Damn, triple transfer? This Corey kid's got balance.
Corey today transferred all 3.
No. What?
Yeah.
No.
Look at that spot. Some of this looks like cam loops. The only rail with the light beside it. Oh,
That was interesting.
backslide and forwards. Classic rail. So B did
Balancing it out.
B frontside of that hooks too, right?
I believe so.
Who's this? Who is it? Oh, shit. One of the buddies that wanted to try out the skates. Oh,
I could do that.
720 flip. Oh, they're at the scrap comp. Oh, that's got to be whoever that was dope. The coach's
nice
jacket,
Yeah.
with the hoodie.
Oh, he was happy with that. So yeah.
Look at how big skating was. So many people. Nada?
Damn, if half of those people bought this video.
Yeah. I know just there alone.
All right.
Now that is a backslide.
Bell.
Wow.
Really good style. All right.
Yeah, his.
What was this called? The Neighborhoods?
Yeah, it's like
his
West
style
Coast.
was really developed
It was.
compared to a lot of the other skaters.
Yeah, it's cleaner.
Like really clean.
Like even
good
there,
style.
he holds his positions.
Yeah. Damn.
And we probably talked about this on another commentary, but like his knee pads were hidden very well underneath his pants.
It's true.
Maybe you should have left that one on the cutting room floor.
Some
Backyard
balls.
fighting. session.
Outspin.
Whoa.
Jeez.
Oh, that's the IMYTA rail that Broskow. That was nice.
Really
For a
nice.
forward air.
He waved his hands a lot less than other people.
Like even that,
Damn.
while he was bouncing, you would like hold.
What was he doing?
He's really excited about the Hilltop Lancers.
Respect. Can throw down a little.
What trick was that?
Flip.
Burial? That was dope.
Oh,
I love
raw landings. So sick.
I love the rail transfers in this video so far.
Damn. The slow grinds are sick.
Yep.
Really sick. You just can't. You don't do them like that anymore.
He's in Lightnings. I don't even think he's in M12s. He's just or box cars or whatever they would have been called this time. So like he's leaning into these.
Yeah.
Oh. I guess in the name of progression, like 540ing off was a big deal. Oh,
Such a nice royale.
damn. This is gonna be a line. Oh shh.
Keep going. Keep going.
With
Is that the first line in this video?
Maybe. Oh, with his
Damn.
wearing his 420 shirt.
Such good.
This is a dope section.
Oh, just cruising it.
Wow, this is really good stuff. Almost a little bit of Pat.
Oh, totally.
Pat influence
Yeah,
that I
yeah.
never noticed.
For sure. Bad boy. Is that real?
No.
That's good to go.
Mrs. Bell always putting up with this.
Shenanigans.
Oh, you boys. Oh shit. I remember this. This is incredible.
Yeah, stop. We've been waiting for a long time. Come on in. Come on in.
Damn, I want to go to
This
that
is-
party.
Oh, that's sure.
That girl wasn't into
Wasn't.
it. She's like, this is not cool. This is creepy.
This is not fun. I get shit in the snow. I got flowers on my feet and blood feels in them. My name ain't Calvin, so I did not win them. I used to live in New York, but now we live in Cali. I'm shooting all the girls, even if they're from the valley. Kick you like hell, and on like Flash. Don't mess around, cause I'll smack that ass, cause I'm shit like her house. And fix it like
Oh my god.
Man, when like the AI simulators come along and we can actually simulate this party and we can walk into that, and
I would
experience it and
definitely
feel it.
go to that part.
Hell yeah!
That part.
Just put on the VR headset and go
Into
there.
a TJ section.
Oh,
That was incredible. Oh, look back. Yeah. And he did a true spin alley-oop soul on the dink of the rail there.
damn!
Also, really good style, good at arm control. Stood out. And Dustin Latimer DNA
Oh,
in the
that was so
oxygen.
dope how he grabbed the heel. His grinds are faster than a lot of people's. More solid.
Well, yeah, he was at the party there too, so it was a good section. TJ.
Getting the ladies. The ladies liked TJ.
Oh, into the Brian Smith.
Oh,
shit. Is this still Brian Smith?
Power bar. Yeah. Little Brian Smith
Oh.
section. That was nice.
He could always throw down.
Yeah.
We've talked about this before. Like the guy making the
Good style.
Yeah.
He had attitude.
He was in the Bowers too, which was like they were hard to skate.
Damn. How much was Bauer paying him?
That's a really good question. They put their logo in the video, so probably quite a bit.
Wow.
Oh, always a nice switch.
Oh, damn.
Oh,
jeez.
Not feeling it that day. This is a good mix of skaters. So he would have been in K2s here.
That was such a sick landing.
Soyal. Have we seen the Soyal yet?
Yep.
We have? Okay.
Yep.
Soul
line. These got the lines. He's
having a good time.
They were figuring out how to film the lines.
You film and then also
very
like
good at that. But like
speed wise too.
Right.
Oh. What is that?
A duck or something? Oh, the neighborhoods. Rawlinson? We're in New York now? Damn.
Did he get that? I guess he did.
It counts. It counts.
Oh.
Going cross.
Sessioning in the winter time. Oh, okay. Toyal. Ronson working on all of his new school tricks here.
Yeah.
He's gotta stay ahead.
Rawlinson, such an interesting character in the history of rollerblading.
Same as Dave Kolash. Like
Similar
filled a
boss.
really specific thing. Oh,
Yeah.
Camera spin move.
Like a similar like man vibe.
Yeah, seemed older.
Yeah.
Was?
He educated the younger generation, Joey. He told them how it was, okay?
All about respect in New York.
Yeah.
Oh,
respect
grab Macula
style.
forward.
You gotta grab that shit, Joey. Have some integrity.
He always kept it very crisp with clothing too.
Oh, you can only, rollerblading's all about looking good. You can only skate as good as you look, okay?
It's so crazy to think about choosing to skate that spot in the wintertime. Dedication.
He was hyped. Hey, he's got a chance to film with Brian Smith, so he's got to bust out.
Yeah, he's really doing a lot. This is like all on the same
section
day.
is like a shitty day.
Okay, go ahead.
The setup camera.
Jeez.
Dope, Jack. Really excited about that shot.
Just having fun. They're having fun.
Shot wasn't as cool as
the video.
Oh, here's Dave Evanshine. Blood Wheels Rider.
The future of the sport right here.
Yeah, a name that's mentioned a lot these days. Dave Evanshine. Maybe he still skates. Oh,
that was nice. Rocket. Poke it out.
Oh, a double switch up.
Oh.
Is he gonna do one more?
Okay. I see how it is.
He's a progressive rider.
Really progressive. You now have the right to evolve. Look at this guy.
This is not a spot.
Landing in dirt. Just
we're not too snobby with spots, but landing in dirt is just not
unacceptable.
Trying for that in spin.
That hurts.
That's the rail that Broskow gapped the middle to sold and then gapped KG the other rail.
If there was like a default rap song for 1996 rollerblading videos, I feel like this would be it. It's just like so generic that it's like we're clearly watching a video from 1996.
Is this the neighborhoods
The
again?
neighborhoods.
It was nice to see him skate for a while there.
That was nice. Not enough of that.
Oh, we got a novelty song. So is this going to be falls or?
That guy can move.
His posture is really good.
Yeah.
Wow.
For him. Hell yeah. That guy's dope. Oh, the grommets.
Is that Champ and Roadhouse? What is going on here? The play fighting that turns kind of real.
Oh no. Oh, the girls are about
no, they're settling it.
Oh, jeez.
With a big audience.
Oh, I don't even like watching this.
No.
This isn't cool. I'm sure the reason they're fighting, it could be resolved with some conversation. There's a better way to go about this.
This is definitely B-Bell footage that he gave to Brian Smith. There's no way
That's
Brian
true.
Smith would have filmed this.
This is definitely B-Bell.
That's like
good
yeah,
call.
yeah.
Give me my lollipop back now.
Is he gonna go through? That was cool.
Farmer.
I'm innocent.
Having a picture. That was someone who is really into that, like, you know, you give the picture, you sign the back of it,
and then bring it to your session. Randy had good style.
Yeah. Oh.
Damn, that was a good shot.
Rocking his anti-rockers. Oh.
Getting creative. Oh.
He made that look fun. He still made that look fun. Okay. What else?
He had good style. Even those were shitty, but he still made it work. Nice pant.
This is
nice
such
baggy.
a crazy. I always think of like what our parents took. Like, look at this. Look at this sport. Oh, getting creative again at the end. Little foot drag.
Oh no, I'm tired.
Oh, yeah. This song is painful. I wanted to end. I want the song to be over.
It's not the skating is bad. We're into Roadhouse. Oh.
Okay. I'm just playing. Yes.
That was a funny shot.
I'm happy he became a dad. Oh. Fresh fade? No, that's not a fade. Getting some rap rock. Ernie
That
Villarino.
shot was great. I really wish the song was different.
Oh no. I'm a big fan of Ernie, so I'll just try and put
It's come on, you gotta put Ernie to some badass hip hop.
That was sweet that they kept that long shot.
That's nice.
Ow. I can smell this video. It smells like knee pads and alcohol.
It stinks. Ugh. It needs some Febreze.
All right. Okay. The landing on the dirt got me.
Oh, this song.
Too much.
My whole upper body cramped up.
Do you think this band's still together performing this song?
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll need $1.
See, children's skin can make you money. I got a whopping $5 from Lincoln.
He had a really good shirt. It said the best dad in the world. The best dad in the world shirt.
Oh, that was sick.
Big highlight of the video.
It's hilarious because that was a joke, but that was like the dopest thing in the whole video.
The control coming out of it into the backslide.
Yeah, and the smile.
Is this still Ernie?
This is Lurch.
Oh, Lurch. Here come Larry.
Larry.
Yes. I love the long approach shots in this video.
Yeah. Oh, that was nice. Oh,
one of them, yeah, classic, like all time.
Damn, that was in. Drew Backrack put that in.
Yeah, and it was the cement ad in VG4, I think.
Amazing.
Now we got Matt Mans.
Taking the highlight.
Does everybody want to see my girlfriend?
Yeah. That was funny. That was good. You wish, Matt. You wish.
Do you think he was like, hey Brian, film this. Film this.
That was sick. That was a dope line.
This fit?
Really good fit.
The all black with the Adidas shirt.
Good style.
Oh.
Damn.
Matt Mans was sick.
Damn, this makes me want to watch his Transcend profile.
Oh. Does he like
his
this?
wrist or something?
Oh,
that was nice.
Yes.
Oh shit. Jonathan? Damn.
Just
they spelled his name wrong. Disrespect.
Look at just styling
That was
it out.
nice. He sold the line. Okay. Yeah. Okay, this guy's on another level. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
This guy, like,
Yeah. This guy's changing.
this guy's
the game.
going places.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
He actually, he makes it look like a new futuristic activity.
He
Very,
knows how to do lines.
and he's even when
He gets it. Yeah.
Is that his Switch Royale, or is this because you don't see him do Royales very often? That
went both
first
ways.
one,
He went both ways.
his Switch
Royale
one
both
was
ways.
so dope. That what's his Switch? Because he's not a
He
Royaler.
talked about it on his podcast with Ben. He was recently doing Switch Royales and questioning if it was his Switch because they felt so good.
Yeah,
he can do them both ways. He's good. He's good on the blades.
Love that
Oh,
trick. Love that trick.
That was really nice.
A good experimenter. Like his creative skating was good for the time. It was still like very unrefined and raw.
But even that
was like he did it really well.
Yeah.
Like you could tell skateboard videos and like seeing people doing flip tricks between lines, but he was like that he was experimenting with making it look good. Like his solos look good.
Damn. Yeah. Respect.
And that 3 was dope. The flat ground 3 was really nice. This is one of my favorites when I was younger.
Star. Oh, of course.
Rubbery style.
Funky arm movement.
Yeah.
Made it work.
Yeah. Oh, watch out. Oh no. Hope he apologized. I hope they worked that one out. Look at all of the people here.
Big session. I mean, look at that spot. How fun would that spot be? It's like a skate park on the street.
Yeah, like just meeting up at a school on the weekend.
Oh.
Weird. What was up at the end of that one?
John?
Uh-oh.
Hey,
shit.
Dude, chill out. I'll call the cops now, okay? You're gonna hit him with a pogo stick? Don't move now, move, okay?
It is funny that he came out with a pogo stick.
I wonder if he was just sick and tired of people skating that ledge, or if that was the first time.
He probably asked them nicely to leave the first time. Okay?
Yeah.
And didn't.
It's up to you if you want to listen to that advice or not. Grommets. So this was a booming industry with youths.
Oh, look at there's kids doing this?
Is this a kid?
It's at Grommets.
Oh,
we've all done that.
Makes me want to not skate a handrail ever again.
When you try to jump and your legs just don't come up.
And then you
hit a crack.
Over.
Oh, that was sick. Is that Brian Smith?
The unexpected cutaways are always so good.
Yeah.
Weird windows into the 90s.
Yeah.
Is this Bloodhound Gang? This is good.
It's a good time. Got that obnoxious.
I always love this part. Oh. This made me want to skate so bad. This kid just experiencing freedom.
Oh. Is that Colin Kelso? It's gotta be.
Like, look, then he keeps going. And he's loving skating. Both ways? Grommets rule.
The way he turned Illusion into the fakie.
Yeah, because
that kid was good.
It's because he couldn't skate. You could only skate backwards, looking over one shoulder, so people end up turning the whole way. Yeah,
but he did it so.
Yeah, he made it look
like
good.
He had the muscle.
You could tell. Yeah, you could tell he would like rec skated a lot before he put on aggressive skates.
Yeah. Oh. Careful. Come on, it's nuts.
Dude, that's Brian Smith.
Yep.
What's he gonna do? Oh, little backside.
Little backside.
Oh, that was dope.
Big gap.
Oh. Well, right. He should have walked back up the stairs.
Yeah.
Night sesh. Was he gonna do 3? That's where you film fisheye and you reveal the objects slowly.
Right. They didn't know that in '96.
I still want to learn in-spin Farside Soul on a rail. Just even if it's small, it always looks good.
Yeah.
Oh.
Damn.
And there's more. Okay, where are we at?
Keeps going. Keeps going.
Overstaying its welcome here.
It definitely is. Yeah.
Probably could have ended on Julio. That was dope though. Whatever. And this is a good song at least.
Look how low that rail is.
Is it? Somebody will report, I'm sure.
So low.
That was amazing. You got past the tree there.
Really nice. Oh, Brian.
So we had some extra skating. Oh, was that a? Oh, what was that? A Royale?
I think he was on his shin.
Oh, the petty set. Holy shit!
That's
a big set. Oh.
Some really interesting locations.
I wonder. That look. It's tough to say what city that was. Oh. The Impact Mind Sandy. Uh-oh.
Was he hungover?
I thought they dropped down the volume for that.
I didn't expect someone to be skating.
Oh. Oh, is he going to hit a second? Sweet. Is he going to hit it? Yeah, that was good.
Dang.
He was feeling it that day. Oh,
that was nice.
He probably had the two biggest highlights in the video.
That
Lurch.
Nice. Oh, jeez,
nice
Ernie.
Okay, here we go. Okay. The fun box.
Session.
That would have been true spin. Oh yeah, when the song runs out.
They just
on
have
the
so
timeline.
much footage.
That was dope, that little fast lane. Yes. Who's this?
Is that Brooke?
Whoever that was, a lot of heart.
Harlow.
Oh, I remember that. That was an inline magazine. These sounds are all really good.
It's really refreshing seeing this without music.
Yeah. Because has the sound been really low for skate sounds or not on at all?
I didn't really notice the skate sounds. Whoa, okay. Back at the party.
Bauer reflecting a street image here. Blood.
What was blood?
Blood Wheels. Before Eulogy, yeah.
We never sell out, boy.
That party stinks.
Yeah, dude.
What do you think about Bill Clinton?
I don't know. Are you gonna vote for him this year?
I doubt it.
Yeah, dude.
Look, hey.
That was the extent of political commentary.
Yeah, it didn't go any. Yeah.
Doubt it. That's it.
Which is nice.
Yeah.
Refreshing.
What do you have to say for MTV?
Hey, Benny Rock.
Yeah.
Led Zeppelin, man.
Hey, what do you think? What do you think about rollerbladers?
Rollerbladers, I think they're awesome. I really like
This guy.
Well, are these two guys, they're hanging together, these two?
They don't fit. Hey,
No.
one's like frat and one's like hippie.
Yeah.
You give me this right here, man. Whatever I got in my pocket, man, do something. He's from Boston.
I can't.
Do something.
Roach, right?
Oh, he's got a roach in there too.
Too close to the White House, you know.
Yeah.
We gotta do it here.
Hey, Dan, did you get your dog? Right
Mission.
on.
Yeah.
Star Trek.
Oh.
Yeah, the one.
See you later, guys.
They are hanging out together.
I think they're united by a common love of alcohol.
Oh. Okay, so here we go. There's a Hoax 3 ad in. Because this Brian Smith would have been buddies. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, just show the.
There we go. 1996.
Any secret section?
If that video had been compressed into like 20 minutes,
yeah,
it could have been like really, really good. John Julio,
yeah,
obviously a highlight.
Yeah,
Ernie Villarino, When he was like dicking around,
Yeah.
those were probably the best shots.
Lurch was good.
Yeah.
Matt Mance.
D-Bell.
D-Bell.
Classic style.
TJ Weber.
Matt
Ryan
Mance.
Smith.
I enjoyed Matt Mance.
But some me down a little bit.
Yes,
Under 30 minutes.
Song choices.
Yeah.
Questionable. The intro's great. Excellent song.
Yeah. That one, there was 2 bad songs in a row. Is that what it was?
Yeah, and that just killed me. It killed my soul. It's just,
I
just dying on the inside.
I can't remember what we started laughing at, but it was the bad song, and there was one thing that Ernie Villarino did, and then he like landed in the dirt. It all is. But if you had never seen any of these tricks, the videos years ago, you know what's messing with me lately? That in 1996, 30 years ago, was 1966.
Yeah.
Which is really hard to
right.
Like the decades of culture were so much more defined. In the last 30, like once you get in past 2010, it's kind of a jumbled crate. Like the way we experience media and culture is just so different now. We get into this conversation every time, but it's just so insane that it doesn't feel 30 years ago the way 1966 felt 30 years ago in 1996.
Yeah, the eras were a lot more defined.
Like when you see a Nirvana shirt, that's a Beatles shirt to kids now, which is so weird to me. It also means that I'm old, but
we are old. It's true.
It is crazy that we're still like doing grinds and skating though. Died.
Right. Yeah.
R.I.P.
Matt
Mance. Is Corey Nelson still alive? We won't say R.I.P. But that means Suitable Materials, the next BS Films one we have to do. Time. Or it's like a half and half.
There's good parts. Really good parts.
That intro's really
good. A lot of really bad lines.
Yeah, bad lines too. Bad lines. But still an enjoyable video. It's not a classic to me, but I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Baking cookies. I almost like baking cookies. No, Mr. Moose Knuckles better. Remember baking cookies just had long stretches of B-roll in the video?
Yeah.
Yeah, the B-roll was funny. That party scene is probably like stuff. Top, like knocking on a door and then entering the world. Yeah.
Hi, we've been waiting.
And like that you get a look at inside of the apartment. This shitty like Venice apartment. Good time.
Really good time.
Any other thoughts?
I gotta get out of here.
Yeah. I might grind eventually based off of that.
You should. It's a good time.
I will. Just do one.
Enjoy $3.60 lattes each Thursday this summer at Capital One Cafe.
There are 250 reasons to choose T-Mobile, and Student Perks is a big one. Students get their own.
Where is my playlist?
They declared Abraxas to be a demon. More relevant to your spiritual journey today than in any mainstream. What if I told you that hidden beneath centuries of forgotten texts lies the name of a god so powerful that ancient mystics believed he ruled over 365 heavens? What if the very letters of his name contain mathematical codes that unlock the mysteries of time itself? What if this forgotten deity holds the key to understanding the true nature of light and darkness, good and evil, creation and destruction? You're about to discover the complete story of Abraxas, a name whispered in secret temples, carved into ancient gemstones, and feared by early Christians as demonic. But the truth is far more extraordinary than you've ever imagined. Stay with me until the end, because I'll reveal what ancient god might be more relevant to your spiritual journey today than in any mainstream religion has ever. Welcome, seeker of hidden truth, shadows of forgotten wisdom. Today, we dive deep into one of history's most mysterious and powerful spiritual entities, a being that ancient Gnostics called the god above all gods, a name that carries within it the secret geometry of existence itself. This is the story of Abraxas. Close your eyes for a moment. Imagine you're walking through the dusty streets of Alexandria, Egypt, in the year 120 AD. The air is thick with incense, and the sound of heated theological debates echoes from every corner. Mystery schools flourish here. Secret knowledge passes between initiates in whispered conversations. In this world of spiritual seekers, one name begins to emerge from the shadows, a name that will challenge everything people believe about God, reality, and the nature of existence itself, Abraxas. But before we understand who Abraxas truly is, we must first understand the world that gave birth to this mysterious deity. The 2nd century AD was a time of spiritual revolution. Christianity was still in its infancy, struggling to define itself against the backdrop of competing religious movements. And among these movements, none were more radical or more threatening to established religious authority than the Gnostics. The Gnostics believed something that terrified the early church.
There's power in the word no. At University of Phoenix, there's no application fee, entrance exam.
They believed that every human being could know God directly. No priests necessary, no intermediaries, no institutional control over the divine experience. They taught that hidden within each person was a spark of the divine, a fragment of pure consciousness that could, with the right knowledge, reunite with its source. This knowledge they called gnosis, direct, personal experience of the divine. And at the center of their cosmology stood a figure unlike any god the world had ever known. His name was Abraxas. Let's go deeper into the mystery. The first person to speak openly about Abraxas was a man named Basilides. He was a Gnostic teacher living in Alexandria around 117 to 138 AD. Brilliant, controversial, and utterly convinced that he had received secret knowledge directly from the apostles of Jesus. But Basilides taught something that shocked both Christians and pagans alike. He taught that Jesus Christ was not the ultimate divine being. Instead, Jesus was merely a phantom, a manifestation sent to earth by a far greater power. That power was Abraxas. According to Basilides, Abraxas was the supreme deity, the ruler of not one heaven, but 365 heavens, each heaven corresponding to one day of the solar year, each heaven containing entire worlds of spirits and divine beings. But here's where it gets truly mystical. The name Abraxas, when written in Greek letters, has a numerical value of exactly 365. Alpha equals 1, beta equals 2, ego equals 100. Alpha equals 1, equals 1, equals 60, alpha equals 1, sigma equals 200. Add them up and you get 365. This wasn't coincidence. This was cosmic mathematics. The ancients believed that the numbers contained divine power, and the fact that Abraxas' name equaled the number of days in a year suggested that this deity was intimately connected to the flow of time itself. Think about this for a moment. While other gods were associated with specific domains, war, love, wisdom, Abraxas was associated with time, with the fundamental rhythm of existence, with the very heartbeat of the cosmos. But the numerical mystery goes even deeper. The word Mithras, the name of the Persian god of light worshipped throughout the Roman Empire, also adds up to 365 in Greek. This suggests perhaps or competing versions of the same cosmic principle. Some scholars believe that Abraxas and Mithras were different cultural expressions of the same universal archetype, the divine principle that bridges light and darkness, that rules over the cycles of time, that stands above all dualities. Let's explore what this actually means. Have you ever noticed how most religions try to separate good from evil, light from darkness, sacred from profane? The Gnostics saw this differently. They believed that ultimate reality transcended these oppositions, and Abraxas embodied this transcendence. In Gnostic cosmology, Abraxas was not purely good or purely evil. He was beyond good and evil. He was the unity that contained all opposites, the divine principle that could embrace both creation and destruction, both light and shadow. This is why Orthodox Christians eventually they couldn't understand a God who transcended their moral categories, a God who was simultaneously creative and destructive, benevolent and terrifying. But the Gnostics understood something profound. They understood that ultimate reality must necessarily contain all possibilities, that the source of everything cannot be limited by human concepts. This unlimited divine potential. Let's go deeper into the visual mystery of this ancient god. Practitioners created amulets and magical gemstones. How did they choose to represent Abraxas? Picture this, the head of a rooster, symbolizing the dawn, the herald of light, the awakening of consciousness, the body of a man, representing humanity's connection to the divine, and instead of legs, 2 serpents, symbolizing wisdom, transformation, and the kundalini energy that rises from the base of the spine to the crown of the head. In one hand, Abraxas holds a whip, representing divine authority and the power to command spiritual forces. In the other hand, a shield representing protection and defense against negative influences. This image is not random. Every element has deep symbolic meaning. The rooster's head represents the moment of awakening. In esoteric traditions, the rooster's crow at dawn symbolizes the soul's awakening to divine truth. It's the call that breaks the spell of spiritual sleep. The human torso represents the conscious mind, the part of us that can choose to respond to the divine call, the part of us that bridges the animal instincts below and the spiritual insights above. The serpent legs represent the fundamental life force that coils at the base of the spine in yogic traditions. This is the energy that, when properly awakened and directed, leads to spiritual transformation and divine union. The whip represents the power to command and direct spiritual energies. It's not a tool of punishment, but of authority, the authority that comes from true gnosis, from direct knowledge of divine reality. The shield represents protection, because anyone who attempts to transcend ordinary consciousness, anyone who seeks direct contact with the divine, needs protection from the forces that would keep humanity trapped in ignorance and spiritual sleep. This is Abraxas, not a god you worship from a distance, but a divine principle you can embody and express in your own spiritual journey. But let's explore the magical practices associated with this mysterious deity. The ancient world was filled with Abraxas gemstones. These weren't mere decorative objects. They were powerful magical tools, believed to contain the actual presence and Abraxas himself. Practitioners would carry these stones in their hands during meditation. Some would place them under their tongues during ritual work. Others would sew them into their clothing, creating a constant connection to the divine energy of Abraxas. But why gemstones? Why this particular medium for connecting with? Ancients understood something that modern science is only beginning to rediscover. Crystals and gemstones have unique vibrational frequencies. They can store, amplify, and transmit energy in ways that others cannot. When a skilled craftsman carved the image of Abraxas into a precious stone, they weren't just creating art. They were creating a technological device for accessing higher consciousness, a spiritual antenna that could tune into the frequency of divine wisdom. These gemstones were often inscribed with additional magical formulas, words of power that were believed to activate the stone's spiritual properties, combinations of letters and symbols that served as keys to unlock hidden dimensions of reality. Some of these magical words have survived to this day. You might recognize one of them, abracadabra. That's right. The magician's famous phrase has its roots in the Abraxas tradition. Abracadabra is believed to be derived from the Aramaic phrase, avracadabra, which means I will create as I speak. This connects directly to the Gnostic understanding of Abraxas as the divine principle that creates reality through consciousness, the God who speaks worlds into existence through the power.
With Base 44, a simple sentence becomes your website.
Power of divine thought. When ancient magicians used the word abracadabra, they weren't performing parlor tricks. They were invoking the creative power of Abraxas. They were declaring their intention to participate in the divine act of creation. Think about the implications of this. If Abraxas represents the divine principle that creates reality through consciousness, then every human being who possesses consciousness carries within themselves a spark of Abraxas's creative power. This is the secret knowledge that the Gnostics died to protect. The knowledge that you are not separate from the divine, that the same power that creates worlds exists within your own consciousness. But let's explore how this knowledge was suppressed and why it was considered so dangerous. As Christianity became the dominant religion of the Roman Empire, anything that challenged church authority became heretical, and nothing challenged church authority more directly than the Gnostic claim that every individual could access divine knowledge without institutional mediation. The Church Fathers, a systematic campaign against Gnostic teachings. They declared Abraxas to be a demon. They portrayed Gnostics as dangerous cultists who practiced forbidden magic. But what were they really afraid of? They were afraid of spiritual democracy. They were afraid of where every person could claim direct access to divine truth. They were afraid of losing their monopoly on salvation. Irenaeus, one of the most influential church fathers, wrote extensively against the Basilidians and their worship of Abraxas. He accused them of practicing magic, of using images, incantations, invocations, and every other kind of curious art. But notice what he's really describing. He's describing a spiritual practice that empowers the individual, that gives ordinary people access to extraordinary spiritual experiences. The church couldn't compete with direct spiritual experience. They could only suppress it. And so Abraxas was driven underground. His name was erased from official religious texts. His image was declared demonic. It went underground, preserved in secret societies, mystery schools, and esoteric traditions that have survived to this day. Let's go deeper into the psychological significance of Abraxas. Carl Jung, the great Swiss psychiatrist and student of the unconscious mind, wrote extensively about Abraxas in his personal journal, The Red Book. Jung saw Abraxas as a symbol of the self that transcends all opposites. According to Jung, most people live trapped in psychological duality. Strong or weak, spiritual or material, but true. All these opposites. Jung believed that Abraxas represented this integrated self that could embrace both light and shadow, both conscious and unconscious, both personal and transpersonal elements of the human experience. This is why Jung called Abraxas the God who is difficult to know, because knowing Abraxas means knowing yourself completely. It means facing every aspect of your personality, including the parts you'd rather keep hidden. It means accepting that you contain within yourself the capacity for both creation and destruction, both wisdom and folly, both love and fear. This psychological understanding of Abraxas offers a profound path to personal transformation. Instead of trying to eliminate your shadow side, you learn to integrate it. Instead of denying your darker impulses, you learn to transform them into sources of power and wisdom. Jung discovered that people who could successfully integrate their opposing psychological elements experience a kind of spiritual rebirth. They became more creative, more authentic, more fully alive. This is the gift that Abraxas offers to the modern seeker. Not escape from the complexities of human nature, but integration of all aspects of the self into a unified, powerful, and creative whole. But how does this ancient wisdom apply to your life today? Look around at the world we're living in. We're surrounded by false dualities. You're told you must choose between science and spirituality, between material success and spiritual development, between individual fulfillment and social responsibility. The wisdom of Praxis suggests a different approach. What if these aren't either or choices? What if the path to true fulfillment lies in integrating these apparent opposites? What if you could be both scientifically informed and spiritually awake, both materially successful and ethically grounded, both individually empowered and socially connected? This is the Abraxas path, the path of transcendent integration. Let's explore how you can begin to work with Abraxas energy in your own spiritual practice. First, understand that Abraxas is not a god you worship. Abraxas is a divine principle you embody, a state of consciousness you can access and express. Begin by examining the dualities in your own life. Where do you see yourself trapped in either or thinking? Where do you feel torn between competing values or desires? Instead of trying to resolve these tensions by choosing one side over the other, try a different approach. Ask yourself, how can I honor both sides of this apparent opposition? How can I find a creative synthesis that includes both elements? This is how you begin to think like Abraxas. This is how you begin to access the divine wisdom that transcends all dualities. Second, pay attention to the numerical patterns in your life. Remember, Abraxas is associated with the number 365, the number of days in a year, the rhythm of time itself. What patterns do you notice in your daily rhythms? What cycles repeat in your life? What natural timing wants to practice? The Abraxas consciousness is deeply attuned to natural cycles, to the rhythm of seasons, the phases of the moon, the daily cycle of darkness and light. By aligning your spiritual practice with these natural rhythms, you begin to tap into the same cosmic intelligence that the ancient Gnostics associated with Abraxas. Third, work with symbols and sacred geometry. Create your own Abraxas talisman. This doesn't have to be an expensive gemstone. It can be as simple as a piece of paper with the Abraxas symbol drawn on it. But draw it mindfully. As you create each element, the rooster head, the human torso, the serpent legs, the whip and shield, meditate on what each symbol represents in your own life. Where do you need to awaken, like the rooster calling the dawn? Where do you need to exercise conscious choice, like the human torso bridging heaven and earth? Where do you need to activate your life force energy, like the serpents of wisdom? Where do you need to claim your spiritual authority, like the whip of divine command? Where do you need protection, like the shield against negative influences? Let your talisman become a reminder of your own divine potential, a symbol of your commitment to transcend limiting dualities and embody integrated wisdom. But let's go even deeper into the mystery. There's something about Abraxas that most people don't understand, something that makes the ancient god particularly relevant to our current moment in history. We're living through a time of unprecedented polarization. People are more divided than ever along political, religious, and cultural lines. Everyone wants to force you to choose sides. Everyone wants to reduce complex realities to simple either-or propositions. But what if this polarization is actually a spiritual opportunity? What if it's calling us to develop the Abraxas consciousness, the ability to see beyond surface-level oppositions and find the...
Did you know about 1 in 3 people with plaque psoriasis may also develop psoriatic arthritis?
deeper unity that connects all apparent enemies? This doesn't mean becoming wishy-washy or refusing to take stands on important issues. It means developing the wisdom to see how opposing forces often serve complementary functions in the larger cosmic order. It means understanding that every position contains both truth and error, both light and shadow. It means developing the spiritual maturity to extract wisdom from unexpected sources while remaining grounded in your own deepest values. This is advanced spiritual work. It's not for everyone, but for those called to walk the Abraxas path, it offers extraordinary opportunities for growth and service because the world desperately needs people who can bridge divides, people who can find common ground without compromising their integrity, people who can hold space for complexity in a world that demands oversimplification. Let's explore the shamanic dimensions of Abraxas consciousness. In many indigenous traditions, shamans are the people who can travel between worlds. They can journey to the realm of spirits and return with healing knowledge. They can bridge the visible and invisible dimensions of reality. Abraxas consciousness is shamanic consciousness. It's the ability to navigate multiple levels of reality simultaneously, to be fully present in the physical world while maintaining awareness of spiritual dimensions. The rooster head of Abraxas represents the shaman's ability to see beyond ordinary perception. Roosters are known for their keen eyesight and their ability to detect threats and opportunities that others miss. The serpent legs represent the shaman's connection to earth wisdom. Snakes are creatures that shed their skin, symbolizing death and rebirth. They represent the cycle of transformation that shamans must undergo to access healing power. The whip and shield represent the shaman's tools of power, the ability to command spiritual forces and protect themselves and others from negative influences. If you feel called to develop your own shamanic abilities, working with Abraxas can be a powerful starting point. But remember, shamanic power comes with shamanic responsibility. It's not about personal aggrandizement or spiritual bypassing. True shamanic power is always in service to the greater good. It's about using your expanded awareness to bring healing to your community and the world. Let's talk about the feminine aspect of Abraxas that most people never hear about. While Abraxas is typically portrayed in masculine form, the Gnostics understood that ultimate divinity transcends gender. Some texts refer to Abraxas as both father and mother, both masculine and feminine principles united in one divine being. This is crucial to understand because it means that working with Abraxas energy involves balancing and integrating both masculine and feminine aspects of consciousness. The masculine aspect of Abraxas is the discriminating intelligence, the ability to make clear distinctions, to exercise authority, to take decisive action. This is represented by the whip, the tool of command and direction. The feminine aspect of Abraxas is the receptive wisdom, the ability to receive intuitive guidance, to nurture growth and transformation, to provide protection and shelter. This is represented by the shield, the tool of preservation and care. True Abraxas consciousness requires both qualities. Action without wisdom leads to recklessness. Wisdom without action leads to stagnation. Whether you're a man or a woman, working with Abraxas requires your inner masculine and inner feminine qualities. It requires becoming a whole and integrated human being. This is particularly important in our current historical moment, when we're witnessing the breakdown of rigid gender roles and the emergence of more fluid and integrated forms of human expression. Abraxas offers a spiritual framework for this integration, a way of understanding that true power comes not from dominating others, but from harmonizing complementary forces within yourself and in your relationships with others. Now let's explore the connection between Abraxas and modern quantum physics. This might sound like a strange connection, but bear with me. There are profound parallels between ancient Gnostic cosmology and cutting-edge scientific discoveries about the nature of reality. Quantum physics has revealed that at the most fundamental level, reality is not made up of solid objects, but of energy patterns and probable waves. The observer plays a crucial role in determining what becomes manifest in physical reality. This is remarkably similar to the Gnostic teaching that consciousness is the fundamental creative force in the universe, that the divine mind, represented by Abraxas, literally thinks reality into existence. Modern physics has also discovered the principle of complementarity, the idea that particles can exhibit apparently contradictory properties depending on how you observe them. Light, for example, behaves like a wave in some experiments and like a particle in others. This parallels the Abraxas teaching that ultimate reality transcends all dualities, that at the deepest level, all apparent opposites are complementary aspects of a unified whole. The number 365, so central to Abraxas symbolism, also appears in modern cosmology. There are approximately 365 days in a year because of the specific relationship between Earth's rotation and its orbit around the sun. This suggests ancient Gnostics intuited something profound about the mathematical structure of reality. They understood that consciousness, time, and cosmic order are intimately connected. Working with Abraxas consciousness can therefore be understood as a form of applied quantum spirituality. You're learning to participate consciously in the fundamental creative processes of the universe. You're developing the ability to observe reality in ways that activate its higher potentials. You're becoming a conscious co-creator rather than a passive victim of circumstances. Let's go deeper into the practice of Abraxas meditation. Find a quiet space where you won't be disturbed. Sit comfortably and close your eyes. Take several deep breaths and allow your body to relax completely. Now visualize the symbol of Abraxas in your mind's eye. See the rooster head clearly. This represents your awakening consciousness, your ability to see beyond ordinary perception. As you focus on the rooster head, ask yourself, what am I being called to awaken to in my life right now? What truth have I been avoiding or overlooking? Listen for the answer that arises from your deeper wisdom. Now focus on the human torso. This represents your conscious mind, your ability to choose and direct your life experience. As you focus on the human torso, ask yourself, where in my life do I need to take conscious responsibility? Where do I need to stop being a victim and start being a creator? Listen for the guidance that emerges. Now, focus on the serpent legs. These represent your life force energy, your connection to the transformative power of the universe. As you focus on the serpent legs, ask yourself, what in my life and release? What new aspect of myself is ready to be born? Feel the transformation moving through your body. Now focus on the whip in Abraxas' right hand. This represents your spiritual authority, your power to command. And as you focus on the whip, ask yourself, where in my life do I need to claim my power? Where do I need to stop asking permission and start taking leadership? Feel your inner authority awakening. Finally, focus on the shield, left hand. This represents protection, your ability to maintain healthy boundaries. Shield, ask yourself, what negative is?
For just $1 down, you can get any.
From what boundaries do I need to establish or strengthen? Feel the protective energy surrounding you. Now, hold the complete image of Abraxas in your awareness. Feel yourself embodying all these qualities simultaneously. Awakened consciousness, conscious choice, transformative energy, spiritual authority, and divine protection. Sit with this integrated awareness for as long as feels comfortable. When you're ready, slowly open your eyes and return to ordinary consciousness. But carry with you the memory of this integrated state. This is just one way to work with Abraxas consciousness. The key is to make it personal and relevant to your own spiritual journey. But let's address the shadow side of Abraxas spirituality. Any powerful spiritual practice carries risks, and Abraxas work is no exception. Because Abraxas transcends ordinary moral categories, some people misinterpret this as permission to abandon all ethical constraints. This is a dangerous misunderstanding. Transcending dualities doesn't mean ignoring the very real consequences of our choices. It means making choices from a deeper level of wisdom that takes into account the full complexity of each situation. Working with Abraxas requires tremendous spiritual maturity and ethical grounding. It's not about doing whatever you want. It's about aligning your will with the highest good in every situation, even when that requires difficult sacrifices. Another potential shadow is spiritual bypassing. Some people use Abraxas consciousness as an excuse to avoid deep practical responsibilities or psychological healing work. True Abraxas consciousness embraces both transcendent and immanent realities. It works with both spiritual principles and psychological patterns. It honors both mystical experiences and practical effectiveness. If your spiritual practice is making you less functional in ordinary life, rather than more functional, you're probably missing something important about the teaching. The goal is integration, not escape. The goal is to bring divine consciousness into every aspect of human life, not to use divine consciousness as a way of avoiding human life. Let's explore the relationship between Abraxas and other spiritual tradition. While Abraxas emerged from the Gnostic tradition, similar principles appear in many spiritual paths. In Hinduism, the concept of Ardhanarishvara represents the divine as simultaneously masculine and feminine. In Taoism, the yin-yang symbol represents the unity of opposites. In Kabbalah, The Tree of Life shows how divine emanations and severe aspects. This suggests that Abraxas consciousness represents a universal spiritual principle that transcends any particular religious tradition. It's a way of understanding divine reality that emerges whenever human consciousness reaches a certain level of sophistication and integration. You don't have to abandon your existing spiritual practice to work with Abraxas. Instead, you can use Abraxas consciousness to deepen and expand whatever path you're already walking. If you're a Christian, about the kingdom of heaven that transcends all worldly categories. If you're Abraxas can illuminate the middle way that avoids the extremes of indulgence and asceticism. If you're following a new age path, Abraxas can ground your spiritual aspirations in the practical wisdom needed for real transformation. Abraxas consciousness is ultimately about spiritual maturity. It's about moving beyond simplistic thinking and embracing the full complexity and mystery of divine reality. Now let's talk about the future of Abraxas consciousness in our evolving world. We're living through a time of unprecedented global transformation. Old structures are breaking down. New possibilities are emerging. Humanity is being called to evolve to a new level of consciousness, or face the consequences of remaining trapped in outdated patterns of thinking and behavior. In this context, Abraxas consciousness offers something unique and valuable. It offers a way of navigating complexity without losing your center, a way of embracing change without abandoning wisdom, a way of transcending limitations without bypassing responsibility. The leaders of the future will be people who can hold multiple perspectives simultaneously, who can find creative solutions that honor competing values, who can bridge differences without compromising their integrity. This is Abraxas consciousness applied to leadership and social transformation. We need people who can see beyond the polarizations that are tearing our world apart, people who can find the deeper unity that connects all apparent enemies, people who can midwife the birth of new forms of human community that honor both individual freedom and collective responsibility. If you feel called to this kind of service, studying and embodying Abraxas consciousness can be invaluable preparation. But remember, this is not just about changing the world. It's about changing yourself. The outer transformation begins with inner transformation. The revolution in consciousness that humanity needs must begin in your own heart and mind. Let's go deeper into the practical applications of Abraxas wisdom. How do you apply this ancient teaching to modern challenges like career decisions, relationship issues, health problems, and creative projects? The key is to approach every situation from the integrated consciousness that Abraxas represents. Instead of thinking in terms of either or, think in terms of both and. Instead of looking for simple solutions, look for creative syntheses that honor multiple values. For example, let's say you're facing a career decision between a high-paying job that doesn't inspire you and a meaningful job that pays very little. The conventional approach is to choose one or the other based on what you value more, security or purpose. The Abraxas approach is to ask, how can I create a situation that honors both my need for security and my need for meaningful work? Maybe that means taking the high-paying job temporarily while building the skills and connections needed for meaningful work. Maybe it means finding ways to bring more meaning to the high-paying work. Maybe it means discovering creative ways to make meaningful work financially sustainable. The point is not to avoid choices, but to approach them with the kind of integrated thinking that often reveals unexpected possibilities. This same principle applies to relationship challenges. Instead of viewing conflicts as battles between right and wrong, view them as opportunities to find deeper levels of understanding and connection. Instead of trying to win arguments, try to understand what valid needs or concerns might be hiding behind apparently unreasonable positions. Instead of demanding that others change, focus on how you can change in ways that inspire positive responses from others. This is Abraxas consciousness in action. It's not about being a doormat or avoiding necessary confrontations. It's about approaching every situation with the wisdom that comes from seeing the bigger picture. Let's explore the connection between Abraxas and creativity. All creative work involves the integration of opposites. You must balance structure with freedom, planning with spontaneity, critical judgment with open receptivity. Many artists and writers struggle with this balance. They get stuck in perfectionism or lost in chaos. They swing between excessive self-criticism and uncritical self-indulgence. Abraxas consciousness offers a different approach to creativity. It suggests that the creative process itself is a spiritual practice, a way of participating in the divine act of bringing new possibilities into manifestation. When you approach your creative work from Abraxas consciousness, you're not just trying to produce something, you're trying to channel something. You're opening yourself to become a vehicle for creative forces that are larger than your personal ego. This requires both receptivity and discrimination. You must be open.
C-Dance 2.5 is now available in 1080p on Artlist.
Enough to receive inspiration, but discerning enough to craft that inspiration into terms that can communicate effectively with others. You must be willing to risk failure, but committed to excellence. You must honor your unique vision, but remain sensitive to the needs and interests of your audience. This is the creative path of Abraxas. It's demanding, but it's also extraordinarily fulfilling because you're not just creating art or literature or music. You're participating in the ongoing creation of reality itself. Now let's address some common misconceptions about Abraxas. First, Abraxas is not Satan or any kind of evil entity. This misunderstanding arose from early Christian polemics against Gnostic teachings. Orthodox Christians couldn't understand a God who transcended their moral categories, so they labeled such concepts as demonic. True, Abraxas consciousness is profoundly ethical, but it's ethical in a more sophisticated way than simple rule following. It's ethical in a way that requires wisdom, compassion, and careful attention to the unique circumstances of each situation. Second, Abraxas is not about moral relativism or anything goes thinking. Transcending dualities doesn't mean ignoring the real differences between helpful and harmful choices. It means making choices from a deeper level of understanding that takes into account the full complexity of each situation. Third, working with Abraxas doesn't require abandoning your existing religious or spiritual beliefs. Abraxas consciousness is more like a meta framework that can enhance and deepen whatever path you're already walking. Finally, Abraxas is not just an intellectual concept or historical curiosity. It's a living spiritual principle that you can experience and embody in your own life. The ancient Gnostics weren't just philosophers. They were practitioners who developed specific methods for accessing and integrating higher states of consciousness. Let's talk about the healing potential of Abraxas consciousness. Many people are suffering from what we might call spiritual fragmentation. They feel torn between competing values, conflicting desires, incompatible roles, and identities. Part of them wants security. Another part wants adventure. Part of them wants to be independent. Another part wants to belong. Part of them wants to be logical. Another part wants to be intuitive. Instead of integrating these different aspects of themselves, they try to eliminate the parts that seem problematic or inconvenient. But this only creates internal conflict and a sense of being incomplete or inauthentic. Abraxas consciousness offers a path. You learn to integrate them as creative tensions to be harmonized. This is deep psychological healing work. It requires courage to face all aspects of yourself, including the parts you'd rather keep hidden. It requires wisdom to find ways of expressing all your different aspects in healthy and constructive ways. But the result is a kind of wholeness that most people never experience. A sense of being fully yourself, completely integrated, authentically powerful. This is the gift that Abraxas offers to anyone willing to do the inner work required to receive it. As we near the end of our journey together, let's reflect on what we've discovered. Curiosity. Abraxas represents a timeless principle of consciousness, as it was 2,000 years ago. In a world that constantly tries to force you into artificial categories and false choices, Abraxas consciousness offers a different way of being, a way of thinking and living that honors the full complexity and richness of existence. It's a consciousness that can see beyond surface-level oppositions to the deeper unity to connect all things. A consciousness that can hold multiple perspectives simultaneously without losing its center. Consciousness that can navigate complete with wisdom and grace. This is not easy work. It requires spiritual maturity, psychological integration, and ethical grounding. It requires the courage to question conventional wisdom, and the wisdom to discern what is truly valuable in unconventional teachings. But for those called to walk this path, it offers extraordinary possibilities for growth, healing, creativity, and service. The world needs people who can transcend the polarizations that are tearing our communities apart. People who can find creative solutions to seemingly impossible problems. People who can hold space for transformation and healing in a world that often feels chaotic and divided. If you felt called to this deeper understanding, if something in this ancient wisdom resonates with your soul, then perhaps you're being invited to explore the Abraxas path more deeply. But remember, this is not about blind belief or uncritical acceptance. This is about experiential knowledge. Testing these principles in the laboratory of your own life and seeing what happens. Start small. Begin with the simple practice of looking for creative syntheses instead of either or choices. When you face a decision or a conflict, ask yourself, how can I honor all the valid concerns at stake here? How can I find a solution that trusts the apparent opposition? Pay attention to the cycles and rhythms in your life. Notice how opposing forces often serve complementary functions. Notice often contain the seeds of their own solutions. Work with the Abraxas meditation I shared earlier. Create your own talisman or sacred symbol. Most importantly, begin to see yourself as a conscious participant in the ongoing creation of reality. You are not separate from the divine creative force that ancient Gnostics called Abraxas. You are an expression of that force, a unique and irreplaceable facet of the cosmic consciousness that is constantly bringing new possibility into manifestation. Your life is not an accident. Your challenges are not meaningless. Your capacity for both creation, destruction, both love and fear, both wisdom and folly. These are not bugs in the system. They are features. They are the raw material from which you can craft a truly extraordinary life. But this requires you to take full responsibility for your own consciousness, to stop being a victim of circumstances and start being a conscious creator of your experience. This is the ultimate teaching of Abraxas, that you already possess everything you need for spiritual transformation and creative fulfillment. You just need to learn how to access and integrate the different aspects of your divine nature. The rooster head of awakened perception, the human torso of conscious choice, the serpent legs of transformative energy, the whip of spiritual authority, the shield of divine protection. All of these exist within you right now, not as metaphors or symbols, but as actual capacities that you can develop and express. This is why the early Christians were so threatened by Gnostic teachings, not because they were false, but because they were true, because they reveal that every human being has direct access to divine consciousness. No priests required, no institutional mediators, no external authorities to grant or withhold permission for your spiritual development. Just you, your willingness to grow, and the infinite creative potential that exists within.
Your time is valuable. You could finish your degree faster and for less with eligible transfer credits at University of Phoenix.
Yeah, we can get them submitted by Monday.
At U-Haul,
But
we know every family moves at your own consciousness. This is both the promise and the challenge of the Abraxas path. It offers extraordinary possibilities, but it demands extraordinary responsibility. It promises authentic spiritual power, but it requires authentic spiritual maturity. Are you ready for this level of spiritual adventure? Are you prepared to release the limitations that have kept you small and safe? Are you willing to embrace the full magnitude of your divine potential? These are the questions that every seeker must ultimately answer for themselves. No one else can make this choice for you. No external authority can permission to become who you truly are. But if you choose to walk this path, if you choose to embody the integrated consciousness that Abraxas represents, you will discover resources within yourself that you never knew existed. You will develop the ability to find creative solutions to problems that seemed impossible. You will learn to navigate complexity without losing your center. You will discover how to hold space for transformation, both in your own life and in the lives of others. You will become a bridge between worlds, a translator between different perspectives, a healing presence in a world that desperately needs healing. This is the deity of Abraxas, not as an ancient god to be worshipped, but as a timeless principle of consciousness to be embodied and expressed. The numerical value of 365, the rhythm of time itself. The endless cycle of death and rebirth, darkness and light, challenge and opportunity. Every day offers you 365 chances to choose integration over fragmentation, wisdom over ignorance, love over fear. Every moment offers you the opportunity to embody the transcendent consciousness that the ancient Gnostics called Abraxas. The choice is yours. The power is within you. The time is now. What will you create with the divine authority that flows through your consciousness? How will you use the spiritual tools that exist within your own being? These are not rhetorical questions. They are invitations to a deeper level of living, invitations to participate consciously in the ongoing evolution of human consciousness. The story of Abraxas is ultimately your story. The mystery of this ancient god is ultimately the mystery of your own divine nature. You are the rooster that heralds the dawn of a new age of human consciousness. You are the conscious mind that can choose to respond to the call of awakening. You are the transformative energy that can shed old patterns and birth new possibilities. You are the spiritual authority that can command and direct the creative forces of the universe. You are the protective shield that can maintain healthy boundaries while remaining open to growth and change. You are Abraxas, not as an external deity to worship, but as an internal reality to embody and express. This is the deepest teaching. This is the ultimate secret. This is the gnosis that the ancient masters died to protect and preserve. You are already what you seek. You already possess what you need. You already contain within yourself the very consciousness that created the stars and planets and set the whole cosmic dance in motion. Your only task is to remember, to awaken, to integrate, to embody, to express, to become fully, authentically, powerfully yourself. This is the gift of Abraxas consciousness. This is the invitation that echoes across 20 centuries of human seeking. Will you accept it? The ancient Gnostics believed that when enough human beings awakened to their divine nature, it would transform the entire world, that the kingdom of heaven was not a distant realm to be entered after death, but a state of consciousness to be embodied here and now. Perhaps they were right. Perhaps the collective awakening of human consciousness is exactly what our world needs at this critical moment in history. Perhaps your individual journey of integration and awakening is not just about your personal fulfillment. Perhaps it's your contribution to the healing and transformation of our entire species. Perhaps by embodying Abraxas consciousness in your own life, you become part of the solution to the seemingly impossible challenges facing humanity. This is the larger context in which the ancient wisdom of Abraxas becomes urgently relevant for our time. We need people who can think beyond dualities, who can find creative syntheses, who can hold space for complexity and transformation. We need the consciousness that Abraxas represents. And that consciousness lives within you. So as we conclude this exploration of one of history's most mysterious and powerful spiritual teachings, remember that this is not an ending. This is a beginning. The beginning of your own deeper investigation into the nature of consciousness, reality, and your place in the cosmic order. The beginning of your own experiential journey into the integrated awareness that can transform both your personal life and your contribution to the world. The beginning of your own embodiment of the timeless wisdom that flows through all authentic spiritual traditions, but which each generation must discover and express in its own unique way. This is your generation's opportunity to rediscover and reintegrate the ancient gnosis, to find new ways of expressing timeless truths, to become conscious participants in the ongoing evolution of human spiritual understanding. The story of Abraxas continues in the story of your own awakening. Write in the comments below what aspect of Abraxas consciousness most resonates with your current spiritual journey, and if this exploration has opened new doorways of understanding for you. Share it with someone else who might be ready for this deeper conversation about the nature of reality and consciousness. The ancient mysteries are alive and present in every moment. The divine consciousness that creates worlds is flowing through you right now. The same creative force that the Gnostics called Abraxas is the force that thinks your thoughts and dreams your dreams. You are not separate from the mystery. You are the mystery, discovering itself through. This is the ultimate teaching of Abraxas. This is the transformation of our world. The dawn is breaking. The rooster is calling. The ancient within your own consciousness. Are you ready to answer the call?
He sees them on the street, he goes to the best and the brightest, and he just shuts them down just by backing them up on their traditions, just backing them up. He always says, let's go to your presuppositions, let's go to where do you source that, where do you source that, where do you source that, and he sources it better than they do. Just by using source criticism, just going back and confronting them on their own traditions, he's able to bring the gospel into it. Michael Jones is one of our best up-and-coming physicists. He is here in America also. In fact, all of these guys, well, I did say U.S. Christians on the top, so these are all Americans here. Michael Jones is very bright, and he's very quick, much brighter, much quicker than I am. These guys are amazing to me, and it's so good to see what we're producing here in America. Tony Costley is our best man in polemics in Canada. Dr. Bernie Power and Samuel Green are our best polemicists in Australia. Dewey Blunt, what can I say about her? She is our tigress of Indonesia. She has 5 YouTube channels, and she takes all of her material, puts it into Indonesia, and she shuts down the Muslim parrot. She debates every Saturday and Sunday with them, and she's bringing hundreds of Christians to Jesus Christ just by using polemics. Others in Africa, we have John Gilchrist out of South Africa. He was the one that really got me into apologetics many, many years ago, and we have worked together. We debated together there. Okay, well, this is a much bigger crowd than I was told. I was said 50 to 100. You are not supposed to be coming out. I understand you don't usually come out in the evenings. This is something that's abnormal. Am I correct? Well, bless you. Thank you for coming. And I'm glad that you want to talk about this subject. And this is the area that I have been asked to speak on, primarily because we are in the West, and Islam is changing the West. And Islam is not a religion that's over there. It's very much here. And for those of you who don't know who I am, Judy, why don't you stand up? This is my wife, Judy. So Judy and I have been working in the Islamic world for almost 45 years. So we are the old codgers. We are in our 70s, and we're still going full tilt. I don't plan to retire, just to refire. And the reason why is because Islam is changing, and they're changing what's happening in the West. Islam, by virtue of its DNA, is a religion that does not assimilate in other cultures. And you're probably seeing that here in the United States. Judy and I spent 25 years in London, and we were asked to go to London because there was a radicalization amongst the Muslims in London that was causing a huge amount of problem back in the 1990s. Judy and I had been in West Africa. Judy grew up in Africa. I grew up in India, so we're both Mish kids. I'm a third-generation Mish kid, missionary kid. My grandfather was the one that started our work for the Brethren in Christ there in India, in a place called Bihar. My father was born there. He went back with my mother. I was born there. Both my sisters were born there. So I'm third-generation Mish kid. And Judy, her father and mother were from Kenya. Tanzania first, then Kenya. So she grew up in that part of the world, two completely different countries, but we have lots of commonalities. And we met at Messiah College, just down the road. Good place to meet. It's where a lot of women get their MRS degree. Fortunately, my wife got a nursing degree there, and I got another degree, but we're not dating or anything there. My great-grandfather started Messiah College, so I'm a descendant of S.R. Smith. And so this is, in some ways, though I'm not from Pennsylvania, growing up in India, both my parents are from California, we now come back to Pennsylvania because this is where our roots are. And we're just about an hour and a half down the road, so it's not too far away from you. Dillsburg, Pennsylvania, if any of you know where Dillsburg is, that's where we are. So we come, and we were asked to go to Africa first, because we decided to work with Muslims back in the 1980s. 83. Was it 83, Judy? I think we went to a seminar in it was at Westminster Seminary here in Philadelphia on Islam, much like what I'm doing tonight. And people were trying to understand what was happening in Islam. And we were told at that time, I didn't want to go to the Islamic world. I had grown up amongst Muslims all my life. I had Muslim roommates. I had Muslim schoolmates. They were the last people in the world that I really cared about because they're so aggressive. And I had spent most of my time arguing with them. And I was so glad to leave India, to leave Islam behind me, come to America, go to Messiah College, and nothing to do with Islam. It was so good because Pennsylvania is about as far away as you can get from Islam back then in the 1980s. We went to this seminar and we were told about Islam. I really wasn't that interested until I heard the numbers. And we were told that there were 800 million Muslims in the world. Now, how do you compute a number like that? Too big. The next two numbers, though, I could. Because then they said that there were only 1,500 missionaries working amongst these 800 million Muslims. And that the 1,500 only made up 5% of all missionaries. And that was like a slap in my face. I turned towards Judy and I said, what in the world are we doing wrong? Here is the fastest growing religion on earth, the religion that is attacking us at our foundations, and we're only sending 5% of our missionary force to engage with them. And that changed my experience. I didn't have a love for Muslims at that time. In fact, if anything, I had a hatred for Muslims because of all the enormous debate. But the Lord was preparing me at that time in India for what I'm doing today. Because in India, I grew up in the north. And my school was at 500 feet above the dormitories where so I had to run up to school to get to school. If I lost something, I had to run back down and ran back up again. And so I had huge lungs. I've got 5-liter lungs. I kid you not. I only need 3.5 liters. So I got a liter just for what the Lord is calling me to do. In fact, what I just did the last 3 weeks in Germany. I just got back from Germany doing what the Lord's called me to do. So what is it that you're saying? Well, we're going to get to that. But obviously, we were asked to go, and we were in a place called West Africa, a place called Senegal. Do you all know where Senegal is on the map? Very few of you. That's exactly my problem, too. I didn't even know it was on the map when we were told to go there. No one wants to go to Senegal because you have to learn 2 different languages. You have to learn French, and then you have to learn Wolf. Well, French was bad enough, and we went to Paris to learn French. That was not too bad. But Wolf, where do you go to school to learn Wolf? There is no school. So we kind of had to learn by the seat of our pants. And that engaged the first real Muslims we had ever come across, because 97% of Senegal is Islamic. It's on the west coast of Africa. But it's not the Islam that I had grown up with. And by that time, I had 2 master's degrees, one on divinity, and the other one actually was on apologetics, on defend against the faith, against others attacking us. But never, even in the master's degree, I never had anybody teach me how to defend against Muslims. It was always against the atheists and the humanists, the cosmological argument, all of these teleological arguments, these great arguments against what the humanists were throwing at us, or the Mormons or the Jehovah's Witnesses, but nothing about Islam. Isn't that interesting? And when we were told to be going to the Muslim world because of this seminar I went to, when I heard those 3 numbers, I went to my mission board. I said, send us to the Muslim world. They said, we don't have any work in the Muslim world. And that was symptomatic of most missions at that time, in the 1980s. So I went off to Fuller Seminary in California to learn about Islam under Dr. Dudley Woodbury. And there we got radical, what I would call Orthodox Islam, a very Orthodox form of Islam. The Islam that you have heard about, but you've never really experienced here in America yet. And this is the Islam of the Quran. This is the Islam of Muhammad himself. This is the Islam that you have been taught to believe exists. The difficulty is, how many of you have ever read the Quran? Show of hands. In English. Did you understand it? Did it make much sense to you? Were there any complete stories in it? Did one story follow another? Bingo, there's the problem. It's not like your Bible, is it? You can understand your Bible, can't you? One story about, I'm going to call you Abdul, okay? You're going to be Abdul tonight. Since you know so much about Islam, and you're going to be Amina, okay? And I'm going to use you back and forth. I'll just throw questions at you. Just say yes to everything I say, all right? So here was the problem. I was learning this very orthodox, radical form of Islam that is the Islam of Muhammad himself, the Islam that you are taught when you go to school, when you go to seminary, when you go to university. This is the Islam that we are told exists. But here in Senegal, I was not seeing this Islam. This was a Sufi form of Islam. Abdul, do you know what Sufi form of Islam is? No, you don't. Okay, that's because you're an Orthodox Muslim. Just say yes. Sufi Islam is much like our charismatics, I guess. It's an Islam that is much more personal. It's an Islam that is nothing that's based on a book and a man. It's an Islam that's based on your pir, or your confrérie, or your brotherhood. Your confrérie means brotherhood. And it's based on your serinya, the man who is in charge. And it was his writings that you read, not necessarily the Quran. And so therefore, it was much more of a subjective form of Islam. Not the Islam that I was used to. And then I got a phone call about 5 years after we were there in Senegal, and we started the first Wolof speaking church in our front room. We were asked, could you come and help us in a place called London, England? I looked on the map. I said, hold on, London, England's not in the Muslim world. It's not in the 1040 window. Am I right, Abdul? 1040 window. That's where the Muslim world is, right? London's way up here. I said, why do you want me in London? They said, because we're coming across, as we go in the doors in London, we're coming across about 1 million Muslims living in London, and they are all very Orthodox Muslims. And these are Muslims from Bangladesh and India and Pakistan. My radar right up. These are my Muslims. These are the Muslims that I grew up with. These are the Muslims I want to engage with. And they're asking us questions about our Bible, and they're asking us questions about Jesus Christ, and we don't know how to answer these questions. I said, well, God bless them. They're asking the right questions, aren't they? Talking about Islam. They were talking about the Trinity. They were talking about the Christology of Jesus. They were talking about the authority of Scriptures. These are the kind of questions they ask in Asia, not in the Middle East. So I said, send me to London. So Judy and I went to London. We got there in 1992. And we were the first ones really that understood what was going on, that I could see anywhere in Britain. We could find that there was a huge growing radicalism there happening in London, but most of the British churches weren't aware of it, didn't understand what was happening to their own country. And I was told that the best place to read radical Muslims is a place called Speaker's Corner. How many of you know what Speaker's Corner is? How many have been to Speaker's Corner? Okay, none of you. You have. Have you been to when I'm there? Shame on you. Next there, okay? Speaker's Corner is the place where they would execute all the prisoners every Sunday, back in the 1700s and in the 1800s. It's right there at Hyde Park, right there at Marble Arch. They have Tyburn tree. They would execute them by hanging them on the Tyburn tree. And before they had the executions, the people that were going to be executed, they would have their last defense. And they would get up on these little soapboxes. And they would try to defend themselves. It never worked. They still got executed. But the soapboxes were still there. And the crowds were there because this was the only entertainment they had all week long. There was no television or radio or newspapers back then. They would come on Sunday afternoons to watch the executions. And of course, the crowds were still there. So people would get up on the boxes and start preaching and start teaching and start debating. And this became a weekly event and became Speaker's Corner, a place to speak. It still exists today. 200 to 300 years later, it's still there every Sunday. And it's really the bastion of freedom of speech. You can say anything you want at Speaker's Corner. You can deny the Holocaust at Speaker's Corner. And you can also confront Islam at Speaker's Corner. So I made a beeline for Speaker's Corner. I wanted to see where these guys were. And what I was told is they had taken over the corner, and that is true. In the mornings, you see a lot of Christians there to get up on the. Now we don't use soapboxes. We use these little kitchen ladders that you have in your kitchen. These little A-frame ladders only have 2 steps, just so your head can be above the crowd. And then we would get up there, and you would see all these ladders, one ladder after another. In the morning, there would be always Christians who should be in church, and they were all yelling and screaming about how you must be washed by the blood of the Lamb, and no one understood a word they said. But then came the homosexuals, and then came the liberals, and then came the libertarians, and then came the Nation of Islam. All these different groups started taking over the ladders, and the sociologists came. And then about 3 o'clock in the afternoon, the Muslims started to show up. Once the Muslims started to show up, everybody left. No one wanted to be there when the Muslims were there. Why? Because the Muslims don't just speak; they actually attack. They beat you up if you say something they like. Isn't that true? You know what I'm talking about. You've done it many times. This is great. I should take it with me everywhere. You're perfect for the job. I hope people don't know you here because I know that you're a Fani night guy, but today you're Muslim, all right? You're Abdul, my friend. And so starting in 1992, I started going down there on a weekly basis. And Judy, remember the first time I went down? I came home bruised and battered, not physically, but emotionally. I was destroyed. I had never seen these kind of Muslims. I had never heard these kind of attacks. They didn't have Qurans in their hands. They had Bibles in their hands. And had little post-it notes all the way through, different colors. But the internal contradictions, the historical anachronisms, the scientific errors, all these things that I'd never been taught. How many of you are taught that in Bible school? How many of you are taught that in seminary? Chris, were you taught that when you went to school? Where's Chris? He's hiding way at the back. Chris, come up to the front. You're going to be my Christian, okay? Abdul's my Muslim. You're going to be my Christian. Sit right over here. He has no idea what he's in for. Oh, come on back. So, Chris, were you taught these kind of things in Bible school? Oh, he's too good. Why did you get a guy like him for the church here? You need someone to sit back down there, Chris. Okay, this is not a typical pastor. Most pastors I read, when I talk to, they say, no, I don't know what you're talking about, Jay. Because most pastors are not taught how to answer these kind of questions. Am I right, Chris? And that's true. We are not taught how to answer. These are simple questions, aren't they? How could 1 + 1 + 1 = 1? That's a good question. That's the Trinity right there. If God was eternal, then how can he enter time and space and become finite? If he's infinite, how can infinite become finite? That's a great question. Where in the Bible does it ever say, I am God? If it was, I'll become a Christian like you. These are good questions, folks. How can you say you have a scripture that is authoritative if you don't even have the earliest manuscripts, whereas we do it for the Quran? So these are the kind of questions I was getting at. But then there was all these historical anachronisms, these stuff. And I came back to Judy and I was reading, so I don't want to ever go back down there. But you don't know my wife. She's only 5 foot. Boy, can she throw a tantrum. She said, you get out. I don't forget this. She threw me out the next Sunday and said, you get back on the ladder again and take a little notebook with you and just write down all these questions and then find the answers. Now, there was no internet back there. There was no Google. We had nothing like that to be able to defend ourselves. And so I had to learn by the seat of our pants. And I just went back to my old commentaries and went back and wrote a lot of letters. And I found out every week that I would just learn my apologetics week by week by week by answering all these questions. Great questions. And what you're going to find, isn't this right, Abdul, that everything that you care about has to do with 2 themes, Jesus and the Bible. Isn't that interesting? Only the Muslims ask questions on these 2 themes. The atheists don't. The humanists don't. You go to anybody outside this church and you say, I believe in Jesus Christ and I believe the Bible is the word of God. And they'll probably turn around and have nothing more to say to you, or they may have something that's not very pleasant as they're walking away. But not Muslims. You say those 2 things to a Muslim and they say, let's go have some tea. Let's have some coffee. They may have 6 hours of questions. God bless them. They are the best people to work with. I hope you really get enthused to work with Muslims because they want to talk about the things I want to talk about. They want to talk about the things you want to talk about. Jesus Christ and his word. So that's where it all started back every Sunday. And we were the first to do it. We were the first to actually get up on a ladder and actually use apologetics. I realized that I was defending. I was never going the other direction. I was never going on the offense. Not, right? Oh, sure. One over here. Okay, all right. You're Philadelphia. All right. You're Philly Eagles fans, right? On the Eagles team, don't you have 2 different teams? Every team, you have a defense and offense, right? They're completely different skills, right? They're never on the time. And your defense is important, aren't they? Because they keep the others from scoring. And they're the ones that don't win the games, but they make sure the others don't win the game. Defense is called apologetics in Christianity. That's what we call apologetics. And everything that I have been taught is defense. Always was defense. But you don't win games just with defense. You need the offense too. In fact, didn't Vince Lombardi say the best defense is a good offense? So the best defense means you've got to go the other direction and make sure that they defend. Now that's called polemics. How many of you knew that word before tonight? Just a handful of you. I just taught you a brand new word. There you go, Chris. Now that's going to be a lot easier for you. So polemics is offense. Apologetics is defense. Offense, defense. But we're told never to use offense. We're told never, ever confront Muhammad. Am I right? Never confront the Quran. Because that is very offensive to Muslims. That we're told only to love and use reconciliation. Am I correct? That's all we're ever told to do. And that's true. We are to love the Muslims. Please don't get me wrong. Muslims. They start coming through the love that you've given. But at some point, they're going to have to understand. They're going to have to understand what they're coming through too. And at some point, you're going to have to introduce Jesus Christ, crucified and risen. That's when the polemics comes in. Because once you introduce Jesus as God, that's going to be the most polemical thing a Muslim has ever heard. You're going to start getting some reaction from them. Muslims will not accept that Jesus is God. Absolutely no Muslim. I don't care who they are. They will not accept that. And when you say that God died on the cross, Allah died on the cross, heinous. That's usually highly confrontational. Yet that's exactly what we're taught to see. That's exactly what we're taught to do. That's exactly what we're taught to say. And you have to preach the gospel. At some point, the gospel's got to get in. At some point, you're going to have to introduce Jesus. And at some point, you're going to have to introduce the Bible. And that's where polemics starts. But that's only polemics confronting what they believe about God. At some point, you're going to have to go to the next step. And that's where it really gets dangerous. At some point, you're going to have to confront the Quran. And you're going to have to confront Muhammad. The book of the man. That's what I call it. It's my term. And I use it now. Everybody's using it. I was one that started that because really, when you look, we were talking in dinner tonight, we're so close to it because we both start from the same paradigm. And they are absolutely dependent on that book and that man. And you see why we're so similar to them. And yet we're so different. because our book is so much different than theirs. And our man, there is no comparison between our man and theirs. So at some point, you're going to have to confront that book and that man. And that's what we're not teaching. That's called polemics. And that's what I do. I'm a polemicist. I'm the only one in the world right now that has a PhD in Islamic polemics. You're looking at it. Me. Don't be laughing. This is sad. Why in the world is there only one PhD in Islamic polemics? There should be thousands of people like me. Hundreds, tens, thousands, millions. We should be confronting Islam and its foundations, and yet we're doing nothing. We are scared to death to use polemics. I just got back from Germany. Went to 5 different cities. I was asked to come by all the street preachers that are there. The street preachers in Germany are not only German, they're usually Chaldeans and Arameans. And they're in Germany, and they're training up the Germans on how to defend the gospel, how to preach the gospel. And as they're on the streets doing street preaching in Hamburg and in Berlin, in Hanover, they're in Stuttgart, up in Frankfurt, the only people who are engaging with them are Muslims. None of the Germans want to talk to them. The Muslims do. And they said, Jay, we need your help. Because all we can do is preach the gospel, but they're throwing all kinds of questions at us. We have no idea what to do. Can you please help us? So I just went to Germany, and I went from city to city to city, and I said, I want 2 things. I want a ladder, and I want a microphone. Give me a ladder. I need to get a ladder. So I get my head above the parapet, and give me a microphone with some speakers, and let's go at it. And I've been training them up on how to use polemics. Oh, we've had a great time. It's the first time the polemics has ever been used against Muslims in Germany. They like it so much they're asking me to go back next month to Frankfurt, and then I'm going to Amsterdam, then I'm going to Britain. I'm going all over Europe to try to train people how in the world to confront the Muslims because they're in our countries. And we have all the freedom in the world to defend Jesus Christ, and yes, to confront Muhammad, to defend the Bible, and to confront the Quran. We must not give up that freedom, folks, because we have the best book in the world, and they have a hopeless book. We've got the best man in the world, and I want nothing to do with Muhammad. But you've got to say that publicly. We've got to get out in the front, and we've got to make sure that we save Europe, because Europe is being taken over by Islam. Just watch the news, and you'll see what's happening. Let me just go ahead and talk a little bit. That's an introduction to what I do and why I'm here and why Chris asked me to come here. And here's my cousin over here, Paul Morgan. Why don't you stand up? His daughter and son go to this church. Did you know that? Ruth and Bob, right? Is your daughter and son. So when they heard that I was here, he decided to show up. Good to see you, cousin. He's the only one I know here, so that's why I wanted him to stand up, because you're all different. You're foreign. I feel right at home. So let's go ahead and let's ask the problem. Here's the problem. And to do that, I'm going to look at some maps. Now, what you have been the maps, let's look at this first. When you look at this, notice where Islam is. This is 2009, so this is out of date. Christianity is still the largest religion, but Islam is catching up. It's soon to go over 2 billion. In 20 years, it will surpass Christianity as the largest religion on earth. We're doing nothing to stop it. Or that's not quite true. We're doing very little to stop it. If you want to break down of where the world's religion are, I wanted to show you. Here's the 1040 window. This is where I thought that I should be spending my time, because the 1040 window is the least reached area in the world. So that's the 10th and 40th parallel. Notice it's all green there with a little bit of blue, but most all of it is green. Green is Islam. So Islam dominates the most unreached. That's the kind of map you get. So when you look at a map, where do you think the largest part of Islam is? Africa and the Middle East, am I correct? And that's every map that you've ever seen. And the reason for that is those are not where the Muslim population is. You see the difference? So those have the highest percentage of Muslims, which tend to be 90 to 92 to 95% of the population is Muslim. So you can be forgiven for thinking that the Muslim world is North Africa and the Middle East. How many people believe that that's the largest part of the Muslims in the world? So how many people know where the largest area of Muslims are? Where? Indonesia? Okay. What's number 2? Getting hundreds of questions. That's not the right way to do it. Let me give you an idea. So how many people believe that Africa has the largest amount of Muslims? Raise your hand. Okay, a few of you. How many people that Europe has the largest number of Muslims? Wow, quite a few of you. Okay. How many people believe that the Middle East has the highest? And when I say Middle East, I mean the whole Arab-speaking world. So that's what you see on the map. North Africa and the Middle East. Okay, I've kind of jumped the gun on this. So that's why you're not putting your hands up, because the vast majority of people would put that. Okay, here's your last option. How many people believe Asia has the largest number of Muslims? You're the ones that are correct. Islam is not in the Middle East. A very small minority of Muslims live in the Middle East. Only 15% of all Muslims live in the Middle East. You've not heard this before, have you? 15%. And yet when you look at maps like this is the lie that these maps give. Because this is what the maps I see all over America and all over Europe. That all the Muslims live in the Middle East. Therefore, all of our ministries, all of our work is done in the Middle East. That's why you send all your missionaries to the Middle East. Yes. Everywhere I go, conference after conference here in America, it's all about the Middle East, the Arab-speaking world. Folks, here's another map. This is another map that you see, which is very much the same problem. And here's another map. Until you look at the lines, look at the population numbers at the very top. You can't see what they are. They're too small. Let me help you. Look at the top 4 Muslim countries population-wise. Indonesia, 240 million Muslims. India, 220 million Muslims. 210 million Muslims. Bangladesh, 195 million Muslims. The entire Arab-speaking world only has 250 million Muslims. You see the problem? The Arab-speaking world is the smallest part of Islam. Show me one debater, one name from an Arab-speaking name that is Shabir Ali, Indian, though he lives in France. Anand Rashid, one of the best debaters. He's from Pakistan. Zakir Naik, he's from Bombay, India. Ahmed Deedat, probably the greatest one in the last century. He's from Gujarat, India. They're all from my country, in Pakistan, in India. All the greatest debates. I've debated almost all of them. I've not debated Zakir Naik, he won't debate me. Shabir Ali, I've debated 6 times. Anand Rashid, probably 20 times. The best debaters in the world are all from the Indian subcontinent. And they all speak English, because they were all colonized by Britain. So their entire educational system is in English. India alone, where I grew up, there are 33 different languages. You can't have 33 different kinds of textbooks in every state. So there's no neutral language there. You can't have it in Hindi. They tried to make it in Hindi. They had riots. Hundreds of people were killed. So they finally said, okay, we'll go back to the colonial language, English. And that's why everything is done in English. In Pakistan, in India, in Bangladesh, it's all done in English. And that's why they're way ahead of the rest of the world. You just say, and we'll get into these statistics as we go. So let's take a look. When you want to look at a map, you need to look at this map. This is the map you need to look at, because that's the map that shows you where the largest Muslim populations are. Not percentage-wise, because in India, there are only 220 million Muslims, but there are 800 million Hindus. So they're a minority. And they're all in the north, where I grew up. Asia Pacific has almost 1 billion Muslims. Those 4 countries are the largest 4 countries on Muslim countries on earth. Indonesia, India, Pakistan, and Bangladesh. There you can see it in a pie graph. Here you can see that notice where the largest circles are located. They're all mostly in Asia. The only other one that's outside of Asia would be Nigeria. So when you look at the demography of Islam worldwide, 1.9 billion. The number 1, Indonesia, 240 million. Then comes India, 220 million. Followed by Pakistan, 210 million. Followed by Bangladesh, 185 million. Guess what number 5 is? It's not an Arab-speaking country. It's Nigeria, 106. Muslims. That's why I'm in Nigeria every year. I go every October just to help the church there because they are losing their country to Islam. If you have been watching the news, did you know that 83% of all Christians killed worldwide last year were killed in Nigeria? And yet no one's saying anything about it. If Black Lives Matter, why don't those Black Lives matter? You see a problem here, folks. No one's caring about the thousands upon thousands of Muslims who are being, Christians who are being killed only by Muslims. Only by Muslims. Oh, you get a little bit here, a little bit there in the news. Folks, I've got to go to Nigeria to help the church out because they are flailing. They are losing the battle. And they're soon to be dominated. The president of Nigeria is a Muslim. The prime minister, the vice president, most of the Senate is now Muslim. The judiciary has become Muslim. Most of the military generals are now Muslim. Once you get the presidency, once you get the politics, once you get the Senate, once you get the judiciary, once you get the military, it becomes a Muslim country. Islam always starts with politics. It then goes into the financial sector. People don't realize they do not do missionaries like we do missionaries. They do not talk about theology. They take over all the power structures of every society. Why do you think Syria and Lebanon and Iraq, those were all Christian countries? No longer are they Christian countries. Not because of missionary activity. It's because they took over all the power structures. And the only country that's been able to retain its identity is Israel. And to a lesser extent, Egypt, with 10%, they're still there, but only 10%. But they don't control much, even in their own future. So when you look at the 962 million non-Arab Muslims, this is the area that no one wants to talk about. Asia, almost 1 billion Muslims, more than half the Muslim world, and our tactics and strategies must reflect this. Now, unfortunately, most of what we've done missiologically has only been geared towards the Arab-speaking world. And the Arab-speaking world only makes up that little circle there. All of our missiology has been geared towards the Arab-speaking world, which makes up only 50% of all Muslims. We need to change our missiology to reflect the much larger 85% of the Muslims in the world today. Everywhere I go, here in the United States and in Europe, whenever I go to a conference, it's always the Arabs, the Arabs, the Arabs. All their testimonies are from Arabs. And everything I've ever heard about is you must use the ironical approach, which means love and reconciliation. That's all I've ever heard. You never, ever use anything but love. Friendship, you call it friendship evangelism. Some people call it the grace method. There are many different ways to call it. But that's all we've been taught because everybody that's in our Bible schools and everybody that's in our seminaries are missionaries who've been in the Arab world, who have come back with that methodology, and they're completely controlling all of our educational systems here with only one paradigm, and that's what we call the ironic method. Now, when you look at dawah, dawah is the Muslim equivalent to our missiology. Western dawah, if you look, I'm not talking about Eastern dawah, I'm not talking about Africa, I'm talking about Western dawah. When you look at what is happening, what Muslims are doing around the world, you need to go and look at this organization, IERA, Islamic Education Research Academy, the largest and the highest funded Muslim academy that does missiology all over the Western world. And they're the ones that I have to engage with. And they're headquartered in London. And they have over $2.5 million budget just to send dais. Dais means missionaries to bring Christians to Islam. They're headed up by this man, Abdul Rahim Green. He's an Englishman who a diplomat in Britain, was in Egypt when he was converted to Islam. He has come back as a Muslim, and now he is controlling much of the era of their academy. Hamza Torches, I've debated the Green 3 times. Hamza Torches, I've debated 5 times. He recruits thousands, sorry, not 5 times, 3 times. He recruits thousands in public places, big events, training schools across Europe and now worldwide. They're actively doing what they call street dawah, using book tables and public debates. They're producing slick, modern Islamic material, and almost everything they produce is polemical against Christianity, almost entirely against us. Not against the West, not against humanists, not against atheists. They're all attacking Christianity. There's a reason for that. Anand Rashid, he's a historian. And he teaches dawah everywhere around the world. Anytime I go to I was in 12, they've been there before me, or he comes right after me. He follows in my footsteps. Abdullah Al-Andalusi is doing in the Arab world. Paul Williams used to be an evangelical Christian. He's one of their best debaters. He converted to Islam, and he is a homosexual, and yet he is debating all over Britain. Sami Zaatari is from Dubai, from United Arab Emirates. English. These guys we have to pay attention to. So what has been our response in the West? What have we done? Well, when you look at our response, when I say I mean the Western's response, the government's response is to try to eradicate radical Islam, or what we call Orthodox Islam, using repressive laws internally or using the barrel of the gun externally, like what happened with 9/11, of course, what happened with ISIS, and what Boko Haram and Lashkar-e-Taiba, probably the largest radical Muslim group in the world, using repressive laws, or they want to ban them. I'm not going to get into all of these because they would take hours just to unpack them all. But this is what we have been doing. The Zaytana Institute here in the United States, headed up by Sheikh Hamza Yusuf, wants to reform Islam and sanitize it for the West. So you hear his speeches, he doesn't talk about radical Islam. He just talks about how great Islam is and how peaceful it is and how the Quran is a book of peace, how Muhammad is a man of peace, and how, of course, Muslims are people of peace. But he never ever quotes scripture. He never ever goes to the example of the Prophet Muhammad himself. And most Americans believe everything he's saying. Now, when Chris gets up here on a Sunday morning, does he ever open up the Bible? Well, you pass that test. Does he read from it? Does he then apply it to your lives? And if he didn't, you probably say he you anymore, right? Because you don't care dilly squat about his opinion. You want to know what the Bible's saying, right? You want to follow what scripture is saying. And that's what we demand of our pastors. The same thing happens in Islam. So when you have a guy like Sheikh Hamza Yusuf who never quotes scripture and never ever opens up the Quran because he knows he cannot quote from it because there's too many verses that would be problematic, you can see the problem he's going to have. He's not going to be acceptable here in the United States. And that's why you're not really getting true Islam here. You're not hearing that because no one's ever quoting it. Then there are those who want to ignore like the media and much of the church and most missiologists. I don't know how many people have come up to me in missions say you're wasting your time. Why are you working with radical Muslims? Just work with people of peace. Have you heard that one? Find people of peace. Disciple making ministries. Look for people of peace. And when you find a person of peace, then God is going to use you to bring them. They may start off peaceful, but they quickly change. Once I start going polemic, it really changes almost immediately. Or they want to, they're a good friend of mine, probably the most radical Muslim in Britain. Sheikh Muhammad Muhammad was his teacher. Sheikh Muhammad Muhammad was a good friend of mine. He was the one that started the Hadrun Party, the most radical group in Britain. They sent 2,000 young men and women to join ISIS in 2014. They had another 2,000 on their way to get up at the border, and they're now in prison. So they indoctrinated 4,000 young men and women, many of them who I knew personally. Sheikh Muhammad Muhammad. He was finally evicted out of Britain, sent back to Syria, and he was killed there in Syria. But Anjan Chowdhury is his #1 man. He is British. He is not Syrian. And he's in and out of prison all the time. And that's what government's trying to do is trying to keep him in prison as much as possible, trying anything that they can find wrong with him because they don't want him to speak. The problem is, it doesn't matter where you are, you can speak because of the internet. Or you have the insider group, and I'm not going to get into that tonight, but that is the group that wants to join Islam, stay inside Islam, and not bring people out of Islam, to remain in Islam, to continue to pray, go to the mosque, and to do the shahada. And then there's those who want to confront it like myself, using tough love, practiced by Jesus, his disciples, and the early church. Now, what's been the church's response? Those are the world's response. The church's response, well, most missiological models are based on either two of these approach, which is over here, or the confrontational approach. Now, the ironic approach, let's start with that. That starts from the premise that you want to use friendship and interfaith dialogue. And the idea from the ironic standpoint is that Islamic violence is simply an aberration, practiced by a few due to geopolitical problems. Therefore, when you see radical Islam, it's because of the problem of Israel in 1948. It's the problem of Iraq, Afghanistan, now the problem of Gaza. Therefore, these are political problems. If these are political problems, they have nothing to do with Christianity. Our
our problems, therefore let the politicians deal with them. That's how you then eradicate them or confront them. Solutions solve these geopolitical problems. The government's responsibility is to do that, therefore have nothing to do with the radicals. Just stay away from them. They're a waste of your time. That's what I'm hearing all the time from the Iranical approach. And what's the church's responsibility? To listen to the Muslims' grievances, address them with a repentant spirit, give them a voice through the vehicle of interfaith dialogues, use peace and reconciliation, and refrain from any form of public confrontation. And this is what I've been told. This is what I have been brought up with. This is what you're all told. This is the only really paradigm that you're ever given on all of your teaching that's here in the United States, the Iranic approach. Iranic means it's from the word irene, which is in Greek for peace, the peaceful approach. The confrontational model, which I belong to, starts from a different premise, that Islamic violence is not an aberration. If you look at the Quran, it's all through the Quran. Verse after verse after verse. There's 160 verses that are full of violence in the Quran. In fact, as I said at the dinner table tonight, show me one verse on peace, that a Muslim's to have peace with me, a Christian. I've asked this for 45 years. Show me one verse in the Quran that says you're to have peace with me. Oh, I've debated this. I've had to debate this all over Britain because no one else will debate it. I'm one of the few that can because I'm a pacifist. We're coming to the Brethren in Christ. We're Mennonites, so we understand the peace position better than probably anybody else. But this is something that most Americans and Europeans don't understand. If you look at the history of Islam, you've got to start with Muhammad. And you've got to see what he did when people confronted him. Like Asma bin Marwan, who is the poetess there in Medina. When he moved, she wrote a poetic verse against him. He said, who's going to take care of this woman for me? Umar, his disciple, goes that night and plunges a sword through her heart. Comes back the next morning and tells Muhammad what he had done. Muhammad turns towards him and says, blessed are you for what you have done for your prophet. That's their model. You cannot even use poetic verse against Muhammad. It's a capital offense. If you have any doubt what Muhammad did, just look and see what he did with the Jews in Medina. The Banu Qanuqa family, the Banu Dia family, the Banu Qurayza family, the three Jewish were there in Medina, had been there for hundreds of years. Muhammad wasn't even from Medina, he was from Mecca. He only been there 2 years when he introduced the Constitution of Medina, which stipulated that he was to be the arbiter between man and God. No Jew would sign that. I would not sign that. You would not sign that. So he confronted the Banu Qanuqa family through the matter after the battle of Uhud. He then confronted the Banu Qanuqa family through the Khaybar after the battle of Nadir. And then finally after the battle of the trenches, he took all of the 800 men of the Banu Qurayza family and slit their throats in one afternoon. Took all the children as slaves and the women as concubines for his men. By 627, remember he only got there in 622. By 627, within 5 years, there were no Jews left in Medina. Now I have a word for that. That's called genocide. How many have heard this before? Is this the first time you're hearing it? Yet every Muslim who has studied the life of the Prophet knows these stories. If that is their paradigm, why is it you should be surprised at what they're doing around the world? Thank God we have Jesus. What a paradigm to follow. Would never let us use any violence. And the one time that the disciples tried to defend him as he was being arrested there in the Garden of Gethsemane, when Peter coughed the ear, Jesus took that ear towards Peter and said, throw away your sword. For he who lives by the sword dies by the sword. That's my paradigm. That's my model. We're not even supposed, not allowed to use any weapons of this world, as Paul says. We do not use weapons of this world. Verse 5, we use arguments and take captive every thought and make it obedient to Jesus Christ. Here's Paul, who was right there when Stephen was being stoned to death, holding the stone, the clothes of those who were stoning him, on his way to Damascus to kill the Christians who would not come back with it in change. He had killed Christians, and God, in a dynamic way, made him from Saul to Paul. Here's Paul saying, we use arguments. We do not. He never used the sword after that. Thank God for Jesus. Thank God. But see, we have to confront Muslims with that. So for the confrontational model, now before we do that, I just want to say that we do know that Islam has been around, violence has been around in Islam from the very beginning, from the time that the Prophet used it, there in Medina, with Asma bin Marwan, there against the Jews. And from that time on, as that model was used for 1400 years, everywhere Islam has, and it always uses violence, because they know that they win by the sword. Even to geopolitical flare-ups, Islam has always used violence, legitimized by passages in the Quran, like chapter 9, verse 5, slay the unbeliever wherever you find them, besiege them, lay in wait for them with every kind of ambush. That's in the Quran. Chapter 8, verse 39, slay the unbeliever until they give allegiance to Allah, until we all become under Allah. Am I right, Abdul? Just say yes to everything I'm saying. Is and what unbeliever is. When you come to verse 4, it says, cut in Tikrit, in Mosul. Did you see what they were doing with the Christians? They then hung them on crosses with their hands and feet cut off on opposite ends. Where do you think that comes from? That comes from chapter 5, verse 33. For those who stand against Allah and his prophet and create mischief in the land, crucify them and cut off their hands and feet on opposite ends. For I'm just reading scripture to you. This is the Quran. Where is this idea that this is a book of peace? It's hard to listen to, isn't it? Yet this is what we're up against. And these are what the Muslims look to as their authority. And they open up the Quran on a Friday, just like Chris opens up the Bible on a Sunday. And when Chris opens up the Bible, you listen, don't you? And you obey. They do the same thing to the Quran. And if they're going to do that to the Quran, then be ready for them to apply what they read. Because not only does the Quran tell them, so does Muhammad tell them to do that. So from a confrontational model, the solution is to confront the ideology at its root. In other words, we have to confront that revelation. We've got to confront the Quran. I'm not here to confront Muslims. I love them. Why would I want to confront them? They're the best people in the world. They're my favorite people. I spent 45 years. Would I spend my whole life trying to bring them home if I didn't love them? It's what that book does to them. And it's what the Prophet Muhammad does to them. That's why I spend all my time confronting that book and that man. I've got to confront that book. Because look what that book has done. Look what it's doing to the world right now. And look what Muhammad's done to us. So therefore, in the church, we are the only ones who can confront Islam's foundation historically, because we stand it better than anyone else, since we have had to go through the same experience. We are the only ones who have had our book attacked. Back in the 1800s in Germany. When I was just there 2 weeks ago, well, first thing I did when I got up on the ladder, I said, folks, you want to know why I'm here on the ladder? Because God bless you Germans, you introduced historical criticism. You were the ones that invented redacted criticism and source criticism and form criticism,